that we're really going to find out about Pennsylvania and Ohio, and they're.
I'm back and I
These are all
started.
too close. These are all too close for comfort. So I think.
So
So
we took an hour break basically. I took an hour
I'm
break.
gonna update
Ohio
you.
is not too close for comfort.
Trump
Stephen,
is
not a swing
basically
state.
Stephen, you
confirmed
spend more
to win
time than
Florida
we
and
do
South
in the
Carolina.
Rust Belt. I mean,
You already did it?
Yeah.
You have a lot
What,
of roots
Florida
in
and
Michigan,
South
spent a lot
Carolina?
of
There
time
aren't
there,
enough
and
votes
we're
to
with your
lock it
governor
in, but
routinely.
it's close to.
Ooh, the
Tell
map
us-
looks
tell
the
us what you're
exact
thinking
same.
about those states. Why isn't
No, it
Ohio
doesn't.
a swing state? What are you
For
saying
me, it
we're
does.
missing?
Oh man.
What do you
Well,
see?
Ohio is not a swing state because you look at
Election.
the early voting.
Over half
and
the
I had this up
country is
before.
done now.
Wait, why am
Donald
I
Trump won
glitched?
Ohio,
Oh, now
I
it
believe
was
with
a
8
weird thing.
points last go around,
Okay,
but actually
so Texas
Democrats
and
outnumbered
Kansas are
Republicans in
going to be Trump
2016,
win. It just
which
looks
means it was a
obviously
huge
because
portion of
So
Democrats
just the
who
major-
voted for
anything
Trump
bad
versus
happened
Democrats.
yet?
And even now with the early
Biden's ahead in
I'll
the-
explain
days voting in,
Biden's ahead in
I'll
the-
explain why.
Republicans with a
That
pretty
doesn't matter,
wide
that thing.
margin in Ohio.
Trump's ahead
is
Biden.
popular,
So
but
if you
Biden's
believe that
ahead
Democrats will come out
Let
today
me-
and vote
let me
Republicans
explain.
3-1, then
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't even think it's close. Now,
So
outside of that,
you can see
Michigan
Texas
is about a
and
4-point
Kansas are
spread
winning
when
at
you look at
Biden,
the
right?
modeled party
Yeah.
model. But again, Donald Trump won that where he was
Obviously,
down about 4
Biden's not gonna
points.
win either of
Again,
those.
so that
There's
would
zero
mean
fucking
that
way.
if he's
It's
down
just
Texas
because
is
the
really
major
close.
cities
he could be up.
It's because the
7
major cities
really
are
in
pulled
Michigan because a
first.
lot of Democrats will vote for Donald Trump. Now, I
So-
don't
Yeah,
know
Texas
that
is
Donald
barely
Trump will be
pulled.
victorious in Michigan
Yeah,
or
so
Pennsylvania. I don't think we'll know
Texas is
Pennsylvania
going to be
until we
overwhelmingly
look
Trump.
at every single
Kansas is
ditch
going
and
to be
find a
pretty
few
high
extra
Trump.
million.
Biden.
Nebraska went Trump.
But I will. Here's the
Good.
question, right?
Since-
Logically speaking,
since we
if
got,
Donald Trump hangs on to
Georgia
North Carolina
and
Georgia,
Florida,
which everyone was saying was a swing state,
Biden's the
and
one
I
who
said,
has to go across the
I'm
board
very,
in this
very
case.
confident in Florida and Ohio, long
So
before
he
Georgia and
would
North
need to
Carolina.
get
So if those go Trump,
Michigan,
I
Ohio,
mean, I will
Pennsylvania.
eat
It's not
this
Memphis.
bag
Obviously
of
New
coffee,
York.
Black Rifle, wonderful
Yeah,
sponsor,
Michigan.
if Ohio goes
Pennsylvania's
So,
going
and I
live
also
though.
would be surprised to see
Fuck.
Arizona
No,
go to
look
Biden.
at
So when
look
people
at
say that,
the
guess what?
list.
Trump
Well, look
just
everything.
needs to
Yeah,
win
you're right, or you're
either
right.
Pennsylvania
Although
or
if there's
Michigan.
a
If that
possibility
map
it would
that I
go
just laid
left.
out
Did Aramus
for you
come
remains
back,
true,
or?
guess what?
Even
Biden
if
is going
it- no,
Minnesota,
even if
not
it goes
enough.
left, chances
Wisconsin,
are
not enough.
Trump's still gonna
At
win.
Michigan, not enough.
Um,
Pennsylvania, now he gets over it.
because look
What
at
do we
Michigan,
think
for
is more
example.
likely? That Donald
Trump-
Trump
or
keeps
Biden's
the
not
states
gonna
that we
Trump
agreed
low-key's
upon
gonna win the-
and wins either one Michigan
right now I'm
or
pretty sure that
Pennsylvania,
Trump's gonna win
or
popular
that
vote.
Biden runs the entire blue wall. I think the former is more likely.
Anyways,
and Michigan
New
could
Mexico
go either way, but I don't
is,
think Ohio is too close.
I'm a little bit worried
I
with
don't wanna say that you're a
what's going
defeatist, but
on
come
in
there's
the
no
Electoral
Ohio
College.
for Biden.
Biden's
I'm
really
very
up in
surprised.
the
I'm
Electoral
still getting
College.
over Ben Shapiro being
What,
cautiously
Electoral
optimistic.
College?
Yeah.
The rest of us, it's party time. You know?
So Biden might win through that.
Stephen Crowder, I have.
Cautiously optimistic for Ben is still very negative.
Stephen, I have a question for you that transcends the political. Are you
Yes.
are you strapped right now?
Yes.
What are you wearing?
Electoral.
This is
I
a
mean, look,
wonderful,
where are you
actually,
seeing the
I'm
Electoral
going
College
classic. This is a
information?
357 Magnum, Smith and Wesson model 686. It's an
Where
old
does it show it
revolver
for
that carries 7 shots, a 357 Magnum, and some moon clips in here. So we have many guns in this office. We don't live in
Electoral
California.
College
I don't know
is
if
the
you're
way
investigating-
top.
Yeah,
Are you
Where it says
investigating
Joe
the
Biden on the
murder?
left
What
and
exactly is
Donald
going
Trump on the
on
right.
over there?
And where it says
Oh,
119.
You know what I will tell you is I wore
are
it
you
once for
done?
open carry, and I came
No.
home, and my
What?
Are
wife
you-
just got
sorry.
very comfortable. So
Okay. Once
enough for me,
Texas is
dude.
pulled by Trump, Trump's gonna be like
Obviously,
20
yeah.
to
Obviously, yeah.
suspenders,
True.
but who am
You're
I,
right.
Larry King? So I just wear the open carry, and my wife
And
For
and
electoral
also he's
war?
gonna
really
pull
like it, and
Michigan.
I enjoy
Yeah,
it.
he's
And,
gonna
it makes
pull
me look
Michigan,
tougher than anyone else
which is
on this stream.
16. That's
Which
huge.
I
is
feel like we're
good.
getting
It's
too
really
close to the
all
mid
over
If you
states.
didn't look
Yeah,
left.
he's going to
on
pull
this stream,
Florida
you
and
get
Georgia, which is
I will say,
insane.
and I rarely
That's
Florida's
see
not
you
done yet?
compliment
Dennis
Stephen
Prager's
Crowder.
a big guy.
Florida's
He's like
not done yet.
6'5".
Well, yeah, you
Well, I
don't
haven't
wanna-
counted
you don't
it
wanna
yet.
wrestle
They're like
with
90%
Dennis,
through.
But
Because
I
it's
rarely
really
give you
close.
compliments
Yeah,
on the
true, you're
account
actually-
I hate you and all,
Yeah.
and I got to see you be waterboarded
Except
that time.
for Georgia.
You
What
don't
surprises
even
me
need a
is
gun. You're a
Nebraska was
freaking
mostly Biden.
giant who practices
Nebraska.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I think that
Or-
you're going to take
But
good care
but
of
they
yourself.
but red won. Similar
Well,
case to Virginia as well.
Thank you very
No, it
much.
wasn't.
But the other way around.
But that being said,
Nebraska is
I've
47%
always
Biden
avoided
and Trump.
physical
And Trump won.
altercations, and I will say this
That's
to
because of
anyone who
Electoral
tells you this
College,
out
I'm
there,
guessing.
If it does come down to physical altercation,
And it was the other way
I'll take
around
a
in
gun,
Virginia.
Just like the whole
Trump's
racy
I think
family who
Trump's
created
gonna win
the
by
UFC. Like, in
popular
this
vote.
street? What are
Ooh.
you, out your mind?
Maine is
Biden-
red
if-
right now,
Bang,
War.
bang,
Yeah,
shoot,
if Biden
you're
wins,
dead.
it's not going to be
Maine is
popular.
red. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's-
Maine
it's
is
nice
red.
to roll
It's
around
been
with
red.
mats
It's going to be
and
red.
drunk uncle
Maine's
jujitsu,
only
but Otherwise, they're
GG.
getting some.
Yeah, look at-
57 under my wall.
click
the
on it.
real reason that he knows
Click on
it.
Brazilian
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
is just because that's how
Purely
he
red.
gets to know people and greets them.
So
the
New
first time he
Mexico's
came over
blue,
to my
that's
house, he put me in a
obvious.
headlock.
Here's the thing, only one of them has,
Almost knocked me out.
only the major one of
Absolute
them has to actually go
That's a
blue.
lie.
So we're not worried about
Correct
Florida
that
anymore.
lie because you're an honest
No.
guy, and I don't
But are we
want
still worried
the
about
right people to go out
Texas
there with
a little bit?
ammo and perpetuating
What,
a negative
Texas?
stereotype.
No, why would you? Are
I did
you
not
dumb?
walk up and
No.
choke you.
Sorry.
But no, I get what you
And
mean. I get what you mean. But just in
Texas has
case.
been
And
the
you
stronghold
forgot to mention
for
that you had a
years.
hernia.
Sure.
Sorry, it's gonna be like
Okay, first of all,
70%
I'm Jewish.
in
It goes
Texas.
without
You
saying I
just
have
gotta
a hernia.
wait because most of them aren't cold except for the
I have
major.
a hernia. Come on.
Yeah.
This is-
You guys are having a laugh fest, bro.
a true story.
Well, there was Steven
then I was
Crowder, who's a
outside
Chad.
Ben
Yeah, I know.
Shapiro's
Crowder's
apartment going, I think you live where they shot the original Karate Kid. He's like,
We have the
"Yeah,
weirdest-
this is the right-"
I
Steve
watched
and
the
I have
original
the
Karate
weirdest
Kid.
non-sexual S&M relationship. Like the first time we got together in a room, he put me in a headlock, and then I got to be
What?
waterboarded.
Yeah.
And frankly, we just need to stay out of the same state as it.
Let me restart
You know what was
some
worse
door,
than
so I go
waterboarding?
ahead.
I was at Ben Shapiro's, and I thought we would never talk again because Ben Shapiro put me up for, I won't name it specifically, but he put me up, he recommended me, he was very nice, for a morning radio drive show.
That's true, I did.
Where it was like a news show, and he said, here, he had his whole, I think his show was in Orlando, he had his whole radio set up. And then, like, the day before I did it, I was going, well, I'm going to do
People
what this show
legitimately
is. And they
think
said, we
Texas
don't
is
want
going
any
blue, and
opinion,
it's
it's
funny.
straight news. I went, And
I didn't think they were going blue, but I always have the idea they could.
Hey, well,
So badly that I remember sitting
want me
there
to show
for
you
5 minutes before I
2016
opened
Texas?
the door just because I didn't
But they
want to look
probably
them in
won't.
the
Yeah,
face. I was like, you looked me in the eyes.
Is
and they
Aramus
told me
came
to
back
do
yet?
straight news, and I made
Trump
a
won by
joke
10%
about it,
in Texas
Ben
last
Shapiro,
week.
like something about my penis.
yeah, that's a lot.
Aramus already
But I
said
know
no.
they don't
Oh,
like you.
right.
So sorry. I'm
They haven't
so
done
sorry,
DC
Ben.
yet?
So no, I
They
don't
have
remember
not.
that.
The only major stronghold in Texas
Let's
they
just
really
focus in
haven't
again on
done.
the fact that you have a wife and I have a wife.
I mean, a lot of the bottom they
Okay,
haven't
against
done,
all-
but
against
the
all
bottom
facts.
isn't worth
I
much.
mean, I think I'm
Sugar
gonna
looks like
visit
you
my
have a very,
parents, so
very
I'm gonna be
good-looking
AFK for a
wife.
bit.
That's right. I do. As do you.
What are your parents gonna say to you?
It's not a fair world. I mean, I think we have to
It's not over
fair
yet.
now.
That's probably what
Hey, by the way, I just saw
I told you about
Ben
my
Shapiro's
mom is
sister
super
for the first
anti-Trump,
time
right?
3 days ago.
Which is weird because her
God.
parents are
Amazing.
It's
pro-Trump.
not going anyplace
But
good.
it's insane. It's insane.
But anyhow,
She's not
Trump,
white.
I'm not sure. What's your predictions for
But she's
now?
also beautiful.
Uh,
It's like
probably-
a square circle. It doesn't make any sense.
Probably
A
a
friend of
30-70 in
met
Trump's
the president
favor.
for the
Have you been
first
checking
time.
how the
He's a
blue states have been
middle-aged
going
guy.
too?
I
Oh, look,
think
my
Trump
county
has a
is
beautiful
blue.
wife,
Yay.
and
I
they
think overall
told
Trump
me
has a
he met the
70%
president.
chance.
This was
victory?
basically the entirety of the dialogue
Good.
because they posed for a picture,
GG.
and
But we'll
he
see.
said to the president,
Because
Mr.
we aren't gonna
President,
know
my
for, like, a
daughter is
little while.
currently
Not for
interning,
sure
but she
by
is
any
at the White
means,
House.
sorry.
Yeah,
She has
I
three
said we aren't gonna
great
know for a
daughters,
while.
Scott.
That means it's going to be pretty close, actually.
Trump looks at the guy
Trump's
with total
behind in
seriousness
Senate.
and says, I hope she got her looks from your
But ahead
wife."
in U.S. representatives?
That
that?
Senate,
of the
Senate
conversation.
isn't very accurate, actually. You're gonna, if you want to go into Senate.
That same story happened with Joe Biden. He said, I hope
Yeah,
she uses
Trump is a bit
plus.
behind in Senate technically, but that's because Joe Biden is more.
True story.
House of Representatives, I haven't done
we
much
taped this
research
video
into
today
it,
where
so
I
I'm
was
not sure
asking
this
people
is
about,
how this works.
Charlottesville, very fine people on
Yep.
both sides.
It was
and
a terrific
no one-
video, by the way.
Biden's still ahead of
You
Thank
did
you
a great
very
job
much.
with
the
it.
electoral man.
I made a horrible mistake. I said Charlottesville, North Carolina. Of course, I know it's Virginia and Charlotte, North Carolina. That's one of those things. So fact check me.
they're still waiting
wanna
for
make sure I'm
states to be
clear about that.
called.
But what happened was,
I noticed
don't
all the
remember what I was
called
gonna say. What were we
states
talking
on
about
this
before
map
this?
are the same
Something-
on the Daily Wire map.
There was a lady saying that Donald Trump
In
was
like the
sexist.
next 45
I said, okay.
minutes, a
And you
bunch of
believe
states
it,
on
and
the
half-facing
Daily
Bill
Wire
Maher like this.
map are
And I said,
going to go, are going to actually be.
All right,
fine.
anyhow, I'm gonna be
Really
AFK for a bit. I'm
respectful.
just gonna be
Okay,
holding
but
up
you
the
believe that
screen.
Biden does. She said, yes,
I'll keep it up.
absolutely.
It's a
And I
second
did
day.
all
You
of
can
these
talk if you
equations
want,
in
but-
my head. I swear. to you, within 2
Trump is
seconds.
gaining
I
on
was this close to
Texas,
just leaning into her.
or Trump
and
is
going,
gaining on Kansas, obviously.
and sniffing
And,
her.
One more
Trump
thing
is
is to go.
going-
Texas is about to
If I do
turn
that,
red,
I'll get
basically.
sued. But then I said, wait,
Very
that would
shortly.
be absolutely hysterical because I could get sued for doing exactly what Joe Biden did. However, I don't want to be locked up in lawsuits. So maybe I'll just say, what if I sniffed you right now? And I felt like that would undercut the argument. So I said nothing. But all of those calculations in about 4
I just
seconds,
wanna
I
talk
just wanted to
about
lean and go.
The maturity, watching the maturing of Steven Crowder is
You're right. I absolutely 3 years ago I would have just been. I would have sniffed her. I would have been like nibbling her earlobes. Oh.
Stephen,
This
thanks
is
for,
one-
thanks for
Okay,
hanging
go
out with
ahead.
us tonight, and thanks for your prediction. I'm hopeful that you know more about the Rust Belt than we do. I'm hopeful that your way of looking at this is the right way, because I think the one thing we all know is that hair sniffer cannot be the president of the United States.
No.
Right. Well, let me ask you one question. One question to everyone. Arizona, how do you think it goes?
Well, I mean, the way that Trump is performing with Hispanics in Texas, I'm a lot more positive than I was earlier today about Arizona. I thought it was a nice edge. I think I got to favor him in Arizona now.
What about the black vote that we've said might be the biggest ever for Republicans?
So it is in Florida, but we don't have enough stats. And we are seeing some movement.
Would be significant.
We're seeing some movement, not really in Georgia as far as I've seen, but North Carolina. Some of the majority black districts.
Hey, Mensa members, let's stay on Arizona. I wanted to go out on a quick note. I get that you guys know. Arizona, just everyone say Trump or Biden, and then I got to let you go.
Trump.
I'll say Trump. I'll say Trump in Arizona.
Arizona,
Okay.
The question is
All
the
right,
Senate race in Arizona.
Yeah,
That's a good point. All right, thank you guys. DailyWire.com. Where's your stream for people to watch it?
DailyWire.com. Thank you, Stephen, and thanks to all of our friends at the Blaze and Louder with Crowder.
Absolutely. We may check in with you later. All right. Be well, gentlemen. We will see you.
Be well. Be well.
Hey,
So, Stephen
By the way, Tom Tillis is running a little ahead right now of President Trump's vote total in North Carolina. We haven't paid any attention to the Senate races thus far. Gardner's already out. They already called Gardner as done, but that was pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Right.
The ones to keep an eye on tonight are Tom Tillis in North Carolina. You want to keep an eye on Joni Ernst in Iowa. You want to keep an eye on Susan Collins in Maine.
And I think that our friends in the war room are ready to give us an update on what's actually happening from a data point of view. So let's go to Elisha Krause.
Hey guys, we actually have a lot of updates right now, and then we're going to toss it to Cassie in just a moment for some social media checkmark updates as well. Cabot Phillips, what is happening?
So we let you know earlier, Florida is still looking very good for President Trump. Again, going to take a near miracle for Biden to pull that off. Now moving a little bit more north, Georgia also looking very good for President Trump. 35% reporting right now. The president is up about 15 points. Now we're still waiting for more votes to come in from Fulton County, where Biden is at about 80%. That's where Atlanta is. So now the real question becomes, how much ground is he able to make up in Fulton County, Gwinnett County, Marietta County, all Biden strongholds? He's going to have to just hope that voter turnout is high enough to keep him there. The New York Times, though, is projecting, if you believe their projections, 81% chance of a victory for Trump in Georgia. Moving up a little bit more to North Carolina, the New York Times projection there, 86% chance of a Trump victory in North Carolina, 78% of the vote reporting. The president does trail by about 3 percentage points at the moment, but a big part of that is what the expected votes that are going to be coming a little bit later. Florida, again, looking like an almost sure Trump victory. In Virginia, interesting situation playing out. Right when the polls closed, Fox News was the only polling service or only news outlet that called Virginia right away. However, a lot of other outlets are holding off on calling it because right now President Trump is up 20 points with 40% reporting. And some of those counties, the reason people are holding off on holding, some of the northern counties, Arlington County, Prince George County, other ones like that, or Prince William County, other counties like that, traditionally places you'd expect Biden to perform, wasn't a huge voter turnout in some of those counties. So we're waiting for a lot of absentee ballots to come in. Those might be a little bit later to bring it more Democrat votes in. That's what the expectation is. But Virginia, much closer than people were expecting. Finally, the Republicans have lost their first seat in the Senate. Cory Gardner in Colorado wasn't polling well and, as expected, has lost. The Republicans down now to 53 in the Senate.
Okie dokie. Thank you for that update. We'll
So
be
they'll
back.
take Alabama, right? We'll get Alabama.
Yeah.
Get a pickup.
To answer that question for you, Dennis, yes, a lot of outlets have already called Alabama, as you can see on the map over there. We're going to continue updating the map. And to update you here now about what's happening on social media, we have our very own Cassie Dillon.
So right now on social media, all the talk is Florida. The left is very mad at Florida right now, to where the Daily Show has even put out a little
when did the polls
video
close?
blowing up Florida. So that's
When did
quite
all of them?
interesting. And then we also have
I'm pretty sure the latest poll closes at 1 a.m.
No, when did the latest
poll
poll
announcing her
close?
next
Just like recently.
writing
like
day. She
20
wants to write a
minutes
piece
ago.
about how the Latino
The Daily Show's
community
pissed
is
off.
part
Lol.
of ethnic category that artificially
Daily
lumps white
Show.
Cubans with black Puerto Ricans.
Let's check Twitter since I haven't
Guatemalans,
checked it in so
yada,
long.
yada. So I guess the Cuban vote is now canceled out
It
of
looks
the
like
Hispanic community, according to
Apparently they're all mad at
Very
Florida.
pissed.
Purity test.
They're all mad at Florida.
Our lovely White House press secretary said that she's
They
excited for the
just-
surge for President Trump and the Latino community, and it's happening right now, primarily in Miami. And just one more quick update.
We
it
haven't
looks
gotten
like
an
the
Florida hasn't been
update.
called, though.
outside
Florida
of
hasn't been
Washington,
called, though.
DC, outside the
We
White
haven't
House.
gotten an
Has now kind of slowed down,
Texas in
and now it's a dance
forever.
party.
Here's the thing,
We'll see how long
Florida's
the dance party
going to
continues
get
when,
called
we have more
fairly
results coming in.
soon.
Cassie, thank you for that.
Georgia's
Although I have
going to get
say
called
that,
very
I've
soon.
never agreed with the left that
So-
words
Texas
be
is
violence.
going.
Violence
Texas
is just
will
violence,
not
like
get
violence
called
is
until
when
Trump
someone's
wins.
disconnects with your chin.
Texas.
Now that I've seen that line dancing,
Kansas will not get
I'm
called
willing to
until Trump's
reassess all
ahead.
of my
Florida's at
previous positions
90%.
on
Which
what
means
I'm saying. gets balance and what does
Well,
not.
there's no way
It
it's
basically
Henry
makes
Olson
yeah,
is
it
one of the
basically
best
makes it
poll watchers I
impossible
know,
for
and
Biden
very,
to win in this case unless we
honest.
somehow
He's a
manage to lose
conservative, but
Texas.
very honest, never lets his bias get in the way. He
There's also an
has
option if we get
forecast
Texas
a Biden
and we
victory
get
last
Pennsylvania,
year-
but we can still
last,
Biden can still lose
election,
through
he was
Michigan and
the closest
Wisconsin,
to
and I think
forecasting
some
a
other
Trump
states too. I
victory,
forget.
and he said Biden was
But
going to be a very
oh,
tough
I just
voter
saw
in
Wisconsin
Washington
turn
Post.
from
He's
blue
dialing
to
that
red,
back.
from red to blue.
He's starting to. He
Wisconsin
said,
might go
he says,
blue,
I
I
don't like
think.
to eat crow.
I'm
but
not
the more
sure.
I look at the
That's
data,
not
the more
very
I think it was too
surprising.
optimistic for Biden. He's not calling for Trump.
grandparents
but
are
he is
from
dialing it back, and that to me is
Wisconsin, they're
very
red.
encouraging because
But then my
he's just
cousins
a
are from
smart
Wisconsin, and they're
guy who
blue.
sees
There's an
things the way they are.
interesting
Wisconsin's
sidebar that I'd like to
kind of
bounce
always
off
been
you.
just a toss-up.
I don't.
Let me
it's
look
not
at the
my
statistics
own original
on
thought,
Wisconsin.
but
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin
Years
is where
ago,
is one of the
and it
places I
turned
want to go
out-
to school.
I have not been wrong with any of my statistics.
Wisconsin
so
is
far.
the U.S. state I've been to the
presidential
second most,
race.
Oh.
despite my home state.
Yeah, it looks
happier
like so. Madison is the
candidate
one that's been
won.
done. It is
And
the
it's a
highest. It is
very
the
interesting
So
blue
high
stronghold
population.
of-
observation.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
balanced.
Madison has
If-
always been
if
the blue
President
stronghold
Trump
of
loses,
Well, Milwaukee
Wisconsin.
too, war.
Be
Milwaukee's
a-
also
Here-
pretty strong.
an exception to
No,
a
not as
pretty
strong as
ironclad rule.
Madison.
Could that possibly be
Yeah.
true? Or do
Because
we
Madison's
grant that
in the
Mitt Romney
80s.
was
Yeah.
less
But-
happy than Barack Obama?
War. What other counties in
Have you ever met
Wisconsin
Mitt
are gonna
Romney?
go?
We
Mitt
have
Romney,
one of their
I
blue
campaigned
states,
for Mitt
well,
Romney.
one of their usual blue states in the very top left, or their
there's
blue
a
counties.
certain, everybody acknowledges it. I mean, there's a certain woodenness.
What other?
That's fair.
Only
his
ones they
personality.
have
may
is
be
the
more-
ones
he
they
may be
had
more
last
truly
election,
happy.
and they were the hardest
Oh,
ones, or
nobody
the
knows who's
most
truly
solid.
happy.
So it looks
Right,
like
so
we're almost
your
certainly going to
psychiatrist
win
may
Wisconsin
know.
in this case.
Your spouse may know.
Oh, you know, Bill Clinton is truly happy.
Oh, I don't think. I don't.
Yeah, Wisconsin
Bill
is
Clinton
back
is
to
truly
as
happy.
winning.
I'm taking back my
Wait,
happiness.
what? Check it. Dude,
Right,
Wisconsin
right.
just be
Certainly, I like the more
fluctuating.
charismatic.
We are within the 1
Wisconsin
percentile.
fluctuates.
Texas now.
That's
We're
true.
about
That's-
to go
that's-
over.
well,
We're in the
it
1
started
percentile of
because
Texas. It's
Reagan
been
was the antithesis of
so we
Carter.
just got a few more
So
in Texas.
close.
When the
Yeah.
It's taking a
observation
while
was
to
made.
get a few more, which is annoying.
And it was very true. You know,
Ooh, the
what
moon
was
is
his,
out,
the
too.
national malaise, his talk about.
That's
anyway,
right.
has Jimmy? Can you
Get a photo of
imagine?
that.
This is just a thought. I can't imagine Jimmy Carter laughing. I mean, when you think about it, isn't that an interesting thing?
Yeah, he was a grim guy to begin with, but after he lost that election, he became one of the most bitter.
I don't think
That's
Aramus
right,
is going to come back for a
exactly.
bit.
That's exactly right. So
Virginia is such a
the
weird
other
win.
thing is, here's another fascinating question.
I mean, like,
sidebar
it's not
again.
gonna matter.
I have never
But
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
seen
Virginia
the
actually
passion
was
for a
one that
president
kind of mattered.
as
So, like,
it
exists
did,
for
but
Donald,
it's
and that
a,
includes Ronald
it's
Reagan.
not terrible.
And I love Ronald Reagan.
Carolina.
But I never
North
heard
Carolina
a massive
got
change.
swamped.
Carolina's
We
gonna
love
be a win.
this. I
for
have the chills
Biden.
as I
Oh,
told
no.
this to you of people.
Yeah, you're
in-
right.
in
They got
cold
barely anything
weather,
left.
knowing COVID's
Barely
around,
any areas left.
Reason-
standing together in the tens of thousands.
Oof, it's just
I
their
have
population,
two sons.
that's
One
what
of
I
them
think it
is you mentioned in Florida. One is in Pennsylvania. I purposely
Although you
did
could
that.
say it
So-
was very close.
Let's
America.
hear.
I have one son in
All
one
the
swing
ones
state
we are
and another in
missing.
another
Okay,
state.
so the ones that are
You
missing
know
in
that there were
Carolina
50,000 people
are
in what
all
was it?
Trump,
I
I
forgot,
think.
Butler County, I think it was.
Yeah.
And my son lives
So,
in Reading,
yeah, we
Pennsylvania.
could win.
Reading,
And
Pennsylvania.
a fair bit
had
of the ones that are
15,000 or
blue
20,000.
right now.
There
are a
this is-
few
I'm gonna
blue
send
ones
this to
that
you.
are
You gotta put
that
it
are
up.
probably going
He
to
sent
become
me a
Trump,
picture
as they were weak
of an
Trump, and
Amish-
from what it's looking like,
saw that.
most of the weak
Did you
Trumps
see
are
it?
becoming higher Trumps, and
Oh,
most of them
DC's being counted now. And they're
An
blue.
DC.
Amish Trump
Yeah.
caravan.
I mean,
what did we
horses and
expect?
buggies.
Trump, who has,
Yeah.
I will say, a somewhat casual
I have friends
relationship
who
with
live
the
in
truth,
DC.
has said some very
IRL.
actually profound things in his time. Really, I'm being serious.
Michigan
And
is Trump's ahead by a
the
bit.
truest thing he ever said is, they don't hate you because they hate me. They hate me because they hate you.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that
Here it is. Yeah,
100%
DC's always been
Trump's
to be
going-
that is
Trump's like
and
10%
that's
ahead
why
in
there's the passion for
Wisconsin
Trump.
now.
It really isn't even just
Yeah,
because
as
Trump
I
is
told
Trump
you,
and
I
he's
have-
I
I
agree,
just
and
have-
he does funny
No,
things, and he's
no.
a
I
stand-up
tell you,
comedian, and
Sarf,
he's
I
a
am the literal
because
god.
You
Didn't
represent
Wisconsin
us.
go
Correct.
blue
The
last year?
outpouring of
I-
absolute
what?
scorn,
Did they not?
No.
hatred. People despise
sorry.
Trump. And we're
I'm
not
just
totally
used, I'm
off
just
track.
used
I
to
think
seeing a
most
lot of
Republicans,
maps,
aside
and
from
Wisconsin's
a few
blue
people we
on
were
a
talking
lot of
about
maps I
earlier,
see.
have not fallen for the trick of
That's
believing
stupid.
that the Democrats are only doing that
Wisconsin,
because they
when
have to stand for his
was in
character
the 1
personally.
percentile
We recognize that the
last
minute
election.
that Donald Trump is off the national stage, they will turn to whoever the next
Texas
Republican
is now in the
and that
0.7
person will become the
percentile.
repository of all evil,
If you
which is
consider that
probably why Donald
percentile.
Trump was nominated in the first place in
It is,
2016, because they did this to Mitt
Yeah,
Romney in
it's-
2012.
we're
And
getting
we all went,
Texas.
hold up a
There's
second,
no
you're
doubt.
doing this to Mitt Romney,
I'm
the
pretty
most
sure
normal
most
Yeah.
human
of the
being
blue states
ever
have,
to walk the
blue
planet.
counties have
And so we
already
went, okay, we need somebody who's at least going to punch these people directly in the face.
That's right.
And that's what Trump was about.
It's weird
And
that-
then
Daily
they've
Wire.
gone so insane.
Daily
with
Wire is the
Trump
hard
that
map
I think
we have.
everybody who is
Yeah, it's
remotely
confirmed.
conservative
They only
looked at
put
this and they went,
confirmed things
wait a
there.
second, this isn't
Yeah.
about Trump at all. Like
Florida's
really
not
deep
even up there
in the
yet.
cockles of your heart, it's not that you
Well,
hate
Florida's
Trump.
not
It's
No,
you're
so
upset
it's
at me
more
for
up to
voting
date
for
than the
Trump.
Google one. I
It's that you
believe,
hate
with
me.
Electoral college
And so you hate
votes,
Trump because Trump is
Right
just
now
a
they're
Florida's
scam.
population.
The evidence of this
Florida's
is that Donald
21
Trump's character
million.
is probably
We
the
have
most
10 million
widely known
voted.
character of any character in
And
modern media. Right?
91%
Donald
is
Trump has
done.
been famous 100%
So we
of the
just
days
need
of my
another
life.
10%.
And not
No
just
one's
like
so
little
warm. I'm kind of
things
tired of
rap
hearing
stars rap about
please
he's
vote
famous.
from all the
Like he
social
makes,
media
he
and all the-
represented.
Yeah, they
New
could
York
they
City. Like, you
could
put Donald Trump
barely
in a
flip
movie,
it
and
with
they did
10%. Like they'd
frequently.
need
He
nearly
represented the
100% of
idea
that 10%.
of New York. He had affairs.
So,
We all knew there were strippers. All of that was known.
they'd need like
and we
a
loved
lot
him. We
of that
celebrated
10%.
him. Celebrated him. The left elevated him. They
So
loved him.
that's gonna be Trump.
Right up until he decided to represent us.
That's
Only in that moment did they decide that there was a problem with his
to me, one of the most telling statistics in the
Iowa,
last 10
I have
years
yet to
is the
research that.
fact that so many people were dying of opiate poisoning in the Midwest. and the middle of the
Iowa's
country,
Iowa's probably
that
going to be
our
Trump,
life expectancy,
but it's
the
not
life
worth
expectancy
much.
of
So.
Americans was dropping solely because of deaths by suicide, by suicidal behaviors, and nobody knew it until two Harvard researchers stumbled on it and were totally surprised. That means that a vast number of our
We're getting
countrymen
closer in
were
Kansas,
dying, and nobody knew
which
because
is
they were in flyover.
we're going to win.
But and even
Texas
we
is
on
now in
right
the
kept saying, yes,
0.5
because iPhones are
percentile.
cheaper because we're
Easy
sending them out to China.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
making
that
them in
was
China.
expected.
And Donald Trump.
You're
better at this
He
than me.
saw
Just
that.
shocked.
Our election would be
People
forfeit.
ask all the time,
Otherwise,
and
what?
this is
You
the
think
Brett
I haven't
Stevens
taken
theory.
politics
It
before?
was the most
Sorry.
disappointing to me because he
I wish
was a
I was still in
courageous,
civics. I was
good
civics
man.
in
Good man.
2018.
I want to say that for
So we
the
did
record.
get to see the midterms, but
And so he
Being in
he,
civics
he
right now would be
asks,
hilarious.
what has
With the
Trump done
liberal
to
leaning.
conservatism and the Republican
I like how they've
Party?
already called
So
Wyoming.
this was asked to me.
My
for
cousin
my
lives in
local
Wyoming,
station
and she's
in
super
LA,
pro-Trump.
AM 870.
Like massively
and we had an event.
Which is weird because
Sebastian Gorka,
our other cousins from Germany are
and
super
Charlie
anti-Trump.
Kirk, and,
To the point where
and Larry Elder
if you
and I.
support Trump,
So
we
were
can't
on
be
stage,
friends anymore.
And the moderator said, "So okay, going to throw out a question. You got to answer with one sentence," which is tough.
Yeah.
I goes, "We'll start with you, Dennis." And I go,
Where do we go for 18 minutes?
what effect has Donald Trump had on conservatives? And it's like, I thank
So,
you, God.
right now, I'm
you put
pretty
these
sure
words in
Trump's
my
gonna win the
brain.
popular
He
vote.
gave them testicles. The place
He's
went
up
crazy.
by
Yeah.
And I know why they went crazy.
And
'cause
most
it's
One
of
point.
most
so
of
here
the hard
I've been
left
saying
will
for
be
20
Biden.
years, we are in a civil
Yeah,
war.
but not
and
the
only
far
one
west.
side
I'm pretty
is
sure
fighting.
Washington and Oregon are.
Because
You
of
know
Donald
Washington and
Trump,
Oregon are going to go blue.
Both sides are fighting.
And in
No,
California,
I
yeah.
think this idea.
But
that
Alaska
he
will
made
go
it
Yeah,
family
sorry.
again. It's not
Yeah,
so
I'm
far
predicting
off.
this.
That's
I'm
right.
using the
The idea
20
that he's
or
riding around without a
2016
mask,
map.
He gets COVID.
Looking
and
at
so-
which
Hawaii's
one's
probably
bad.
gonna go
Yeah,
blue.
I actually don't
And
disagree
it
with
works
this. We were talking
nearly
earlier
100%
about
of the
how
time.
One of the problems that's happened in
Has there
religion
been
over the
any
last 40 years in
bad
America is that
ones
we've
and good
redefined the
ones
love
that have
of
been
God
switched?
as sentimentality.
Not really.
We've
I mean, I
also
would have preferred getting
redefined
Texas
sin
earlier if
to
they,
where
that was just
I
voting order.
genuinely believe that
So it
now
doesn't
the
matter.
almost
It won't make a
the
difference in the end,
definition
you're
of sin is masculinity. I think the church is basically
Like the
said,
only ones Biden
all
actually
things
has right now
masculine
are
are
on
evil.
this map.
And
Only
the
one of them
worst-
isn't actually
the
confirmed.
worst failures of
Like
the feminine
obviously all the
are
labeled ones.
righteousness.
My parents
So
don't even
Texas
watch
So
and
it's almost
Kansas,
like the
yeah,
worst.
Texas and Kansas are gonna flip.
You know, of course, there are negative aspects of
Um,
masculinity
Kansas,
that
you-
do touch sin.
Oh,
The difference
Kansas,
is they're
yeah,
now
probably.
saying that even the positive attributes of masculinity are sin.
You do
and the
not
most
know
negative
what everything
attributes
was
of,
last
I
time.
almost
of
moved to
feminine
Kansas last year.
are
actually.
righteousness.
It's a weird
And so
story.
to be able
Why?
to say to
Job
conservatives,
reasons,
to be able
we
to say
almost
to
moved there.
men that
I've
there
lived
is
in the same
masculine
house my whole life,
virtue.
by the way.
Again, we can talk about how
So we'll
Donald
probably
Trump is
have
the
we'll
most
probably end up
virtuous
having a
person.
line
What we're really upset
going
about
from
is
Arizona
that
to
he
Montana,
represents a
Arizona,
different
Yeah, you're right.
Idaho,
virtues
Utah, and
and is
and
completely
Montana.
Utah,
another
I'm not
sense,
sure.
right?
Was Utah
He
red
doesn't
last time?
have the
Utah
kinds of
was
virtues that we
red. I'm
countries
not sure how
admire.
hard. Let me
But
check.
he has,
If
in
they weren't
high
hard,
measure,
then I would not be
some
sure
of the
yet.
forgotten virtues.
Surprised
Utah
Iowa
was,
That's a great
Utah
way
was
to
a
put it.
very hard red.
The
We were
people
going to
who
win.
Okay, yeah, we
maybe
got it.
For the language, I don't know what.
Not
goes
much
on
people
in the
are
Daily Wire or
anti-Trump
language-wise,
who
but
were
It's not
pro-Trump
a bad one.
last
but,
election.
The people who crap on
I
his
feel like a lot
character,
more are
Oh no, that's way below our standard.
pro-Trump that were anti-Trump.
I've already said bullshit 3 times.
And
Okay.
although I do feel for Joe
Okay.
Biden's, we're getting higher
Both,
voter turnout. That probably
Yeah,
in Joe
most-
Biden's
Say with
most
Ted Kennedy.
independents are pro-Trump.
I feel like
Forget
people who
John
voted
Kennedy.
Trump, who
Ted
liked Trump
Kennedy's
last
a
year, are
lion
still
in the
going to
Senate.
vote.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that
I will
didn't want
take-
Trump last year. are
Yes,
gonna vote.
waitress sandwiches.
So I feel like
with
voters
dog,
might
right?
be.
That's right.
I
For
don't know.
example,
was advising
Bishop Hero
Joe
even.
Biden on his VP.
So you know,
pick.
Good
Chris Dodd
Luck
was on that advisory
America.
committee.
That's right.
Mhm.
And
That's the-
and Ted
Snapchat's,
Kennedy and Joe Biden really led
politics
all
show.
of the great
I
character
remember for like the past week they've been
in the
saying
judiciary
Biden's
right
probably
over
going to
the
win
last
this. And I was
That's
like,
right.
no.
40 years.
The
No.
thing that people love about Trump
I
is
hit-
that Trump
I fixed it
refuses
out.
to accept the premise of what
It
the
was
left
just
is
like
saying to him.
2016.
And sometimes that
Well,
means you
also, I
reject
gotta
things that
side
are
with
actually
whatever the
true,
liberal
and that's
God
irritating
says.
to people like me because, I mean,
If the liberal
frankly, I
God
don't
makes
think
a
you should
prediction,
reject
he
things that are
tends to
true.
be
But
right.
very often,
We're going to
Trump
probably
will
win
just refuse
Iowa,
the
like
premise of
almost
the question in a
certainly.
way where
Yeah,
you'd be
Iowa
like,
was-
no other
Texas has
Republican
turned
would
red,
actually
GG.
have the stones to do that.
That's
So,
right.
for example,
Yeah.
there was a lot
And
that
there's
came out
nothing
from
else
Bob
to
Woodward
shoot,
book.
so.
Most of it was stupid garbage. But there was one exchange that the left
Keep an
really
eye on
played up,
Wisconsin and
where Bob
Michigan.
Woodward said to him
Wisconsin's
something like,
up, but not
you know,
as high up as they were before.
America has a real policing
Michigan's up.
problem
They
with racism,
probably have
and
Michigan.
America's kind of racist. And Trump
Is
said, "Oh, so
29
you bought into
million.
that?"
Only
And-
64%.
Minnesota.
I heard that and I was like,
Look at
okay,
go on
you gotta
Minnesota
love that.
war.
You-
Go on
you do.
Minnesota.
I mean, it's
Look
hard
at
not to love
look at
that
the
a little bit as a
counties.
conservative because the fact is that every other Republican pays lip
That's what
service
Beast
I mean,
to
let me
myths,
check out the
by the way.
blue.
and Trump does not pay lip service to myths. And so,
Hey guys, just to
there
let you
are
know,
a
I'm
lot
going
of
to tell you
times
each of the weird
in
states
which
are we know
that
people
is so
from Hearth are
deeply
from.
necessary. You see, his greatest successes are
Minnesota.
built on that, right?
Minnesota's
His
where
great success in the
Beast
Middle
is
East is
from.
built on refusing to buy into a prevailing
Nebraska's
myth,
where
and
Gamma
just
is
saying
from.
that that
So-
myth
so
is
true.
just a myth,
Pennsylvania
right?
Pennsylvania is
So,
where
like,
Aramus is
and
from.
so we all focus in
Uh,
media.
I guess we
and
could say
people who
Exlick
are
was in
Trump
Florida, but
skeptical, I
Exlick is
think.
a gone
We
name.
focus on the times
No,
like
Exlick's
he
not in
calls
Florida.
something
I don't know
that
why I
isn't a
thought he
myth,
was.
right? Where he does like the crowd
I
size
always
thing.
thought
It's the
Exlick
biggest
was
crowd
in
size ever.
Florida.
But his refusal to accept the
I'm pretty
premise of
sure
nearly any
Sins
question
is
that is
from
asked of him
Virginia
adversarially
or
means that
Carolina.
many of the questions that are asked to normal Republicans adversarially, and they accept the premise, he refuses to accept the premise. So it's a package deal.
Back to Jesus the jerk. One of the things I love is that he won't grant disingenuous questions ever in the text.
And that is,
Time to
again,
check
that is a
phones
masculine
and
trait. You know, I'm reading
That's right.
Charles
Thank
Murray's
you.
book
See how
on the
the-
differences
how
between men and
the-
women, and women are,
The
as I
nearby
argued
folks are
many years
responding
ago,
to
are
this.
more amiable. They get along.
What about his
Yeah,
forcing
Minnesota's
NATO?
probably gonna be,
he's
horrible-
Probably
dissing
going to
our
be
ally.
Hillary, although it could turn
Our
out Trump.
The funny
allies
thing is
have
a bunch of
depended
kids have been doing
The
Instagram.
thing is, Aramus
and
or
know-how to
Minneapolis
guard them
got pulled
while
first,
they get
and
rich.
we actually took one
So
of
he
their
says,
strongholds
excuse me,
up
you
in the
made
top
a deal
right.
that you spend X amount of
So
your GDP
chances
on,
are we
on
will
armaments,
actually
but
end
you're
up
not
winning
doing it.
Minnesota,
Why
which is
that wrong?
surprising.
Check
Why
your
should an
privilege
American
and
leader
vote,
not say that
Warcries.
to our allies in NATO?
Right. Because it isn't nice.
Because it is. That's it.
That's it.
And you know,
So
that's it.
Kansas
They-
is
they-
just
they-
a
they-
now
they
Kansas
used to
is
put
in
the
the same
stat about Trump,
situation
he
as
doesn't- he
Texas
doesn't
as they
pay his
predicted.
bills. And I would
So
talk to
now it's
people,
near
you know,
about
just
to be
ordinary
the
working
same,
guys,
or
and
now it's
they would
about
say
to
me,
be red
"He
as
doesn't pay his
well.
bills because people don't do the work he pays them to do.
What'd you say?
New
You know,
Mexico,
they know what
Kansas
I
is
will
about
say,
to flip
I'm
red.
very friendly with a
New
guy
Mexico,
who's
I
been
already
one of
predicted
Donald
that.
Trump's
Was
real
Kansas
estate
red
attorneys
last
for,
time?
you know, his entire career.
Kansas
Very
red last
high-end
time. Yeah, it's always
hotel-
been a hard red.
hotel real estate attorney.
New
And he says
Mexico,
that Donald
Colorado
Trump
are going to be kind of
is a
the
bit of a
sole blue
Scrooge.
ones in the
He
middle.
says that he in the
Although
Trump organization,
Colorado,
he would have to
actually,
approve $500 expenses
it
at
would be
hotels.
it would
which,
be
if you think about the
weird.
size of his organization,
That,
is,
but he's not
is
a
remarkable.
personally.
But that's right. He said, but I will tell you, every time he ever brought me to New York, which is dozens of times over the years,
Can't wait to
flew
lose
first
a
class,
bunch of
car picked
Instagram
me up, car
followers.
picked me up at the, brought me, stayed in the best dinners.
Pennsylvania
You know,
is going to be major.
He would lavish upon us in that
I mean,
way.
I have to let me research Pennsylvania.
But he didn't want to be frivolous with his money on the other side, and maybe he held on a bit too tight in that regard. And listen,
So
I never want to be guilty of covering over what
a
we
lot
know
of
are
the red
character
ones were taken by blue, and a lot of the
failings
blue
the
ones were
president.
taken by red.
I think that
Right, but
it's in,
that's not
Most
the
of the ones that
criterion
aren't
of
polled in
measuring who
Pennsylvania
should be
are red.
president. I wrote
Agreed.
this 20
And
years
they are
ago.
Agreed.
they are
I
the
wrote
major
a piece,
red ones.
Adultery in politicians.
So,
God wouldn't have
it would be quite
chosen
possible
King David.
for
He not only
Pennsylvania
committed
to flip.
adultery and had a child with that woman, but had the husband basically killed.
that's right.
I mean, that's pretty serious
Or
stuff.
Republicans
all
are
the
going
way
off
back to
work
Abraham.
war.
He is the
Many people are
ancestor
still
of
in
our
lines right now.
Messiah, all collective.
A man
most
after
Republicans
God's own heart. A man after God's own heart is what the Bible says of David. I actually said this on Twitter today.
I wonder if this is creating a controversy in
some people are saying the Christian church is failing because it supports now Donald Trump. When in 1997 or 1998 they went all in to say that character is destiny and condemn Bill Clinton. But the problem with that argument is it actually assumes that the evangelical church in 1998 was operating
somehow
in good
managed
faith.
to take
The church now isn't. But the church in 1998 was being political. It was trying to get its agenda through.
That's right.
Bill Clinton deserved to be perjured because he broke the law.
Maybe not.
Deserved to be impeached because he broke the law and committed perjury. That was a hard sell to the American people.
Well, depends.
And so the evangelical
Do your
church,
county
pursuing
study
its
shit, whatever.
policy preferences,
What? We're
constructed
not
a
gonna take
theological
it.
argument, which is false.
We're
It'd be
gonna
funny if you take
take-
Hawaii.
God
That'd
judges
be
a
hilarious.
nation based on the moral character of its leader exclusively.
It would suck
We're
if we.
gonna
You
take-
cannot find a single
Yeah.
biblical.
Yeah, we're gonna take
nope.
Missouri.
You can't find an American.
That always
president.
surprised
You
me,
can't find a king
actually.
of
I
England.
always
God seems to
surprised
go
by
out of his
Missouri.
way, actually.
Right
Who
wing.
did God choose to let the
Well,
Israelites
look, if
into
you
Canaan?
look- if you look
He
right
could have
now,
picked a Canaanite accountant,
There's one
a
that
Canaanite
usually
priest,
isn't liberal, and
a
that's
Canaanite
Springfield.
saint. He
And
picked a
Columbia
Canaanite
hasn't been
prostitute.
pulled. Everything
There's
else
a
is
message there.
Republican.
There's got to be a message.
Wait,
Part
so
of the
Springfield broke the
message
mold?
is that God is God, and that the
Springfield
virtue,
did break
virtue
the
of a
mold,
person
but
But were they
does not
overwhelmingly
mean
very
red
low.
last
God
time,
uses
or?
the weak. He uses the broken. He
Because
uses
then
the
that
They
could
sinful.
not
were
matter.
not.
Because that,
They-
first of all, because that's the
they
only
were
people he can
extremely
use, because
weak
that's all of us
red.
on some level. But also as a way of
And
saying,
then they flipped blue.
I am the one who's delivering you into Canaan.
I've been to
Right?
St.
I'm
Louis,
the one who's
not
giving you the
Springfield.
land of promise. That's
So long,
what God's
as, so
message
long
is.
as recognizing the complexity of human beings doesn't
There's two
mean
Springfields,
dismissing the sin
Illinois
of human
Springfield.
beings. I think
Absolutely.
we're on
And-
the same page.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that the character of a leader cannot affect the destiny of a country.
But
Those
most
capitals.
It's a
importantly,
very
Yeah,
complex
Chicago
question.
just has a
Schindler saved how many Jews?
large,
1,000 Jews?
aura
The man
around
did
it
an
of blue.
unbelievable act. The guy was a serial
Yeah, I know.
adulterer.
60
And
Biden
wait till
sides
what comes out.
on
This
a
is not
bike trip.
revelatory.
0
I
Trump
think
One
sides.
of the
That's my
major
favorite.
biographers of Martin Luther King has already come out
I'm
with
still
it. and
a
it's gonna
bit
come out when the
worried
papers
about
come out. He was a
electoral
serial
college,
adulterer.
but I guess it's
Yeah.
just.
What
I
are
mean,
they
there's
going to say
accusations,
then?
right
great
now.
credible accusations.
Yes,
against
that's
Trump.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting to me. Just
They
listening.
have
There's a-
zero
there's a lot of IQ
strongholds that
points
they're
in
going to
this
get a
room,
lot of
me and
points from
Jeremy.
right now.
And all of us.
Ohio's
having
gonna go
serious
Trump.
Wells
conversations
Knight
maybe.
about
just admitted that
Scripture and
Trump's
God.
going to win.
And every one of us, I happen to know for a fact.
He's a liberal, but he's really
measures
he's
ourselves
actually a good
according
liberal.
to how we
Like,
are.
you know, a
moving
lot
toward
of, like how
God
I
or
told
away
you,
from
I was
God,
mad
or
on
what
Twitter
we're
that a
doing
lot
in
of people
God's
were
eyes.
saying, if you
That
support
idea
Trump, you aren't
is
welcome in the community.
completely ridiculed.
He literally brought up
by
the
North
us
issue.
on the left,
And he
especially
said
among
you're-
Yeah,
the
and he
North
was
liberals.
Carolina's
You never see a
probably going
serious
to go Trump.
conversation about that in the New York Times. You never see a serious
No,
conversation.
they knocked Amy
It's
Coney
it's
Barrett
kind of
for
a
saying
it's
it,
kind
right?
of a
Amy
swing,
Coney
a
Barrett
major
said that she was
swing.
trying to live
That's
a
going to be
godly life.
huge.
Yeah.
And
North
serve
Carolina
God in her
could.
job. And they said, "Oh, that means you're a theocrat."
Exactly.
Yeah,
Still
North
got a lot
Carolina.
left.
I don't know what I don't know what Donald Trump believes in his heart of
Surprised
hearts.
they're not
But
done
at least
yet.
he's
I
welcomed
think
those
They're
he's
people.
83%
become
done.
religious
You know-
in the course of the 4 years.
So we've got
Maybe just to piss
Ohio,
off the left,
which is
honestly.
gonna
Like,
swing.
They were like, "You're such an atheist." God.
Okay,
He's
so
like, you know what? I
Arizona's
love
coming
Jesus.
up.
You know,
No,
They're
that's
gonna be
right.
red.
No. I
All
have a
those
comment.
ones that
I-
are
please
all
focus
the
on
ones-
the
He is
incident.
to a large,
I
or
tell 10
has a
years
very
ago
high
how
chance
the
of doing
left
a
keeps me
swing.
religious.
somebody told me that God made
Damn.
Donald Trump president to
Oh,
save his
I'm
hi.
gonna have to drop the liberal god. His
It's
state
actually an
voted
interesting.
blue.
It's an interesting.
It is. I
What?
agree.
By the way, worth noting,
Oh, welcome to the
538
club,
says
liberal
that
God.
right now the way that North Carolina, Georgia, Florida
No,
are trending, the way that
he's
South
going
Dakota's trending,
to,
in Texas, and now
I,
maybe in
when I say
Arizona,
flip, I mean, or they're not
They're
gonna
saying
flip
it's now
from last
50-50 toss up
from last
election.
election.
We're in a
Oh,
dead
no
heat.
kidding, really.
Which, yeah, I mean,
Where were they
which
last
means
election?
that it's all going to
Pennsylvania?
be horrific for a week.
Uh,
Because if it's a 50-50
Where
toss-up
what were they?
election,
Ohio,
They were-
Pennsylvania,
Do you not know that they were
and you have
red?
the
Come
mess
on.
of Pennsylvania.
Trump,
I
no.
mean,
Of course,
lawyers
Trump's
and
going to
stuff
win
are a mess.
Ohio.
So anytime
he's
there's
down
a mess,
right
the
now,
person
and
whose
they're
point of view I want is Megyn Kelly.
Trump's going to
And that
win
is
Ohio.
because
Look at-
there
look
are
at-
a lot
look
of
at the
IQ
map
points
of it
in
again.
this room,
Here's
and
how
ain't none
OP
of us
the
as smart
population
as
No,
our
even
friend.
altogether.
Yeah,
But
altogether,
look,
none of us as
there's
smart as our friend
the
Megyn
one
Kelly,
that's
who's
not
back
charted
with us again right now.
is,
Megyn,
is
thanks for making some more time
ours.
for us tonight. What are you seeing out there?
And that on its own would bring us up.
I'm following on the 538.
And they're also
as Ben just
were
mentioned.
blue before.
And it's crazy how much
Or that were
faith
red
people
before.
put in these pollsters. And look, I don't know how this night is going to shake out, but it certainly appears that Nate Silver, the guy pollsters on the left,
When do you
has
think we're gonna
completely
know
blew Florida.
when do
And
you think that
Trafalgar
the AP
seems
is
to have
gonna
gotten it right. That's the one
call it?
polling
Yeah.
outlet that has been predicting Trump is going to win this race tonight.
So if
what
we
I'm
look
seeing
at
so far in
Pennsylvania-
Ohio does not bode well for Trump, but it's
Right,
very
we'll
early
see
and the
for the
vote's
stream.
not yet counted, so we'll see, right? It tends to go blue.
I'm
at
iffy
first,
on
and then it
Ohio
turns
right
more
now.
red. But
Ohio
their vote counts
tends
a
to
little
go
higher
blue
in
at
Ohio,
first.
so I'd
Wait,
be
they're in
watching
the
that one, because
0.1%
obviously Trump's not going
tile.
to win this race.
Ohio.
He's win
Yeah.
Ohio.
Ohio's about
With
to
the
flip.
Hispanics is interesting.
Yes.
Already, you've got people.
That's gonna
It's
be
like,
large.
you know what the
Counting
trend
them
with
as
these states
non-Hispanics.
are, War?
They're
They start
basically
out
white
blue and
Hispanics, so they don't count.
they
Yeah.
Republicans can't claim them
As we said.
as their voters.
So
but hey,
Philadelphia.
they voted, and they voted for Donald Trump.
Okay, the
and
good
it didn't
news
just happen in
is
Florida.
if we
They're
look at
voting for him in
Pennsylvania,
other
which is
states
the
right now,
major state
to the
during this
surprise of a
election,
lot.
we're
And
going
there's-
to
there's
we've
a question,
taken one of
there's
their
somebody in Florida tweeting about this,
states
that
in
a
the
top
bottom
Democrat
right,
had
and
complained
it
him
was
privately
one of their
that it
fairly
was the
strong
BLM
states
support by
actually.
Democrats there that turned off a lot of
So that
Hispanics
means that we're
because
probably going to take
they
most
don't
of their
wanna
weak
defund the
states.
police. right? That
But
they understand
they have taken
that
some of
caused a lot
our
of
weak
danger,
states
caused
as
a lot of
well,
danger
not as
in
many.
minority communities and elsewhere.
They've managed to
And,
flip the very
this is
top
sort of a
left,
liberal
Erie
dream
counties,
that they
or
actually
Erie's
tried in
county,
Minneapolis, Minnesota, only
and
to
also the
totally
one beside
reverse
that,
it.
which is
That
much
was
more
the
severe.
George Floyd city.
Right.
So we're defunding them. It was a unanimous vote, and then they reversed it. And I think
That one beside it was like a 50,
We'll find out because they'll
something in the
ask,
50s
what the
before.
reasons were in the exit polls.
Below that, it's gonna be red, I think.
But if that actually pushed Hispanics to the
Everything,
to the
nearly,
polls
yeah,
for
everything
Trump,
else is
it's
going to
gonna
be
a major
red,
story.
I think.
And
Who
the
is
problem.
voting? Please, just any of you know. I don't know the answer. This is an open question.
So
Maybe
we
Megan
could definitely
knows.
take Pennsylvania.
Why is Ohio close? Who
We've been
is
gaining
voting?
forever.
And I mean this sincerely. Other than a leftist, who in Ohio is voting for Biden?
I
We've
think
taken
it's
Ohio.
college-educated whites. I think that the big
There
story
were
of
that
this.
many in Ohio?
I think the big story of this election may
Let's take
be
Pennsylvania.
that Trump
We're
actually
about to
gets the
take
inroads
Kansas.
in minority populations that we've always wanted to see a
So are
Republican
there any other
get,
states we
and
have to be
but he
worried
had
about
losses
other than the ones we talked
among
about?
white
Like
voters that
Pennsylvania?
still
No.
managed to cost him the election.
Missouri,
will be
Arizona,
Story
possibly.
will not validate the pollsters who've been so wrong so far tonight,
what,
but they'll be able to live
Arizona?
to fight another day because
Yeah.
if Biden wins, it actually doesn't matter if they blew
I mean,
Florida by almost
look.
6 points, right? They just get credit because they made the ultimate top
I
line.
No,
think that's a
Arizona's
major
not.
reason.
Arizona's
People don't tend to speak about this.
No,
When
Arizona's
they
probably
speak
not
about
gonna
free
flip.
college tuition,
Yeah.
they really
Do you hear me
excuse
breathing?
They really
Yeah.
want everyone to go to college.
Just a second ago.
College produces leftists.
Now you're fine.
Is that an unfair
College
statement?
produces leftists.
And listen, I don't think colleges, I don't think the university, I don't think the academy can be reformed. I don't think that the media can be reformed. The
So
legacy
let me
media
look at
can be
North
reformed.
Carolina again.
I
North
don't think
Carolina's
Hollywood
point.
can be reformed.
Keep in
It's
mind,
come
we're,
down
obvi-
to
we're
you
obviously
can't
going to
redeem
take
them.
Alaska.
Right.
You
We're
can't
gonna
remove
take
them.
North
You have to
Carolina, I
replace
think.
them. And that's what Prager U is doing, where the Academy is concerned. It's what Daily Wire
We're gonna
and
take
Megan
Alaska.
with her podcast are
Alaska
doing.
isn't
Where the
very
media is
major.
concerned, we have to figure out how to do it with
But
entertainment.
they
as
will
well.
try to shut us down. If they own everything except the Supreme Court, then they will do whatever they can to shut us down.
The story of this election so far, and obviously it's still early in the night, relatively speaking.
We're gaining
the story
on
of the election is the shift
Pennsylvania.
in Latino vote. I mean, it's just
What'd you say?
it's stunning.
We're
And what it
gaining in
really shows
Pennsylvania.
is that when it comes to the woke coalition, the strongest, and
Yeah,
we know this
you're
by
right.
polling data, the
We just
strongest
went
members of the
really
woke
higher,
coalition
way higher.
are the white idiots.
Nice.
They are. They're the
That's
strongest
right.
members of the woke coalition.
Right.
Black Americans don't care about this woke crap, which is why they voted in favor of Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primaries. Latino Americans are sick to death of this crap. The best tweet I've seen tonight is Republicans are winning the Latino vote and Democrats are winning the Latinx vote. Because nobody who's Latino calls themselves Latinx.
Yes, of course.
Which is hysterical. And it's all these self-flattering and self-flagellating white people who think they're going to lead minorities to the promised land by treating them as not fully capable of making human adult decisions. It's absolutely wild.
Why are people
Megan,
spamming the chat
when you
with
look at
Biden?
this right now, I mean, the media coverage
Because
so
people
far,
are
it seems like people
stupid
are
and
really
think
holding
just
back
because you have a
at
higher
this point.
percentage at the
But we
moment
have seen
means
some
you're
early
going to
indicators
win.
of the insanity from Nicole Hannah-Jones and a couple other reporters now reporting
Or
that Latino
higher,
people are not
yeah,
Latino anymore. What do you
higher,
make of it?
Yeah, of course. It's
electoral
like a
college.
knee-jerk reaction. The fact that somebody like Nicole Hannah-Jones
listen to
gets the
Megyn Kelly
credibility
for a
she
bit.
does, that her Pulitzer Prize has not been
Surprised they
revoked
got her on here.
for her joke of his 1619
So
project,
Trump's
which the
gonna
New York
take
Times is
Texas,
slowly taking off
obviously,
with an
before
eraser
it
without
ends.
announcing all the mistakes that were in there. And mistakes is being charitable. Intentional lies might be another way to put it. And then you've got Ibram X. Kendi, who was tweeting out when Amy Coney Barrett was nominated, like, I'm not talking about her. I'm just saying historically, when white people adopt black babies,
Or-
it's kind of
Technically,
Or
yeah.
fix your breathing.
exploit them. And it's like
Why?
at
Okay,
the
it's
time,
glitched. Let me fix
directly
it.
to her, only it was 2 minutes after she was announced. And these people are around and get paid thousands and thousands of dollars to educate white people in various corporations and so on how they are racist. I mean, it's like, it's insane, right? And so I do think, though, that the white suburban women
How is
have
this?
tended to be a problem for Trump. And I think a lot of them have bought into the woke messaging.
Right now, it
they've been
seems fine.
guilted so much by their neighbors
Not
that they're
talking
bigots and they're
shit.
awful if
That
they
was you
don't.
shouldn't talk.
That
registered to be
they're
talking.
signing
They
up.
want to be liked. That's a good point. That's right, Megan.
North Carolina, apparently Trump's leading now.
By the way, you mentioned about revoking the Pulitzer
Expected.
Prize, Megan.
No, it's not yet,
The
but
New
it's
York
about
Times
to be.
has still held on to the
I
Pulitzer
expected
Prize
them to lead.
of 1934.
Carolina, we're
for
almost
Walter
certainly going to
Duranty,
win.
who denied that
Media
Ukrainians
continuously
were being
underestimates
starved by
Trump.
Stalin. 6 million
Now
Ukrainians
own
were starved by
Kansas.
Stalin. read Ann Applebaum's book.
It's a great book. Did you see the movie that came out about
Red
this?
Famine.
You got Kansas?
They just
No.
came out with a movie.
Yeah.
about
Is
this.
that right? The Holodomor?
It's
Missouri,
really,
we're
really
gaining.
good.
I should bring up, by the way, first of all,
Missouri
I'd
we
like
can
to
take.
congratulate Megan
Pennsylvania,
on her
we're gaining
extended
really
invitation. It was
quick.
excellent. But secondly,
We were at 20.
Remember
When he came back originally, we were at 20
Yeah, they're saying that Trump
Where?
has the momentum there in the final counties,
in
and it looks like
Pennsylvania.
there's a decent shot that he pulls out Ohio.
And
So
now
if he
you're
pulls
at
out
45. And how was
if
your
he pulls
Biden?
out
But
Ohio,
we know what he
then
was at.
obviously
Pretty much
the next
like
look
80 in
moves
that
on to presumably Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and that is, I mean, for the country.
And it just started rising.
Right,
now.
North Carolina is still there, although the New York Times is saying that their needle has him about an 80% shot to win North Carolina. So if he wins North Carolina, it goes to Pennsylvania.
Trump's
Given his performance in
according
Ohio
to New
and
York
North Carolina,
Times,
that's very competitive.
Trump's
The Sun
probably
polls
gonna win North
extremely fast in the
Carolina,
polls in
and
North
New York
Carolina
Times
in the
is very
polls,
liberal.
which have been systemically off. They're systemically
They're one
off
of the
this year.
better
What is it?
liberal
If what you're
groups,
seeing
but they're
happening
still
is
liberal.
happening.
About
Then
And the Amish vote in Michigan.
There's
those horses
about
are moving. They're
80%
slow.
of
You know,
win
they're
Pennsylvania.
Thank you,
They're
Ed.
slow,
That's
you
the
know.
major swing state this
Are we-
election.
Well, Megan, thank you again.
I'm still
for-
pretty sure that
We may be sitting
Trump's
around
gonna
for days
win
and days waiting
Right.
to
the
see what
popular
happens.
vote.
When is it?
We may have you on in hour 78
Yeah.
of our nonstop coverage.
That is-
Trump's
by the
gonna
way,
win.
for the country,
Nobody
that's a nightmare
guessed this,
scenario.
even like
Honestly.
1.9.
even
Yes.
If it goes to
Fire.
litigation,
Let me
Pennsylvania.
understand. You guys,
Nobody thought
I'm sure
Trump
know
was
this
gonna win
better than
popular
I. The
vote,
judge's
but-
I didn't think
ruling
he
in
would.
Pennsylvania is that
But we're still not
if
sure about
they
the whole
will be
race.
allowed to open up ballots for how long after election
the
day
Senate. I
sent
wanna check
in,
the Senate.
and they do not have to have a postmark prior to the
Senate's for
the election day. Is that
Democrats right
correct?
now.
Did I get that right?
No, so
House
there's-
is
Yeah.
Republican.
If it's smudged, if it's
That's it.
smudged.
Right. So
Obviously,
the question
because
is,
everything's
if it's
or
smudged,
we've only
and
really
if
got
you see like a
verified
wide,
stuff.
spate of
House of
100,000 votes that are coming in
Representatives
all
is
smudged
very Republican
post-election,
right now.
I have a feeling that's going to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court put it off. They didn't say they wouldn't rule on it. They said that we're not going to rule on it right now because John Roberts is a coward.
I mean,
who won't
I'm
rule
pretty sure that's what they
preemptively on
predicted,
anything
too.
that means that would put the legitimacy of the court in question. Of
Thank
course, not foreseeing the
God, I
possibility
really-
that the legitimacy of the court will be put
I
gravely
swear
into
if
question.
Biden
5 days
wins
from
this.
now.
He
He's
wants to be
terrible.
liked.
He's just terrible.
He wants to be like, I will say this for John Roberts. It may be slightly more than
I'd
he wants to be
rather
like.
not
I think he
have
legitimately
fucking,
believes that the
liberal
left will destroy the
communism
court
in U.S.
if they make certain moves against the left. I think he thinks in day-to-day cases.
Did you see that
The
video
State
about
Department
the
legitimately
communism?
believed that if America moves the embassy to Jerusalem,
Yeah.
the Arab world
No.
would blow up.
Which video?
That's right.
That's a good.
Basically,
But Jeremy, that is still not. That is not
Basically,
the Chief Justice's job. He really,
Yep.
I know that Chief
Absolutely.
Justice is trying to
That's right.
keep himself like the PR agent of the Supreme Court. And maybe it's one
Basically,
consideration
Kamala-
that he has that the associate
basically
justices don't
Kamala,
have. But really, his
I
main
don't know
duty is
even
to
how to
uphold the
explain this.
Constitution.
She posted
You
a
know,
video
it-
of her
my
own
husband
making.
Doug said it's
that
his theory
said,
of good-looking Supreme Court
equality
justices. He
is
doesn't
an
believe
equity,
we should have any more.
which makes sense.
That's a
Equity, and that what
is-
we're going to do is create
excellent
equity, which is going to be
Georgetown cocktail parties,
increasing it
and they
or
start to love
giving
being
the
loved, and
blacks
before
a
you know it,
boost
they
in
go from
wealth
over
because
here to
apparently
over
they
here.
they
He's like,
earn
no more,
less.
only an
Fucker.
attractive
Oh,
woman.
I heard about this.
Yeah,
He showed me this,
I
yeah.
can definitely get behind that.
By the
because
way,
then I have a shot.
apparently,
as long as you also don't
now I
have to
think-
go to
now I think
college,
kids
be a lawyer,
that-
be a
Don't
judge,
earn less.
or really
Now
have
the
any other
kids in my
qualifications.
school are
But
pretty
being
sure
homely,
Trump's
that
gonna.
could be my
So they're all just
I
talking
could
about how
make
they're
a
how
case
the,
for
how the
myself.
high school
Listen,
reacted.
I agree with you that it's not the job of
But
the
he said
Chief
apparently
Justice.
like a
One thing
whole
that I
class,
love
like
about the court
the
swinging,
superintendent made
with
like
the
a really
addition
sad
of Amy
announcement
Coney
that
Barrett,
Trump won.
as far to the
And
right
everyone
as
was
he has,
crying.
is that that's
It's
actually
cringe, I know.
not a partisan swing. Like having
Very
originalists on the
cringe.
court is supposed to be what the court is. It's supposed to be 9 out of 9. They should disagree about like the nuances of the law, not broad things like do you have religious freedom or broad
See if
things like
actually
do
Trump
you
gained
have
anything
freedom
in
of speech.
Florida.
That was never.
No,
supposed to be
every-
what
They
the
were
court
at
was about.
91, and
So I
now
know
they're
the
at
left has
91.
redefined court
It was
packing
literally
to
my
mean
exact guess.
putting
Why are
people
they
on the
still
court
at
we don't
91?
like, right? But
What?
we're actually the ones who
Florida.
are depoliticizing
What do
the
you mean,
court
Florida?
by putting originalists on there. And the
Right.
problem
Florida's
with
still been
George
91.
They
W.
haven't
Bush
gotten any
with John
updates.
Roberts is
Oh.
he put a partisan on the
They
court.
haven't called
he
it
did
yet,
not put
even though
an
Trump's
originalist
ahead
on the
by a
court. That
bit.
should be a good cautionary.
That Trump's
tale to us
gonna
all.
win.
I
don't know
think
why
he
they
knew
haven't
that.
called
I
it
mean, I
yet.
covered the John Roberts
Because
confirmation hearings
technically
wall to wall
Florida
for
can
Fox
still,
News. I
or
went down to
Joe can National Archives and
read everything that guy ever wrote.
Very
With the
unlikely.
Reagan administration.
Yeah.
Of course, all of his judicial opinions. And I
I'm
will tell you,
surprised
I did
Google
not
has
see
it.
signs
Ladies
of
and gentlemen,
Roberts. I didn't see any signs.
We have some good new breaking news ensuring that Donald Trump will win both Ohio and Pennsylvania.
I didn't know Pennsylvania, but I knew Ohio. Ohio
sending
already.
him in there.
Yeah.
on
You
like
see,
fluffy
through the
stuff.
Hainite spy
So
network,
to
we have
his defense,
discovered
I don't think he
that
could see it coming.
the Amish are
I think
mobilizing
here's what
in
Jim
great
Jones used to
numbers.
say from the bench, because I practiced law for a long time.
So,
I was
The
Aramus,
Margasters rallied nearly 80,000 Amish to our cause.
has been funny because I'm using the 2016 electoral votes to analyze everything properly, as a smart person actually does.
Yeah, War's been doing really well. He's predicted everything basically correct.
I've predicted about 20 states now, and every single one of them has been correct down to the T, and it's been fucking really funny.
You don't get 9 unelected people in robes.
So, Art, what have you been doing this whole time?
We're just about next reporting. We're probably going to take Pennsylvania.
That it's time for such a right to be recognized, and then
Watch the Daily Wire thing as well, Aramus.
I'm watching MSNBC and watching them freak out.
Are you
Send.
broadcasting, so to speak, from home now?
Rachel Maddow.
Okay, I just want to salute you.
We've been watching Daily Wire.
To see
10 minutes
books
till next poll.
in a
All of
house.
the liberal groups
I
have been
can't
saying
tell
Trump
you.
has about an
I
80%.
recommend, seriously, people, even if they don't read them, have at least one room in their home with bookshelves. With
Aramus,
books.
what have you been doing this whole time?
This is a major.
Watching the
kids
stuff at the
need
council.
to see books. They need to see them. They need
Are
to
you
touch
still
them,
with them?
feel them.
You're in some
This
drama
is a
right now.
home
You
that
cannot
says
know the
ideas
location
forward.
of this specific place.
A whole
Didn't
new
ask.
books.
But are you there?
Well, thank you.
Yes.
I wish I could say I've read them all, but I.
The council is discordant.
We'll just nuke all Pennsylvania. It's fine.
He's a writer, and
Good.
he took a lot of care. to
I'm
actually
not in
study
Pennsylvania,
the ones
degenerate.
The ones
Wait,
he's
what?
read and the ones he wants to read.
Where are you?
And
What
these
state?
are little aspiring writers too. So
It's
sometimes-
classified.
Up until like 20 minutes
They
ago,
crossed the
my
Canadian
9-year-old
border.
daughter was here going through
I
the New
wish.
York Times
They should
update
go
on
and
which state
invade
is
New
red
England.
and which state is blue. And I have my own little bell
Yeah.
hammer here.
I was
We
just
should annex Warcries' hometown.
That is literally
3
it,
years
sir.
ago, I literally had that opinion where
I
the
think
U.S.
so.
should actually invade
That's why I
Canada because
mentioned
we become
it.
the
God
largest
bless
country
you.
in the world.
Megan, thank you
That's a
again for making so
stupid
much time
opinion.
for us tonight. And
didn't Canada?
Canada.
Do you know how much we make off a fucking trade with Canada, dude?
Plus, the U.S. would have to accept it if
Meanwhile,
Canada.
Canada is mad industrious for their population.
Also,
Yeah,
whatever
North
president
Carolina
decided to do
separated
that would
with
literally
over
get
95% of the
absolutely
vote
fucked
in.
in the
By a
polls.
grand total,
They would never get voted up.
Yeah, they'd be called a warmonger.
Yeah, there'd be
Out of
some
2.7
bad
million
shit.
cast.
Plus,
Yeah.
how would we balance that?
It looks like it is going to be. For that,
Canada's
I'm gonna
literally
go
the
to our
most well-respected
Daily
company
Wire
in the
war room
world, and I think
Country?
it should be the U.S.
I'm
But
glad
you
that
know,
you.
It's because
country
the
as
U.S.
a
is too
company doesn't.
controversial.
All right, the three
Yeah.
states we're
Jeremy
monitoring
was
here
trying
in
to
the
call
war.
me.
That might. So I told you about that guy. I was playing Among Us
What's
with, right,
happening
on
with the
a
House
different
and Senate
server.
seats across the
He's a
country.
Canadian
We
conservative,
have
and I'll
an
say,
update
do you
right now
find
with the
Canada
electoral
or
map
the United
and
States a
Daily
better
Wire
country?
Zone
And you said
editor in
U.S.
chief,
easily.
John Bickley here to tell us
Wonka
what's up.
W.
Yeah, this is where we
I
stand
gotta
so
invite
far,
you to that. Aaron.
and some
We gotta
things are
play some
looking
games.
really good.
They're even
for
doing a
Trump
game right now.
yet showing
I don't
up on
like
this
the
map.
large
So if
groups,
we
so
could go
that
back,
it seems
wanna
like
look
I
at our
mean,
original
yeah, I
scenario.
guess so. But like
We
they're
talked
not
about
bad.
the
They're
beginning.
better
How
than
does
the other.
Trump
ones.
win
They're
this?
better than.
yeah,
He wins
they'd be
7
it's
of the
goals
12
in a
battleground
very
states.
high
The ones he needs,
requirement.
Florida.
They're better than
So
ours.
Joe
A
is
lot
now
of places have called it.
Joe is now
He's on the
exactly
path to win it.
50% in Pennsylvania.
Georgia, he's now
Aramus,
let's
can you?
see,
Oh, Aramus is definitely,
86%
and
chance
Donald's
of winning with a lot of
46.
the vote, about 50%.
45
Okay.
maybe.
North Carolina, New York Times are projecting
45.9.
95%
North
chance of winning
Carolina.
that. So these are three
Ooh,
of the absolutely
0.2
simple
percentiles.
states. He's looking good in
We're
Ohio.
about to get
and we're gonna
North
talk
Carolina.
to Cabot about that. He's got some specific numbers for that.
Okay.
This is so
Texas,
good.
he's performing pretty well in Texas.
got
We
7
think he's going to
minutes
hold on to
till
Texas. What this means is if he can pull off these states, he's
Also,
Imagine with
sorry,
Donald
I'm-
Trump and
can
Biden.
secure
If
Ohio.
you
if he
realize,
can
but
get Pensacola,
every state has to
Pennsylvania,
have
sorry,
actually
and Arizona, he wins.
well,
He wins the night.
Both of those he's pulled pretty well in. Pennsylvania, key. We
Pennsylvania and
said at the beginning, this is gonna be
Arizona.
essential.
and we win.
It's looking good.
Okay.
We got a lot to watch.
Yeah,
but,
Arizona, we have to
there's
keep an
reason
eye
to be
on.
optimistic.
There's a lot happening, and we're
But
still
we're gonna
waiting
get, like,
both
Idaho,
on
I'm
final
pretty sure.
tallies
We're gonna
in Georgia and
Montana,
North
too.
Carolina.
Right.
But as you guys have been saying, the predictions of the
Well,
trends
yeah, we're probably gonna
seem
get
to
that
be in
line
the
there.
direction of
Iowa
Trump,
as well,
Pence
'cause Iowa's
win
not
in
counting.
those
Exactly.
states.
We don't even-
And
we don't
now
even
we're gonna take
need
it to,
Pennsylvania
the
to
other
win
part
at
of the
this
war
point.
room where Cabot is
Yeah,
going to be
'cause
giving us an
you
update
check
because we're
Michigan and
starting to see a
Wisconsin.
lot of data guys starting to come in from the important swing state of
Dominating
Ohio. Cabot.
in Michigan.
I jumped in a little bit early there because I was so excited to tell you about all the
Dems
new data
were kind
that
of
we're
like
getting
saying
in.
Michigan
Ohio,
could go
one of the
blue,
key
but
states that people have been talking about, President Trump needs
Let's
to
check
have for his
Twitter again. I
plausible
want to
map.
see where the major
74% reporting. President Trump is now up
Oh, it is funny.
2.4% in Ohio.
The fact
He took
that
lead there
Illinois
about
is a
15 minutes ago, and since
47.
then
It
he's
has
been rapidly
47%.
climbing.
I have to send you this
North
tweet
Carolina,
that
John
Tim
touched on it earlier.
Illinois,
85% reporting.
sir,
The president now
Illinois
leads
could
49.6
legitimately
to
go Trump.
49.2%. The New York Times projections, which we've been talking about all
Legit.
night, they are now saying
Look at
President
Illinois
Trump has
right now.
a 95% chance of winning North Carolina. And in Georgia, 47% reporting. Still waiting for some of those larger counties surrounding Atlanta. President Trump is up 40%. We're gonna have to wait to see just
Look at the
how high the voter turnout
percentages.
is
Oh my
in the surrounding
God,
counties around
bro!
Atlanta. And one more
I could have
fun little nugget
contributed
out
this
there.
if I.
In 2016,
If my thing is
a
they
lot of
made it
betting
still
markets
blue.
gave a
If
pretty
I could only,
accurate
if I was only
depiction
2 months
of what was
older, I
going
could
on in
have
the presidential
contributed to
election
this.
this year throughout
There's an actual
2019 and 2020,
chance.
especially after COVID.
What if,
President
man?
Trump was a big
That would be
underdog
crazy.
in
That
the
would
betting
change
markets. We can now tell you that President Trump is actually
Still
winning
red.
in most of the betting markets by a
It was
2.5 to
50.
1 margin.
It was
So if you had money on President
56-38
Trump, I would
last
suggest
time.
maybe selling it now, maybe pulling out a little
56-38.
early if you want to get a quick
Illinois
profit.
is
But
leading.
President Trump is up in the voting markets as well, or in the betting markets as well. So we're going to
So
continue to monitor
Illinois is
all of those
33%,
states. Another
so
race
it's gonna
we're
happen.
looking at very
Check the
carefully is
counties.
John James in Michigan. This is a race
Illinois
that a lot
is
of Republicans have looked at
43%,
as
so
a
it couldn't
potential
happen, you
opportunity
say?
to pick up a seat
No, I
for
said
the
check.
Republican.
No, it's
check.
third.
Right
I
now
said check.
in Michigan, we have
I said
about
check with the
24%
Yeah.
of the numbers,
I'm pretty
and
sure
John
it could
James
happen.
is leading.
Okay.
Again, we're going to continue to update
Yeah,
you
it definitely
as we
could
get more
happen.
information there.
If
Now,
it's
we're gonna
not,
go to
it's not
Wisconsin now,
confirmed
where
on the
we're starting to get
official
some data
electoral
in.
map,
Ian
it
was
can
talking with me
happen.
earlier about some of the results we've
I
seen.
wonder if the
A lot
Green
of people
Party
interested
does
in
it.
what
Actually,
happened in
wait,
Kenosha.
no, it
Ian was
can't
telling me
happen.
earlier, Kenosha, what are
It
numbers
can't
right
happen
about now? About
technically.
68%?
It's just gonna be very close. Like I wouldn't be
Right now,
surprised
live
if we
on
get
New York Times website,
if we get
Donald
another
Trump has
good Republican
practically double
candidate.
the number of votes,
That
as
Illinois, if
Biden.
Illinois wins
And
the next
early on in
election.
2016, that was a very,
If we
very
get-
close
yeah,
race. So it
yeah,
turns
we're
down,
gonna
burning
have a
down your
different
neighborhood, and
Republican
the Democrats just smiling along doesn't do great for the
Excellent.
What do you
voting.
mean
So
probably?
interesting to watch that county.
Okay.
There's no
Of course, in
probably
addition
in
to the rest
that.
of Wisconsin.
So people have been asking a lot
losing, though.
online about Virginia as well. This is something people have been saying. Why aren't we talking more about Virginia? Again, to clarify for people just tuning in recently, right when the voting stopped in Virginia, Fox News was the first news agency to call it.
I wonder how Joe
for
Biden treated
Since
if
then,
he lost.
no one else has called.
Hillary did it well.
The results in
I'm actually
Virginia
pretty
have been
surprised
incredibly
with Hillary
close.
said.
Right now,
How
President
Hillary
Trump
reacted to
up
her.
53 to 45 on Vice President Biden. That's with 53% reporting in. Now, one issue with
I
that
wonder
is
if
there
Joe
are
Biden will
a
be
huge number of absentee ballots as well as
I
early
wonder if
voting
anything's gonna come
from
out
Northern
like,
Virginia
oh,
and then down in
something's
Newport
big
News,
in
Virginia.
states.
Those are two areas where Biden is counting on
However,
a
I
strong
don't think it would be rigged in
areas for him. So
Republicans'
it's
favor.
similar to Atlanta, where it's going to come down to voter
I'm
turnout
not
in
kidding.
Atlanta to see if Biden can turn the
Every
tide there.
blue
In
state
Virginia, where he is
for
expected to
Joe
win, if
right
he can
now is
drive up that voter turnout
a
in
blue,
Northern Virginia, down in
confirmed blue
Newport
state.
News, Virginia Beach. He's counting on it. So, Alicia,
Makes sense.
we got a
North
lot of data
Carolina,
to break down, but
Pennsylvania.
right now,
Yeah.
continues to be a
We're going to be
positive
getting
night for the
Texas
president so
very
far.
soon. We're going to be getting Kansas very soon.
It's fascinating.
Florida
what's happening.
very,
And there are
very
some people on
soon.
Twitter and social
In
media
like
and
3
even in the
minutes.
war room saying, okay,
Yeah,
the
'cause
data's
they're about to
trending
update.
this way.
Yeah.
Could Trump Pence have a redo of
Oh, that's not
2016
update.
where,
They're gonna get
the polls
more.
everywhere
So it's
are
not gonna- it's
upset?
not actually
We will
gonna be
sure to
updates on
bring
these
you
ones.
guys more information
ones
as
are
we
just
get
over
it.
time.
Back to you, Jeremy.
Georgia's not very soon.
Thank
So,
you, Alicia.
Ohio is
Guys, somehow it's a nail biter.
it's
We went into
over
the night thinking this could be a
up.
2-hour broadcast. It could be 2012 all over again. The
Pennsylvania
president
and North Carolina are
outperformed
still
the
blue.
polls
But
well
North
beyond the
Carolina's
margin of error in
0.2 off.
Florida, and it is an actual horse race across the country right now. If you were
However,
watching this,
Pennsylvania, it's
and you're
still
wondering
growing, and it's
why
probably
do
gonna be
things
growing
look
for
so
a
much
while.
different than I thought that they
They're
might
actually
look.
2% off,
It's
not
because the media lies to you. It's because the
0.2 off.
establishment, legacy media lies to you. Social media lies
Oh
to
God,
you.
my
prevents you
Republican
from
friends are
hearing,
texting me.
the truth. It's
Clear
because they have an
comms.
agenda. They don't
Unless
claim
it's
their
actually
agenda.
funny.
And for that reason, we need to replace the media. We're trying to do that here at the Daily Wire. We've made some big announcements tonight. Candace Owens now officially joining the Daily Wire, moving to Nashville to do a show for us, which will begin in March and be unlike anything that's ever existed in conservative new media. Our partnership with Prager University, where we're going to carry the entire PragerU library on our SVOD platform for our subscribers. I tell you a few of the other things that we're going to be doing with the help of our dailywire.com subscribers, and you can become one tonight if you're watching by going to dailywire.com and use the promo code ELECTION. We'll give you 25% off. Listen, is it self-serving? Sure, but it's not just self-serving. The only way we are going to take back the culture is if we engage in the culture. As I said earlier in the show, the New York Times
take back,
alone, one publication on the left,
we
has a
could
budget
take
of over
Virginia,
$1 billion a year.
actually.
They have 4,500 employees. They make $100 million.
We could also, yeah,
plus
Sarf,
in
we could
profit
technically take
every
Illinois
year.
right now.
One single
Sarf.
organization. There is
Sarf.
nothing like it
Nope.
on the right.
Illinois
There's
is
nothing
within
like
the
power they have.
within the
If we're going to
2.5
replace them, we have to
percentile.
mobilize and do it.
Or just out of the 2%.
Yes, I want to be in a red
Subscriber,
state, dude.
We're going to start challenging the stranglehold that the left has on media and culture. We're doing that by launching Candace. We're doing it and getting into the more cultural content. We're doing it academically with our partnership with Prager
Chicago hasn't
University.
been counted,
We're
that's
also
what they're
going to be
saying.
launching a morning show to compete with NPR. We're going to call it Morning Wire. You may wonder, why? Why would you get into that space? Well, the answer is because a lot of people like to, even conservatives, like to listen to NPR because NPR is very sophisticated. It's both sophisticated in the sense that it dives deeply into content, and
2.6,
it's sophisticated
would you say?
propaganda because it doesn't hit you over the head
2.6.
with its point of view. Instead, it brings you in with this deep, thoughtful content, makes you feel smarter than you maybe even
Ooh,
are,
now
and then they're able to
it's-
serve you by selection of story, a worldview, and they do this very successfully
texting
for
Cruz
millions of
and
people,
our
in
conservative
particular,
It's 2.2.
millions of women
They think
across
it's
the
insane.
country who don't want to listen to sort of polemical,
2.2
talking
now.
head, angry.
That's just,
political
if
content.
Illinois
Of the type that
legitimate.
we're very good at making.
How many elections has
We
it
need to
been
compete
since
in
Illinois
all of
went?
the places that
Oh,
the
since
right has been unable
1976.
to compete over the last generation.
That would
and one of them
legitimately
is
be
in that kind of
insane.
deep content.
People
so,
would
in the new year,
freak
we'll be launching Morning
so
Wire. We will
hard.
be launching the Candace Owens
But apparently they're saying
show in
Chicago
front of a
hasn't been
live
counted
audience.
yet,
We will
and
be
you know what's gonna
launching
happen with that.
our partnership with PragerU,
Yeah.
and we have a few more
So
things.
maybe
that we'll
Literally
put out throughout the
everyone.
night. Please.
Literally
listen,
everyone
I'm
said
not asking you to
solid D. Oh
support us
yeah,
as a
Chicago
charity.
hasn't been
We want to
counted.
bring you great value, and we're doing that for our members every day. At
Chicago's
dailywire.com.
gonna obviously be
Become a
hard
member,
blue.
Use the promo code election. Get your
No shit.
25%
No, Chicago has
off.
been counted.
And if you become
Chicago's
an
been
annual,
counted.
Insider Plus or All Access member, you will
Wait,
get
Yes, sir.
It's been counted, right?
Vessel of Vessels.
Oh, it just got counted, that's
Leftist
why.
Tears, hot or cold
Okay.
tumbler.
Illinois dropped
Listen, why
like
wouldn't
yeah,
you
now
wanna
it's a
drink your
10
leftist tears
percentile.
from a tumbler such as this? Please subscribe. Our
So,
subscribers are the reason
that
that
can
this
be
broadcast is
redacted.
free for everyone tonight. Guys, it's a horse race. What is going to
Yeah,
happen
because the
in
polls
Ohio?
closed, so now they're updating it.
Well, the latest that I've seen is that it remains a horse race in Ohio. Trump seems to be pulling into the lead in Ohio, so it looks like he's going to win Ohio. The real question is whether the narrow nature of Ohio, which is narrower than it was last time, is more of a tell for Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin, and whether that translates over.
We're gonna
By
win
the way,
Ohio.
Worthy of note, Lindsey Graham
Yes.
has
Do you
won
think
his
we're gonna
race
get
in
North
South
Carolina?
Carolina. So Lindsey Graham 2.0
Probably.
wins his race in South
Yeah, if
Carolina.
it's close, we're
and
probably
that
gonna
is
get it.
They spent $100 million.
Let's take a look at the count.
So
$100 million
Kentucky
to defeat
Left.
Cocaine Mitch, $100
There's a lot
million
more
to defeat Lindsey Graham. It's $200 million they just flushed down the toilet. Just right down the toilet.
Yeah, hate to
This
see it.
cigar is actually made out of their money.
So, guys, before we
Dang,
go any
Trump
further,
fell
our
the
good
minute they
friend
counted
Glenn
Chicago.
Beck, again, as with Louder with Crowder, this is a cross stream. I can't say he's coming on our show, and I can't say that we're going
Hopefully
on his
one day
show.
Illinois will
It
go
is
red.
somehow miraculously. They say you
I
never
hope.
cross the streams. It
I'm
could
probably
be
gonna
bad.
stay red for
But
it.
in this instance,
It's broadcast fluid. That's what it is. Thank you very much, Jeremy. If I can just stop you here for just a second, and let me tell Ben, I was listening to you, Ben, on our local affiliate KLIF that carries you in the afternoon. I was listening to you today, and you
Chicago's
brought to
such a
mind,
Democrat
because I'm
stronghold,
listening
it's
to all
funny.
these young people that were calling
It is.
in. And
Compared, like,
they
kinda
were
like
just
New York
confused
City,
by
right?
The
the polls.
percentile's still at
Look at
90.
New York
Because it
war.
wasn't reflecting
Look at
reality
how
in their life.
alienated New
There
York
are so
is.
many things that
71% for
and
Biden.
the things that we've always seen
Bird
in the
luck
past
is from New York,
that
by the
just
way.
didn't match up with
Yeah.
the narrative for the media or the narrative
I keep mentioning where
from
people are
the
from.
polls.
Is there any other states?
Oh my
Miles from Cali.
God.
Fog is from
I just
Washington.
know
I think so. It's
Oh
so
my
hard
God,
in this
Georgia.
business or any other to make the connection
Yeah,
between
Georgia's set.
the
Remember when he
anecdotal
thought Georgia
evidence
could go
and
blue?
the data,
Remember that?
right? Because you get
Check.
this data and you assume that people are trying to put
Funny
their best
joke.
inputs into
No,
the data.
there's still
and
a
it's
bunch
still
that
early, so we'll
I
have to
thought
see.
Georgia
Florida's
could go, but it
obviously
would
a
probably
systemic
be
point
ours.
here. I mean,
Nah.
There
five
are
points.
a
We
lot
still
that
don't
haven't been
know
polled, so it's still a
how much it's gonna be off
possibility.
in other
Probably
places,
won't
but
be.
it looks like it's all off, and it looks like it's all off in one direction. And what that says to me is that less than people
They currently
experiencing
have.
things,
We've
'cause I remember
done.
that in 2012, right? In 2012,
Ooh,
there were a
we're
lot of us
probably
saying,
we're
"Oh,
almost
the
definitely gonna
enthusiasm
win
for Romney is so
Arizona.
high, he's for sure going to win." There's a disconnect with the polls.
Arizona
Even
polling
more
has
than that is
started.
that the
That's gonna be
absolute
huge.
disconnect that is felt
If we win
between our
Arizona, we win
entire
the
elite
election.
class, between the entire
Yeah, no, it's way
college-educated pollster elite class.
There's this
and
post that's been
working
going
class,
around on my thing saying,
white
if you
people,
voted
working
for
class
Trump,
Hispanics, working class black people,
Joe
is almost.
Look at Arizona.
Because in 2012, I think they got it right because nothing changed fundamentally with the working class or with Black or Hispanic Americans in terms of their voting patterns. But something is fundamentally shifting for the Republican Party and for Donald Trump. And it's whether or not he wins the election. There is something very serious that's happening, and it's a political realignment. It's a class realignment. That's right. And it's a racial realignment. And that actually bodes extraordinarily well for the Republican Party because if Donald Trump is able to start pulling 35, 40% of the Hispanic vote in the way that Bush was, but he's not talking about immigration reform, right? He's just speaking to people as Americans. And if he's able to start pulling 15, 20% of the black vote, even if he loses tonight, it's going to be a lot easier for Republicans to pick up more of the suburban female vote than it was for them to break into these brand new voting blocks.
That kind of goes to a question I asked our panel earlier tonight on who, if Donald Trump were to lose tonight, God forbid, but if he were to lose tonight, who can fill his shoes? I was always against a Trump Republican Party, but the Republicans, I think they'd be excited in a way, some of them, that Trump would lose so they could get back to their own crony kind of business.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm not interested in that, and I don't think America is interested in that. So does this survive and transcend Donald Trump? Or if he would lose, is it back to the old party?
No, I think it does survive, and I think it transcends Trump because victory has a way of transcending. So the fact that he's reshaped the map, even if he loses tonight, which we'll see. I'm starting to think he's going to win. But even if he loses tonight, I think people are recognizing their vulnerabilities in the Democratic firewall with regard to race and with regard to class that have been breached by Trump. And I think that you're going to see a lot of candidates on the Republican Party side pour through that. Let's put it this way. I don't think you're going to see a lot more of John McCain and Mitt Romney in the Republican Party's future. I think you're going to see a lot more of, people who are Trump friendly, the Nikki Haley's and the Ron DeSantis, and those are the elites of the Trump friendly folks. I think you're going to see a lot more of the Josh Hawley types who are open populists. I think that the style of the Republican Party has changed, and I think it's changed in a way that's actually may have been changed quite positively by Trump. It's almost like when you have a piece that's bent out of place on a bicycle, like a bicycle spoke, and it's bent out of place, you don't bend it to where you want it to be. You have to bend it too far the other direction in order to get it to bend where you actually want it to be. And I feel like maybe that's what Trump is for the Republican Party.
What is the ballot number that you guys are voting on where you're actually reintroducing discrimination?
16, yeah.
16.
Yeah.
I've heard that is close. How do you think that's going to do in the election in California? What are the consequences? And really, why the hell are you guys all still there?
I'm not, dude. I'm not. I can't answer the question. I live in Florida. My state's red, my friend. I am out. I voted in Florida. I voted in a swing state.
Back.
It was all mine. It was all me.
Oh,
my God. Illinois is going down for the Democrats
He wins
still.
by 1.
They're within the 8%
And Michael and I
range.
leave for our new homes in Nashville
Yeah.
this week.
So now that Chicago's been counted, we still have hope
I'm
again.
detaching. You get old.
That's insane, though.
Because Illinois is southern Illinois is super pro-Trump. That's why. But northern Illinois balances out so much.
Absolutely. I was actually going to do it if you didn't.
Which would not be the broadcast.
All right.
It's going to be within the 5%.
They've already called Illinois, but they might have to recall it.
I think
Like they've already called
my name
Illinois
is
as
gonna
well.
have
They
the
might have to
plaque
recall it.
on the
Let's
the
check
door
Pennsylvania.
of the,
North Carolina with Red War. They're tied, War.
I
Both.
never thought I would get into.
Look at that,
and
dude.
it's
They're
such
both
an
at the
honor,
same
but
percentage.
Now that I'm in
Trump's
it, it
more.
kind of cheapens it.
No.
Same percentage. No, they're both. Yeah, of course Trump's more, but they're at the same percentage. It's off by a good 400 votes.
In fact, I said it
This is
all
the
time. I said it to
closest
Michael
it's
and
going
Alan
to be in
just this week.
years
I think that you're the greatest
what?
living broadcaster.
between
you have a
between the two
unique,
groups.
understanding
Between
of the
Illinois.
medium that I think is just
Yeah, Illinois, yeah,
unparalleled by anyone currently in the
closest
industry.
Republicans are
And
gonna
Drew
be
is
in
absolutely
years.
right. If they had somehow opted not to put you in
I'm
the
so sure it's
Hall
gonna
of Fame, the
Last
Radio Hall,
election, it was
then the
over.
thing
It
would
was
have
over
absolutely no value.
15%.
I want you to know that Alan and
Now
I
it's
did tell Jeremy he was
8%.
completely insane.
And the
This is
Southern hasn't even
ridiculous.
been counted yet.
You've got enough alcohol.
Southern.
I know you guys. That's all the booze talking.
Arizona.
The election.
Quick note.
See, Arizona's down for Trump right now.
Just a quick election
There's legit
notification.
not a single area.
Wait, Arizona's
National Journal's
69%?
calling Ohio for Trump.
What?
Trump is up by 2.4.
They do 69% already.
With the
So, War,
election
look
day
at
votes still left
Arizona.
to count, so.
Like, try to do some comparisons.
If
There's
Donald
69% and
picks up
Biden's
Ohio,
up
we
by
are
a
one
bit.
state away. I mean,
Like it's a
Arizona,
Trump win.
right?
Arizona,
So
you're- but although the
Yeah.
Hispanic turnout so far in
Yeah,
the
the
election
county-
would
counties
lead
up
you to
there.
believe he may
Let's see.
outperform in Arizona.
Every
Okay,
county except for
It's going to
Phoenix
be Raiders
right
of the
now
Lost
is
Ark,
usually
right? I mean, this is
Trump.
going to be the unleashing
in
of the
Arizona.
godly force at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark for the
But
media. Like,
Tuscan's
we're all just going to have to
Trump- or
tune
Tuscan's
in.
Biden
It's
right
going
now.
to be. It's going to be just
In some other county too.
in infinite
Tucson
regression
is
of
usually
us
Biden.
watching MSNBC. Right? We're just
well,
going to put.
I'm
We're
so
going to put
sorry.
MSNBC.
I'm
We have to put
sorry we're
MSNBC
not
on the
looking at
TV, right?
CNN.
Yeah,
Trump
check
wins.
Florida
We
again.
all have to. People will tune
Florida's
into
still
us watching
91%.
CNN. Right?
We will
In order to
not.
enjoy the full Schadenfreude.
I
why
was
they haven't
thinking the
called
same
it
thing.
yet.
You should put CNN up on one of the.
But we've been talking all night about how we have to replace the
It's
legacy
always
media,
been
replace
this
the legacy
exact
media. We
pattern.
won't have to replace it.
Since-
It will end.
since
It will
However, War, just
Wait,
this, it's
oh,
easy
no.
to predict
Wins.
re-election
Eyeballs will fall out of heads.
results
It will burn itself
because
down.
it's the same
It
candidate. So
already
that's why it's
is,
super similar to
well on
2016.
its way of
Because
burning
they're
itself
both
down to
Trump,
the
but
ground.
next year it might be way different.
But
so
I worry
Yeah, I know.
about their
and it was
phase
way different
two.
for Obama.
You know, their
Trust me,
backup,
Obama in
which I think is
2008
actually their
Yes, I
literally
know.
won
first
by a
plan.
landslide.
I mean, you don't put as your vice
I'm sure his
president
race had
the
something
one
to do with
that
it, but
every Democrat
whatever.
hated.
Oh, that's one thing I
to
disagree
back
with
up a
Trump on,
guy
by
who
the way.
everybody
Trump was
knows,
promoting a
I mean,
conspiracy
he's
theory
probably not going to
about
make
Obama.
the voting
I
on
kind of got
Friday.
pissed off.
Uh,
That Obama
theory.
wasn't born in the United States.
You know, you got those two.
Because Obama was
I
born
think
in
their
Hawaii,
plan
but
here is to
Trump kind of
now
like promoted a
create
conspiracy
doubt
theory that
and violence
Obama
in the
was
streets.
born in the United States.
And
I mean,
that's
that.
very
If he
concerning
said it's
to
just
me
possible,
because
that's
I've
not
done
wrong.
enough homework
I know, but
on
he
what
kinda
they're
like
planning
promoted
through
it.
the
Definitely
transition integrity
not
true.
project, which
That.
is anything but.
Whatever,
You
anyways,
guys
whatever.
concerned that
We
know,
don't have any
I
definite
want to just say that one of,
So
one
do you
of
think
the
we're gonna know who
personality
won
traits of
after
conservatives
midnight?
is that when we see something to be afraid of,
My brother was saying
immediately
we won't know until the
assume that it's
weekend.
going to
I was like,
work,
no.
it's going to come true. And I don't think
We're
that's
probably gonna
necessarily
know
the case
pretty
in,
soon.
in this precedent
Imagine
case.
if
That
Cali
is their
went
plan, Glenn. You
red.
got it exactly right. But we're
We're
now living
definitely
in a
going to know
world where an
Pennsylvania, I
invention
think, pretty
that
early.
that rivals the
Pennsylvania
printing
is-
press in importance.
Pennsylvania's doing
has
better than
come
Ohio,
about,
actually.
which is the internet and the
Are
way
they?
the things we're doing right now.
No,
right
they're
here.
about equal. Never mind.
And that has changed everything. And I think their plan.
Michigan's
is an
doing
old plan.
super well
I
for
think their
Trump. That's
plan is from
already-
the old days. And I think
And
information spreads now, whether
Wisconsin's
they
still
like it or
borderline.
not.
The
I
Trump
think that
heavy
their
ones are doing
attempt-
worse
their
for Trump, and the Trump
attempt
Trump,
to shut down the Biden story.
or the
When you
non-Trump
look at the
heavy ones are
polls,
doing
it
better
didn't
for
work.
Trump.
Yeah.
People saw
Or
it,
the
they believed
no,
it,
sorry,
they knew it was real.
the Trump
they
heavy
got the
ones are
information.
doing.
I'm not
They're
sure.
worse
I'm
for
not
I
Trump.
sure
wonder what
that
happens to the Lincoln
old-fashioned,
Project
The
with Trump.
Trump heavies are doing worse than
like
the
rioting
Biden heavies are doing
and,
better for Trump
and
by a
pushing and
significant amount.
lying.
I gotta
that
ask,
used to work so
what
well
happens to
are
the
going to
Lincoln
work
Project?
in
I gotta
this
ask Aramus
modern
about this if
moment.
Trump
We
wins.
are actually
They're just
out
gonna
ahead
I mean, they
of
haven't
the-
been
of the
around for
curve
a year.
because of what we're doing right here
Yeah.
on the Blaze
By the way,
and on
guys,
the Daily Wire.
Replacement
Trump,
media.
or I mean, no,
We are
Aramus
replacing
hates the
something-
Lincoln
we're
Project.
replacing
He had a
something
big
that
rant
has
about it
burned
recently.
itself to the ground. And I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
I
this
hate to
coming
be,
from
I hate to be
this
optimistic
coming
because I
from
know
the
it's
one guy.
They
this
win
coming from the
Arizona,
one
they
guy
also
who's
have to win
like, I'm not
Pennsylvania.
ready to leave California.
I'm so, oh, Glenn, I'm so ready.
He does
No,
remember the
don't
printing.
say
Yeah,
that.
they're not gonna win
He
Pennsylvania.
was there.
Guys, thank you so much. And I
California's. What do you think
California
California's going to be, Sarf? I want to know if we're going to hear
I
intelligence.
saw a
Blue, right?
network where everybody
Yeah,
could work
good.
together, and
LA
I didn't know
is
how it would
super
work
blue.
out, but I am so proud to be in the same.
It's weird because a lot of their
business with
taxes
you,
are
and
gonna be
this is
raised under Joe
something
Biden.
ABC and NBC never did,
That's
never
right.
would have done. We're not competitors. We're all on the same side. We
That's right.
Why
we
is Joe
compete
Biden still
against each
ahead in
other,
the?
but we all go home friends, and it
Why is
is
Joe Biden
really
still
nice
ahead?
We're proud
to be
to
on
know
the
you.
side with
electoral
you
We're proud
guys.
to know you.
Thank you for
You
your
mean, are
kinship.
you
And
dumb?
listen, if you want to help us replace
Yeah,
the
but
media,
Most
go
of the
subscribe
red
to
counted,
ones,
yeah.
TV.
Yeah,
you're
they
gonna get,
haven't.
You're going to get.
I thought by
Glenn,
now
you're
they
gonna get
would've.
Mark Levin. You're going to get.
You know, a lot
Stephen
of the the red
Crowder,
ones,
Ali
there just
Stuckey,
aren't
Warren
enough.
Chin. It's a great
I'm
value.
pretty
I mean,
sure if you
subscribe
measure
to us
everything
first.
right now, it's a
But then
Trump
you still have a
one.
little money left.
May I just return the favor?
Please.
He's exactly right. You should subscribe to the Blaze TV.
Blaze TV.
The greatest living broadcaster, Glenn Beck. Glenn, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. All right, we have.
By the way, quick announcement: Maria Salazar has defeated Donna Shalala in Miami-Dade District 27 congressional seats.
Wow.
As the Democrats, there are a bunch of Florida seats that are moving into
Yeah, I gotta check what's
Republican
happening.
territory in Florida. Dan Crenshaw won re-election. He was
Arizona's going to be
re-elected.
going a lot
Dan
more
Crenshaw,
Republican as this
good
goes
friend
on.
of all of ours, right?
There are
There's
the
pirate.
they're about
a heavy Republican one that we haven't gotten yet.
Won re-election, so that is
There
excellent
are a
stuff.
lot
We'll
of them
have
we
to keep an
haven't
eye on
gotten.
Chip
They
Roy,
could.
who's,
I'm pretty sure we got all the
dogfight.
Democratic
Yeah,
ones, right?
and he's in a dogfight with
Arizona.
Pete Davis. If
Yeah,
we lose
easy.
Chip Roy,
Actually, we took one of their
Pete Davis.
Democrat. Oh, wait, no, did
his
we?
district again borders on
Maybe?
Houston. And
No, we
Houston
no, we didn't.
Did they take any of our Republicans?
Also, AP
They
has
took
called,
one,
the
being
26th for another
being
Republican,
Phoenix.
Carlos Jimenez over Debbie Mercalso Powell.
All right.
So that is
And
another
Nevada.
pickup.
I'm worried about Nevada, too.
So this is not 2018 blue wave Democratic
because
territory.
Nevada
The
could
national
go
polls are
both
going to be
ways.
off and off significantly.
You know, this is
not a
like
Biden
Nevada has a higher
win.
chance of being
This is-
borderline
this
than
is
Illinois
at
did.
best. Even if Biden ends up winning,
Illinois is
it's
still
Yeah,
like,
it's
Illinois is
Maricopa.
basically at 7%.
People were
Here's
saying
Henry Wilson, who
Maricopa
I
would be a
promote because of his
weird
honesty,
one,
and
Maricopa
he says,
County.
I never like being wrong
I
professionally,
feel like
but it's clear that
Trump could
Biden
still
is not
take
going to
it,
win the
but
national
like
vote by
probably
anything,
not.
like what every major poll's crosstabs implied. That means polling error of mammoth proportions. The industry will have a lot of serious thinking to do.
Paul
whether they're
just
capable of
watched
serious
this tweeted how far ahead
Capable
does
of
Trump need
serious-
to be in Florida for them to call
I
it.
want to welcome to the show again Daily
Get in.
Wire's very own Matt Walsh.
James Charles, like,
I
this
am
is
going-
so
Matt,
scary
thanks for
to
coming back.
watch.
I'm going to hand off.
I like
both,
James
this
Charles. I have a lot of
segment
respect
and
for
the
it,
show
but
itself.
when it comes to
My
politics,
Oh my
no.
God! Illinois is within 7 point like Illinois is almost within 7%.
There's 7.2, right?
Yeah,
Holy
7.2%.
Father, thank you so much for coming on the show. Matt, thank you for
Holy.
coming on. I do want to take a moment, though, gentlemen.
Donald Trump
as
is
we've said
literally
this,
up
'cause you know the
in
media
Florida with
are going to completely
400K,
change
they
the
still
story,
haven't
whatever
called it,
happens tomorrow.
which is
And they're
retarded.
going to say the polls were actually right. They're going to try to convince us that these polls were right. They're not right. No matter how this turns out tonight, the polls got this wrong.
Yeah.
Matt, what are you seeing out from your garage or your car or wherever you are right now?
Well, right now I'm actually in a real building, so that's a step up for me. Yeah, I'm in.
So yeah, Republican
I'm in
won
a
in Florida.
building with a nice view of Nashville.
Obviously.
I think the thing with the polls is I don't see
Also,
after this
Arizona.
what role
We could
polling
still
plays.
take
I think that
Arizona
pollsters
because
go
we
to
could
the
still
level
go
of, like,
pretty easily go red
you know,
in Phoenix.
Back a few years ago, the
because
psychics
it's
that you would
related
call
voting
800 numbers
Republicans.
for. I think they go to sort of Miss Cleo. I don't know what happened to Miss Cleo.
Maybe.
But they go
Are
to
you-
Miss
are you
Cleo
sure?
level. They really do.
Yeah, Arizona's
And I think
so
part of that
borderline
is
right now.
they're trying to predict. At some level, they're trying to predict what people are going to do on
Trump's
election
gaining
day.
in Ohio by a lot.
That's
by
very
the
hard
way.
to do, especially because everybody
Look
knows
at Iowa,
what they're
though. That's
predicting,
kinda
and people are responding to those
What,
predictions as
Iowa's
well.
just
So
nothing
it's just a
right
really
now, or
difficult
what?
thing to do. and
Iowa's-
I
Oh
just
yeah,
don't know
because
what
they've
role
done the
polls
major
play
blue
anymore.
ones,
Matt,
but
you
not the
were,
red.
you were very
Ooh, Trump's also
on
getting
focus
Wisconsin.
when
By a
the
lot.
Black Lives Matter
Trump's
and
got
Antifa
Wisconsin,
riots were
TJ.
going all around. You were digging
pretty
up
sure he's
stories
got
that
it.
the mainstream media were not covering.
Because I'm looking at
There's
no,
been so
he's
much
still lose
But
Wisconsin
most of the-
pretty
in
easily.
this
Yeah,
election
you're
season.
right, but
and
it
obviously
seems like
that might
it's more
explain
likely
why these
we're gonna
models got
keep
things
it.
wrong. What effect do you think the riots have had? What effect do you think the
Why haven't they
lockdowns
called
have
New
had?
Hampshire?
And what of this is just because Trump is an interesting candidate and Joe Biden can't finish a sentence?
Well, I think the last thing you said plays a lot into it. I mean, at the end of the day, Trump has a lot of enthusiasm. When you're an incumbent and you also have enthusiasm, that's going to be hard for anyone to overcome. And then when you've got the guy running against him, his brain is made of soggy Cheerios, it makes it even more difficult.
Florida's number one on
I was
trending with
skeptical. I was worried
1.41
heading into the
billion
election
tweets.
that because, as I always
That
talk
is
about,
so much
as
tweets.
Americans
I get clear. I'm
in
trying
modern
to listen.
society, we
Sorry.
have the memory of house
We're not gonna
flies.
get
I was
any
worried
major.
that
We're not gonna
even though
get
we
any
had
new
30
Call
months
fucking
of
Florida,
rioting,
dude.
These rampaging mobs
For
supported by
another
Democrat-
43 minutes,
encouraged
by
by
the way.
Democrat Party, funded even by liberals.
We're probably
burning
gonna
down
take
cities. I was
Montana
worried
pretty
that it
easily.
wouldn't
Montana's not worth
factor in
much,
the
though.
end because nobody would remember it.
Yeah, wouldn't be right.
But I think
We're gonna take Utah.
it's still too early to say. But it's when you look at how wrong the polls were and the results so far, it's hard to
I mean, these guys haven't called
think
either, but
that didn't
because they-
factor in at least a
Either
little
way, they're
bit.
gonna have to
And,
call eventually.
Of course, it should because, like I said before, it's what have the Democrats actually done
Time
to
to go on
attract
Instagram.
new voters over the last 4
Time to
years? We
go on
talk about
Instagram.
what has Trump done to bring in new voters? Well, he didn't need to bring in new voters. He won with what he had last time. So what have the Democrats done? And I think encouraging rioting and engaging in this open bigotry and race baiting and advocating shutting down the country, muzzling us in masks,
throwing people out of work.
That's not going to do it. That just doesn't appeal to people. So what I would want Democrats to do is, I know that if they lose, they're going to say it was voter suppression. They're going to say it was bigotry, but reflect on the possibility that you lost because you are horrible and unappealing on every intellectual
I hate this
and
kid in 8th
emotional
grade,
level.
and now
You know,
he's destroying it.
James Carville famously said in the early 90s, it's the economy, stupid, about how to win an election. I think you might say how to lose an election. It's the looting, stupid. It's the arson, stupid. There is some news coming out from Twitter
and I mean, it's not on Twitter, I'm saying it's from Twitter itself. There's a big alert at the top now that says election results might be delayed. With the increase in voting by mail, there might be a delay in the announcement of election results. This means you could encounter unconfirmed claims that a candidate has won their race. I got to tell you, Matt, I'm reading that. It makes me think that the libs think they're losing. How do you read the coverage of the election?
Yeah, it does seem that way.
Apparently, Twitter is getting a warning right now.
Twitter's triggered.
For
That's why.
days, and we go into Pennsylvania, and they say
the
ballots,
website
they
has a
still have to
warning.
count and everything. You worry about shenanigans there.
It says election results may be delayed or something.
I just heard
concerned
about it.
Things like voter
And it
fraud.
sounds like they're kind of
that does
panicking.
become a concern because when they
Twitter's
believe
extremely
they
worried.
are trying
Because they're going to try to punish people for saying that
evil
Trump's going to win.
himself,
Or
literally
Trump
worse
won.
than Hitler, then
Twitter's
justify the
tried to
means.
do a
I mean,
lot of bad
anything you
shit.
can do to make that happen. If you really are running against actually Hitler, then I would say pretty much anything you do to stop him is okay, is morally permissible. And at least that seems to be their attitude. So that would make me concerned about shenanigans.
But as long as he's only the Mango Mussolini, then it's a little bit less fearsome than if he were.
One guy's like, I
Hitler.
trust
I think you're right.
a guy about
the
like
attitude. There's something that is
7 minutes ago
really
just said,
confusing.
I just marked the time when I
tonight,
began to
and
accept
that
that Donald
is
Trump
the
could win.
The increase in
And then Ben
the
Shapiro just
Hispanic vote
retweeted.
and the black vote for
And
Donald
one person
Trump.
said
It
you're
doesn't
3
make
weeks
sense,
late.
especially the Hispanic vote, because Donald Trump launched his campaign. We all remember he came down the
Illinois is
escalator
not 12%,
and he said that there
makes
were lots of
sense.
bad people coming over illegally from
Let me
Mexico.
check.
And they said, okay, he's lost the vote, and yet for some reason,
Yeah, Illinois
actually,
is not
they
gonna
went
get
the other
one more.
direction. I know.
Oh, yeah,
they
I just wanted
focus
to see
on
how close it
culture
would get,
so
because
much
it's fun.
more
I
than
mean, they got
you know,
definitely a bit
the
closer,
kind of
right? Where were they at last
wonkiness
time?
of the various
They got
policies,
what,
economics.
last year?
I'm
Or
leaning
last
that
election?
direction
Check.
as well.
4 years ago.
What is the lesson, actually, regardless of what happens tonight, what is the lesson from just what we know right now
Illinois, here
for
we are.
Republicans?
It was a
moving, hopefully in 4
38% for
years or
Trump
8
and
years or 12 years,
55 for
after President Trump,
Hillary.
how are we supposed to proceed at the political level? What
That's
should
a lot more
Republican
than it is right
candidates
now.
look like?
Yeah.
So I'm not worried.
Well, if we're talking about what you brought up, the,
I
you know,
wonder
the
how the
minority vote
libtards-
and how that's
Wait,
shaping
who
up.
joined the scale?
I think
Bruh.
one lesson, maybe this is more a lesson for Democrats, but also it's on the reverse of lesson for
I
Republicans.
don't know.
too,
Someone
but,
named Lou joined the
you
scale.
know,
It's not Lou, so I gotta check.
Trump spoke to voters. The way I look at it, Trump spoke to all
That's
voters
cool.
basically the same, and he's kind of, we know, he's kind of a brash guy, and he could be vulgar and that sort of thing, but he tries to appeal to everybody the same way, on the same level, like it or not. And but what you have from Democrats, they try to put people into different categories, and they're very patronizing to minority voters, and maybe they're voters that don't like being spoken to that way.
Also,
They
Coots finally beginning to
give it
accept
me
that
straight.
Trump's
just
gonna
speak to me
win.
straight like a normal person. You don't
'Cause
have to
he-
address
all
me
these days
as
he
a
said
black
Biden's
voter or
gonna win.
Hispanic
I'm like,
voter.
no.
I'm just an American.
my
You can
dad.
talk to me that way.
Yeah.
And maybe we're discovering that's
Yeah,
what,
we could
that's
still
what
pretty
people
easily
want,
win
regardless of their race.
Where's
Treat people with
Arizona
dignity
now?
like they're
Dang,
human beings. It's such a
9%.
shocking discovery.
Ooh, Arizona Senate.
I think all of us here
Check Senate.
at Daily Wire in 2016 were skeptical.
Ooh, we're
of Trump.
middle
Even
tied
some
in
of us
Senate
didn't
right
vote
now.
for him, some of us did vote for him, but we were all very skeptical.
And we have
Matt, I
House
know
still.
You were quite critical of him. You were quite skeptical. Now, obviously, much
Tied.
less
What
so.
are you
He's won
talking
you over.
about?
This
It
is
says it's
so
tied for
many
me.
of my friends
I'll-
and relatives, even who didn't vote
Let me
for him in
refresh.
2016, who did vote for him this time.
Yeah, it's 41-41.
Was there one issue? Was there one moment that
40,
shifted
where,
you, or was
okay,
it just
maybe
a
I have to look
combination of
up the
everything?
actual one.
Senate.
U.S.
It's not so much one issue, I guess. Like
Show
a
all
lot of
states, 41,
people who
41.
were in my camp in 2016.
Yeah, 41-41 tied.
The concern I had about
We have
Trump
a
was
very
being a
large
New York
amount of
Democrat,
House.
and I was concerned about the policy, and I thought that
Yeah,
he would
House is ours.
govern
That
like
was
a New York
easily predictable.
Democrat, and he just simply hasn't. And it's as simple as that. It's more like what he hasn't done.
The Young Turks.
That has
Oh my
shifted
God.
my view of him.
Young Turks
there were other
response, bro.
concerns
What-
and criticisms I've had of Trump. I had
What?
of Trump
I
in
can imagine what the
2016,
Young
but
Turks
I
are
still
like right
have
now.
So it's not like
What
I'm
is
on,
it?
I'm
Damn
not
it.
wearing
That's
the
probably
MAGA
what
hat
they're like right
exactly,
now.
but that was the main thing, and he has not governed like that, and he's
Antarctica
he's
for Trump,
advanced
bruh.
policies. What he's done with the Supreme Court, obviously. Look,
Why haven't they not
I
called
don't know
Florida
if Trump
yet?
is actually
They did the same
pro-life
thing in
deep in his
2016,
heart,
actually.
but
Hilarious
They
thing
did
would be
call
it doesn't matter
It would be
because the Supreme Court
hilarious
justices that
if
he's chosen, especially
California
Amy
went
Coney
for
Barrett,
Trump.
the last one.
And Trump does the
that
best part
the
is that
Supreme
Trump
Court
doesn't
justice
even
that
need
any
Arizona.
pro-life conservative would
That-
choose. And so
Joe Biden's
that's how
growing
he's
in
governing.
Arizona.
Those are the choices he's making.
Doesn't matter.
What he
He
actually
doesn't
believes
need
in his
Arizona.
heart
But
doesn't
this
matter to me,
interests
really,
you,
honestly.
yeah.
It just matters
But
what he
this
does.
does
And,
kind of piss me
and so
off
we've
a
seen
bit.
that.
I just
Also,
want to point
Trump's
out
not
at this
growing
point
in
that
Arizona, or
the
Biden's
Biden-
not growing.
Biden
worst
just
case
grew a bit in
scenario, which is
Arizona,
also
yeah.
the most hilarious possible
Oh,
case
it's very
scenario,
little.
is still
Yeah.
very much on the table. There could
I'm keeping
easily
an eye
be
on the
269,
percentages, that's
269
why.
You're kidding.
college tie. No,
Like, let me check
100% this could
Wisconsin.
happen. Right now,
I think
Trump
Biden,
is trailing in
Biden grew
Arizona.
Wisconsin. Doesn't
So if he loses Arizona, if he wins Pennsylvania, and if he receives one of the votes in Maine and both in Nebraska, you now have a 269, 269 tie.
So have you
Why is
checked
that
the
worst
counties
case scenario?
for
It sounds great.
Arizona?
All right, no,
Right.
I'm pretty sure
I mean,
most
when
of
I
the
say
counties,
worst
yeah,
case, I mean
too
kind
much
of best
counties
case,
went
because
blue, I
like
think, in
the fun just
Arizona.
never ends at that point.
Way
Then
too
it-
much.
then it goes to the
Government
House,
red.
and here's the best part. You ready?
We
for
could
this?
we
So
could
then it
get a
goes to the House.
If you guys are
269.
wondering,
House votes
Kylo's
by
from
state,
Arizona.
right?
Yeah,
So
we could
the
get a
House does not
269,
vote by
269
the
pretty
number of
easily if we
members
kept
of the House.
if we kept
So
one in Maine.
The states right now are divided 26-23
Do we want
in favor
that, though?
of Republicans.
No.
If one of those states,
Good.
if one,
You don't
I think
want
one is
that.
split
I don't want to talk
exactly
about
evenly.
269.
If one of those states,
That's a cursed number.
or two, move into the Democratic category, you have a 269, 269 tie. It is solved by the next Congress after they are put into place. You have a 25-25 split in the House, and the
That's
vice
funny.
presidency is decided by the Senate, which could easily be split 50-50. Right? So then the Bobcat becomes president, right? Then it's President Bobcat time.
Does
Right?
Pence get to vote? He's usually the tiebreaker in the Senate. Does he get to vote for himself as the president pro tempore?
Then he's not. I don't know that he's sitting at that point, right? 'Cause
Right.
You've now moved past the election, so it's pretty much a mess. But that is the early open all the Pandora's boxes.
You know, I had
someone unlock the tomb of the mummy, like that. That's
Is Arizona? I noticed that Arizona.
it's not looking great for Trump right now.
It's not.
Arizona. Yeah, but with about 75% of the vote in, he's trailing pretty heavily, particularly Maricopa County, the suburbs around Phoenix.
Right.
That's why Sinema won her last race
Wait,
in Arizona.
never mind,
Trump
that's
won
Utah.
Arizona
Fuck.
fairly narrowly in 2016.
Biden, no, Trump's
and then Sinema
growing in
won
Arizona
Tennessee.
more. He's grown by a
So
bit, actually.
Arizona could be turning away from him. He can still win.
By a lot.
The way that he still wins.
Yeah, he grew like by
Pennsylvania,
2%.
Which he
That's
could
like
do. And then theoretically, Nevada is out there.
We're
He
probably
could
gonna
pick up
take
Nevada.
Phoenix.
He could also pick up both
Let me
of
check.
the seats
Well, you
in
can't see it
Nebraska
right now,
and one of
but
the seats in Maine.
yeah,
He picks up
probably
both
gonna take
seats in Nebraska, one seat in Maine, not Nevada. But yes, Pennsylvania.
If
he
Trump
wins
gets
exactly
Arizona, it's
270.
GG.
So I mean, here's one thing that is for sure true. Everybody who said that this was going to be a complete blowout.
Yeah.
Everybody who said that this was going to be that they never had that there was no reckoning coming for anybody in the media. That the overwhelming majority of Americans were so concerned about the evils of Donald Trump personally that they were going to show up and vote him out of office in massive Ronald Reagan-like numbers, Barack Obama-like numbers. It ain't happening. And these people better get with the program because here's the thing. If Trump were to lose narrowly, they're not going to have Donald Trump to run against next time, which is both a downside for them and a real, it's an upside for them in the sense that Trump generates.
This could be
an enormous
California just
but
going to
it's also a
Arizona.
real downside for them because
That's
this entire
likely.
campaign has been about Trump's character, not about anything else. If they had to run against the policies and on the basis of their own
Wait, you think
intersectional
Trump
bullcrap,
could win
they'd be a
in
real
California,
Trump
sir?
It's really
No, what I've
true,
been
yeah.
seeing
They're
in the
not
chat
winning-
and
they're
a
certainly
lot
not winning on
is that
policy.
a lot of
They're
people
winning on
just
enthusiasm
went from
for
California
polls.
to
right
Arizona
now,
and voted
remember,
there.
Trump is getting Hispanic votes.
It's
He's
a
getting
swing
black
state.
votes.
Yep.
If that happens and he loses because of suburban white women, that category of
Well,
voter
that's
went
gonna
for
be
the
counted
Republicans
later.
in every election since 2000 up until.
Did you hear about
up until
that guy
this
who
one.
bet
Right,
like
so
$5
what's more
million
likely,
on
that
Trump
that
winning?
Republicans are able to pull back some of those votes in 2024, or that Republicans lose all of the gains that Trump made with Hispanics and blacks, right? That becomes the calculation.
Yeah, I suppose that the question does become what the party looks like after Trump. Because if the party does revert to a kind of Bush era or Romney type of
really
candidate,
tried
something
with
tells
New
me Little
Hampshire.
Wayne is not going to be endorsing Mitt Romney, you know, or the
Like-
Amish coming out in large numbers for Romney. I Googled earlier Amish for Romney. It has 0 search results. Nothing comes up. So, you know, obviously Trump is a unique figure. We'll see
I think he's right.
what
Yeah.
happens
Me and
after
Aramus
that.
messaging.
Ben, I think this is
Oh,
like
listen.
Chekhov's gun.
Amish
when you
squads are
mention
here.
It has to happen
it
now, right?
has to happen now.
Hopefully they can go to
a friend of mine
Arizona,
said to
too.
me in 2016, when all the polls were going
Amish.
against Trump, I had already had money
Oh,
on
and you look
the
at North
table for
Carolina.
Trump, and I hedged my bet a little bit.
North Carolina's
I'm gonna
kinda
lose a lot of
close
money.
for
And he said,
0.8%.
Michael, you're an idiot. And he said, of course Trump's going to win. I said, what are you talking
Fucking all
Biden's
the polls
a
are against
big
Trump.
boost.
He said, Michael, his name's Trump. In the
That's-
movie,
yeah, that was
Trump has to
expected.
win. And in the movie version of this, it has to be 269, 269. It has to go to the House. It has to go to the Senate.
If nothing else, this is the only election analysis in which Chekhov's gun has been mentioned.
It's
That's busy.
Yeah, they don't talk
Tom
about
Tillis is running ahead of Trump in North Carolina,
It's
and
Chekhov's gun
seems
moment.
more and more likely that he's going to win that Senate.
That's big.
If Tom Tillis wins that Senate seat, there's a very, very good shot that Republicans retain control of the Senate, which is like a fantastic backstop. If God forbid Trump were to lose, having the Senate in Republican hands is a massive, massive win, because at least you can stop the vast craziness that is about to be unleashed on us if God forbid Biden were to win.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Matt, looking into the future, since you were so right about all of those riots that were going on in the past 7 months, what do you foresee this evening? If Trump wins, if Biden wins, if we don't know who wins, are the cities getting burned down, or do we get to take the plywood off of our stores and resume normal life?
Well, I think
If
the
Trump
cities
lost,
are gonna
they wouldn't have boarded up. They would have
experience
taken
the
down
writing
all the
we're all
boarding.
expecting if Trump does win. I mean, if Biden
But
wins,
they've already
probably
been
there'll be
prepping him up
some
because they
too,
know he's-
celebratory writing. I don't think it'll last as long. But I do wonder, going back to the question of how was everybody wrong, the polling was wrong and everything. Because for me, I never thought it'd be a Biden landslide, but the one thing, even though I knew Trump was an incumbent, he's got a huge advantage, he's got a lot of enthusiasm. The one thing that always made me think, I don't know, maybe Biden wins, is that when you look at all these cities where there has been rioting or mostly peaceful protests, and even going back to the Women's March 4 years ago, 1 million people came out, and all of that, you think, well, there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm against him. Where do those people? Why are they not showing up to vote? And you start to wonder, maybe these people don't really hate Trump as much as they claim they do.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just they love going out for a riot or a protest. It's a lot of fun, especially when you get a free TV out of the deal or a free microwave or something. But actually going to vote, that's like a practical sort of boring step, and you got to go down ballot. And you're looking at Senate races. Who cares about that? I wonder if that's what it comes down to. A lot of these people, they'll grab the Molotov cocktail, but if it doesn't go boom and explode, they're just not as interested in it.
Right.
I don't know.
Every single year you hear the Democrats say, this year all the youth are going to vote and we're going to have a blue landslide. And the youth are really excited and they tweet and they Instagram and they TikTok, but they don't vote. They don't actually show up to vote. And that may be the case with the rest of these Democratic voters.
Looks like
Ohio and PA, which we're definitely going to win Ohio.
We're already way we're not way ahead.
Whatsoever, because a movement that literally writes on
basically
page
it's the
BLM
same.
equals defund the police. How could
They're
things
literally
possibly turn
pretty
violent? Apparently
close.
people are
Look at the
Ohio,
percentages.
Pennsylvania. Ohio,
there.
Pennsylvania. Ohio, Pennsylvania are basically the same. Yes.
Look at the reporting percentages. That's the important thing.
County, Pennsylvania, Trump is ahead by 20.
Ohio's basically a
20
win.
points.
Yeah, Ohio's
a
a
county that
Pennsylvania is
won
like
by 3 points.
90%.
Wow.
Also worth noting, Univision had a
Basically
poll
wins
the
like
other
99.
day that showed that Trump was losing Cubans in Florida by 15%. He's winning Cubans in Florida by 40%.
I'm doing commentary
by
on the
55 points.
That's within the margin of error, though. Right?
Are you listening to what they're saying?
I will
Yes,
say that
that's
my,
why I'm bothered.
My security guy had a beat on this.
Margin of error.
I believe Cuban
That was their
extraction
excuse for 2016.
in Florida, and he was like, "Yeah, you have no idea, dude."
Yeah.
He was like, in Miami-Dade, he's like, people are showing up en masse, Cubans.
I'll tell you
Venezuelans, to
something.
vote
We are
for-
out of the
to vote
margin
for
of
Trump.
error.
And it's hilarious to watch the media preemptively.
And we are going to
melting
win
down.
when
They're
we have
preemptively
the
melting down.
lower
They're preemptively going like,
overall.
oh, well, it's the white people. Jamel Hill
By
tweeted
even
out,
more
it's
than
the white
last
people.
year.
It's not the white people.
Last
It's the
election.
opposite.
Yeah.
So like he's actually not getting the white
Trump
votes that
is-
he's getting last time.
I think he's a
getting
bit
way
more ahead
minority
in
votes.
the
This is so funny.
the popular vote now.
He's winning the popular vote. He's winning
Same
the
thing
popular
with Arizona. I'm
I
not
can't
sure it's
imagine.
more by
I
Arizona
mean, California
now.
hasn't come in.
That's
but
They have
with
some
that
more
said,
red states
like
still.
Oh,
fact
Trump
that
is ahead
if
in the
he
popular. I
wins,
thought he wasn't.
based on
He
elevated
is. He's been
Latino
for like
and
the
black
past
vote,
4 hours.
after they called him a vicious white supremacist.
Apparently, I guess my
for
reload wasn't
years,
working.
and suggested, as Jonathan Chait did, that voting for Trump meant that you embraced his racism. And then he wins not because of a bunch of quote-unquote racist, white, non-educated, high school education level idiots from the rural area. Doesn't win because of even those
When Trump won
non-existent
in
mythical people.
2016,
He wins instead
my
because
teacher said
Latinos
because
and
of dumb
blacks
farmers.
don't see
My
the
history
world
teacher.
in the same terms
Studies,
as the idiot gender studies, Afro-American studies, white
Yeah, Utah's far
in major universities.
They're like
that's
14%.
It's damn fantastic.
It is.
It's
It's damn
I blame the deplorables. You know, those deplorables down in Miami-Dade. They were. They're going to start renaming.
I'm gonna have to make a TikTok about
that narrative is going to fall apart.
Los deplorables.
Los deplorables.
By the way, Trump's lead in Ohio is now up to about 5 points.
I know.
It's now up to about 5 points.
Wow.
So that is bad news for them in Pennsylvania. So keep an eye on Arizona. That's the next one that we should be keeping an eye on.
You know, he can if he wins Pennsylvania, he can win without Arizona. Right?
If he wins Pennsylvania, and he loses Arizona,
I like how
he needs to
Aramus
either
is like,
pick up
we
Nevada,
care
or he
less
needs to
about
pick up
Arizona.
both districts in Nebraska and one in Maine.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where things stand right now.
Yeah, we probably
so
have to
if,
get
you, and if you were to, like the fact that it would rely on Nebraska and Maine, it's a wild country, man. A very, very wild country. Right now, the polls were tending to show split in Nebraska and a split in Maine, which would not be enough. If there were a split in Nebraska and a split in Maine, and he loses Arizona, but he picks up Ohio, Pennsylvania, I'm doing the math in real time, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Iowa, that puts him at 268. At 268.
How many points does Greenland offer, though? Because that's
what
what
I
push him over the edge.
How did you feel about Crowder's analysis? You know, I kind of was interested in that because he really does know that area.
Yeah, I mean, no, he said Ohio wasn't competitive.
Yeah.
So he knows Ohio better than I do.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time in Michigan, Ohio, and in that area. So he hit that one on the head. Again, if Arizona is where it's where it's ugly, but it'll be fascinating to see. Will the left? Let's say that Biden wins narrow, which is still very much on the table. So let's put aside the preemptive drunken revelry, which maybe we'll get to that later tonight. We'll see. But let's say that Biden wins narrow. If Biden wins narrow, will the left put aside the intersectional crap? Will Biden use that as an excuse to say, listen, I didn't run on that, and you guys are terrible, and we're not doing this anymore? Well, because that could actually be quite a good thing for the country.
And especially if we have 51 in the Senate. I mean, if we continue to keep the Senate, that'll make a big difference because just a lot of stuff they can't get through.
Right.
Yeah, the Senate numbers are looking much better for the Republicans. So this is, but to watch the meltdown happening in real time, and you can see it. You can see it. The meltdown is happening in real time. Members of the media are starting to lose it. They're shifting the narrative almost immediately. It's going from, look at all these paths that Biden has to win and Trump has no paths to win to. Well, Trump looks like he might theoretically have a path to win to. What are Biden's paths to win again? And and remember, again, this could take weeks. I mean, Philadelphia is not going to report vote totals until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Detroit isn't finishing counting a backlog of absentee ballots until tomorrow night. It could take weeks.
And you remember Joe Biden, the Biden campaign leaked this earlier yesterday, which was that if it looked like Joe clearly won it, he was going to come out, he was going to declare victory, even though the campaigns had said they weren't going to do that. Now, I just don't know where it would stand. As we get to the end of tonight, is there any world in which one of the campaigns can credibly declare victory?
No, then no one's going to be able to declare victory tonight.
Yeah,
I can't imagine it.
You think so?
Yeah, if Trump wins Arizona, then he has the best shot at claiming victory. If he loses Arizona, I just can't imagine that he. It's just not a clear-cut election. It just ain't. Like I don't see how anyone's going to claim victory tonight. I think that it's going to be long into the night. We might have some indicators as to who we think is going to. Like if Trump wins Arizona, I think at that point you have to start favoring the possibility that he wins the election.
Yeah.
But if he loses Arizona, I still think you have to slightly favor Biden at that point. But this is way, way, way closer than anybody in the mainstream media.
Oh, my gosh.
My God. This is not, my God.
This actually does not reflect the poll. I mean, the polls are not, the last election, I always had a gripe with this idea that the last election, the polls got it right. I mean, to me, when you're saying it's a 98% chance that Trump's going to lose and he wins, I get why they said it was right. I get why they said that some of the numbers were right and they just read them wrong. But still, reading the polls is part of your job, right? I mean, anybody can collect that data, but you got to read the polls. They read them wrong, and you can't just say, "Oh, we were right within the context of our entire wrongness." We were essentially right. But this is different. This is actually wrong. They were wrong, and already, there's no way for them to read this, and that raises a lot of questions. It raises a question, the most important question. I mean, we
haven't really had much
out on my
changes
patio
in
talking to
Arizona
Spencer, and Spencer said they are not polling a country
They don't
that
really
exists.
care anymore.
And I think
I don't think
that's
we're going to get it.
really
to win with Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Yeah, I'm really pleased because we have been debating this for a long time, you know, and I am always on the side of
same three.
Polls are ridiculous and data is
That
ridiculous.
third,
And
last
basically
county
ignore
is
the whole
blue.
thing. And people call me a kook. Maybe I was a kook sometimes. But at a certain
That's
point,
a shock.
if the system breaks down, then the problem is they're modeling a country
I
that
wonder
does
why
not
this
exist.
happened. Right.
Matt, what credence do you give to the polls, if any, still? I mean, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, but it does seem like they got something wrong. One
Good
thing
way
that
of
we
putting it.
there we go. We have Matt.
Matt died.
Yeah.
Matt's gone.
Okay.
Like the polls, Matt is no longer with us.
I think that's a good way of putting it. That they're polling a country that doesn't exist. I think it's a sort of a similar thing. We're talking about what happened with the black vote and the minority vote. It's Democrats
North Carolina
think
Trump is,
and we've seen this where they think that Black Lives Matter and black people are the same thing. And so if you criticize Black Lives Matter, then you're criticizing black people. Whatever you say about Black Lives Matter, you're saying about black people. Yeah. And of course, that's completely ridiculous and untrue. Black Lives Matter is an actual organization. And then you look at what they believe and what they profess. It's got nothing to do with black people whatsoever. But this is how Democrats think. They think, well, this is what the black vote is. What does Black Lives Matter believe in? They believe in disrupting the nuclear family, and they care about stuff like heteronormative thinking, whatever the hell that is. And no, this has nothing to do with it whatsoever. But in their minds, they think it's exactly the same. It's an interchangeable group, and so they're trying to appeal to minority voters with this kind of stuff. And yet again, it's sort of like appealing to a group that doesn't really exist, or at least exists in much
Texas
smaller
looks like
numbers
it's
than
close
they
to
believe.
liberals because of
And I
all
think
the
that's what's coming
uncharted
back to
ones,
bite them
which
right
are
now.
I'm looking
Republican.
at exit polls right now, and for what it's worth, this is so great.
Yeah, I
so
saw
here's the change from 2016.
What'd
in the
you say?
exit polls. You ready for this?
Texas
Latino
looks
women,
like
plus
it's
3 for
close
Trump.
with the
Latino
liberals,
men, plus
but it's
3 for
because
Trump.
of all
Black
the
women,
uncharted
black women,
ones.
plus 4 for Trump. Black men, plus 4 for Trump. White women, plus 2 for Trump. White men, down 5 for Trump.
That's it. That's
crazy. Okay, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Whatever. This is the alternative reality. We're living in it. Elon Musk's simulation is happening.
This is not the alternative reality. It's the
They are the alternative reality.
No, that's right. But it's so counter. It's so counter to everything they've been saying for years.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's still astonishing. It should be astonishing, and it shows why nobody should ever subscribe to the New York Times. But you should subscribe. Daily Wire. Seriously, you should.
Obviously.
I mean,
Also, the last two in Pennsylvania were heavy red.
Joining the Daily Wire, moving with us to Nashville, and launching
Last
a show with a
election.
live audience. Not only that we now have PragerU videos available behind our paywall for all of our subscribers, not only that we are adding investigative reporters that we can compete with the mainstream media, and we are forging into new territory, but also because you got to burn these suckers down. I mean,
yeah.
They are just awful at their jobs. They're awful at their jobs. I mean, if you did not know anything about alternative media, if you didn't know anything about replacement media, and you had just been watching this narrative, this night must come like a clock on the head. It must come like a brick to the face, because many of us, like even those of us who tend to trust more in the data, right, in the data that we're provided, like me, even I've been saying, I'm not calling this. No. I literally said before the night started, I am not making predictions tonight because I do not think it is possible to make predictions on the basis of the polls that are in front of us. So I had no solid feeling about the night. I had no real solid prediction about the night. Yep. The only prediction that I made about the night is I thought that Trump would win North Carolina, Florida, Arizona. So we'll see about Arizona.
Yep.
I didn't have a good feeling one way or the other about Pennsylvania. But if you watch the mainstream media, Trump was going to lose every single one of those states, plus Georgia, plus maybe Texas.
Yeah.
And they're just damned wrong. They're just wrong.
I know. This was. I've tried not to make any real predictions. If people ask me my feeling, I'll tell it to them. I made a very modest bet with a Democrat friend of mine who insisted. He said, "We got to put some money on it." I said, "I made a modest bet, and I bet for Trump." So he said, "Well, what are you basing that on?" I said, absolutely nothing that you would acknowledge. Nothing that you would respect or acknowledge, but that's where the money's going to go.
You've been pretty steady. I mean, you have steadily, you're the person I call
also,
up when
War,
I was in despair because you were constantly saying...
I don't get why you're always so shocked that I'm friends with a lot of Democrats.
Who knows? Yeah.
But a lot of people are friends with Democrats.
I'm not shocked. I'm just bothered when you're friends with really retarded ones.
And
I met them,
they're living in an alternate reality because they're trying to sell
when I met him,
reality
one of my friends is socialist, and I met him, he was
Go
not.
over this.
He was actually Republican.
Let's go over this.
It does mean that people are going to start
We've
to say,
nearly secured Pennsylvania. We've nearly secured Ohio. We've nearly secured Texas.
Basically secured Ohio.
We've secured Florida. We've secured Georgia.
I say this only
Let's
somewhat
add that
jokingly.
up.
I know that we watched
38 from
on
Texas.
the legacy media.
29 from Florida.
Can
you write this down?
In recent years and watch,
Actually,
like an hour of CNN.
I don't have
Yes.
anything around.
Hour of
Yes.
It
Yeah,
is
I've got
truly.
38 from
I was-
Texas,
I was
29
actually
from Florida,
scandalized by it because we were talking to Ron DeSantis.
16 from
earlier.
Georgia,
Governor Ron DeSantis, very nice guy. Very
15 from
intelligent
North
guy,
Carolina.
very serious
That's
man.
too much
To-
on the
to
edge,
watch the
so I'm
way
not going
he's
to count that
portrayed
anywhere.
Compared to Saint Andrew
20
Cuomo,
for
whose
Pennsylvania,
policies led directly
18 for
to
Ohio,
thousands of deaths in New York from coronavirus. The policies were full.
Michigan is
And to see how those are portrayed,
16.
if I only
Wisconsin
watched
is
CNN, like some of my
10.
friends and relatives, I would believe that as well. So it seems to me.
Are we
that
surprised
is
by
maybe
Iowa, by the way,
priority
War?
number one is you've
Utah
got to
is
crack
6.
that legacy media stranglehold.
Well, the important thing
Okay,
is that the
so
Young
let's
Turks are
add all of
really
those
melting
up.
down. Report. I hear a report that the
That's
Young Turks
everything
are saying that,
pro-Trump.
quote, many people of color hate themselves.
That is not
It's
currently
good.
peer read.
It's good. It's good when people learn no lessons from anything that happens in their life. It's one
On
of my favorite
Google,
things. It's like
obviously.
when they get hit in the face by a rake and then they immediately just jump right back on the same rake. It's like, okay, so you just basically said all black people should vote a certain way because you say Donald Trump is a racist. And as long as you just keep proclaiming Republicans
Okay, here we
racist,
go.
black people will keep
So that's
voting like that.
153
And
plus
Hispanics
the
are only voting for
108
you
that
because you're
Trump
gonna
already
call Donald
has.
Trump a racist. Plus, you're going to talk
Right?
about amnesty.
Yeah,
endlessly.
that's close.
And
suddenly all
Biden-
Hispanic people
Yeah.
who mostly, believe it or not, came here legally
So-
are suddenly
and
going to get
Biden,
on
on
board
the
with
other
that.
hand.
And
Biden
then if they
has
don't vote like you want them to,
Biden
you're
has
just gonna say they're white.
131
You're right.
plus 11
That is your
plus
solution?
3 plus
This
10
is your
plus
solution?
6
Okay, guys.
The best
plus
they've got.
another
Go
4.
for it.
One of the things I do.
Literally
I
no
tell
way
my
he can
my
win
few
right now
remaining
unless he
liberal
like
friends
sweeps
is
everything
just
on the
for a
left
couple days
side.
in a row, read the New York
Yeah.
Times op-ed page.
He's not going
and
to get
read the Wall
Idaho.
Street Journal op-ed
But what's up
page.
with Montana?
Not whether you agree with them, but the tone.
Why is
of
Montana
thought, the
Joe
level
Biden?
of thought. Because the New York Times op-ed page is literally like
Does it surprise you?
figuratively like being
Yes, it
in a
does.
nursery with
Yeah.
a bunch
Right?
of people screaming. Where the Wall Street
Pretty sure
Journal,
Montana was red.
they tend trend right, but they discuss things at a very, very high level with very nuanceed
Yeah, he
ideas.
still can't win,
I don't hear
right?
anybody who's being
Montana
called
was
out.
red. He can still win
At some point,
Montana.
you start to say, well, I want to be with
Yeah,
the adults.
but
Yes, of course, and it's like an age
we're probably gonna
going
get
by.
Idaho.
But speaking of a room
Where-
full of people screaming, we do have to cut to our war room
Oh,
so
yes.
that we can
The war
find
room.
out what is going on in the
The
granular
war
level.
room.
Matt
I'm gonna
Walsh,
watch
thank
this.
you for being with us. I'll see you over
You
at
only
the
called
looting
for Biden.
parade later
Yes,
on.
no shock.
We turn now to our war room. Guys, what is the latest? What's going on?
I mean, what is going on? Missouri has now been called for President Trump, and I'm going to talk to our very own Ian Howarth about this, editor here at the Daily Wire. We've been in the war room. We've been getting all the data. We've been looking at the projections. Tell us what is going on. I mean, Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri was one of those that early on we were actually kind of worried about. But last couple of weeks, the polls have really trended in Trump's favor, so it's good to see him tick that box.
And we now have new data coming out of Ohio.
So Ohio is the really exciting one. So we've been watching that, getting pretty excited in there. So 82% reporting right now. Trump is up 6.2%. So yet again, the polls seem to be off by over 5%, which is pretty shocking. In terms of the difference between 2016 and 2020, it's interesting. The gap is a little smaller. There's like around 5% difference between Biden and Trump right now. And Biden is doing well in like Columbus, Cleveland, as expected. So it's not like we're waiting for a ton of votes to come in. So
Okay, you read my mind there, because my question is, when it came to Georgia or Virginia or Pennsylvania and all of these battleground states that we've been talking about and looking at the data, I think everybody kind of wonders, we know that there's those metropolitan left-leaning bubbles, and we don't want to call states, or we don't want to get too optimistic, because sometimes you can have an entire state that looks really red, but where the votes, count, or not, they don't count everywhere, but where the metropolitan population resides, it can skew to the left. But you're saying in Ohio, we're not at risk of that right now?
I wouldn't be quite that careful. I want to hedge my bets a little bit, but
He's British, guys.
yeah.
He doesn't want to be that optimistic.
Just it's impossible genetically. But 82% reporting is a good look for Trump. So.
Okay. And we wanted to talk a little bit about the Senate races. Ben, you touched on this briefly earlier, and what the Senate was looking like in Arizona and North Carolina. I've worked on campaigns. Michael Knowles has worked on campaigns.
Also, Montana can still go very hard Trump.
You are a data wonk.
Like very.
Yeah, I'm worried about Montana now. I kind of just been.
Montana's going to get Trump.
He's 11% behind.
Yes, why are you dumb? Look at how much has been polled there.
Yes.
But if things are looking good for Democrats or Republicans, depending on what
two
the Senate
things.
race is, sometimes
And
that
if you
can
look
tell
at
us
the
what
things,
the up ballot
they're
is gonna look
all
like, right?
things that were Democratic
Thank you for calling me
previously.
a data wonk. That's something I can add to my resume. That's very exciting. So in terms of North Carolina, it's interesting because
so there were
9%
three that are
reported Tillis
Democratic,
ahead of Cunningham by 1.1%.
both of which
that kind of mirrors
were
the
two of which
presidential race a little
were
bit.
on
Trump with
were
Arizona, though,
Republican
if we
last
assume that
time.
logic
They
is
were
true,
all in the 40 to 50
74%
range,
reported,
so under
Kelly
half.
ahead of McSally by 10.3%. So So that's a definite worry. A lot of the scenarios we talked about involved Arizona. So we're going to have to do some
we just got more in
restructuring of our math on that one. Lastly, though, one interesting
we're a bit
state to look
ahead
at,
now.
Georgia,
We are now about
54%
tied.
reported.
Yeah, I think
Purdue
we
ahead of
could
Ossoff
get
by
Montana
13.3%. One delicious fact
we
about
will
Ossoff, I
get
think,
very
was,
shortly.
He
I
lost
said, could get
Georgia's
shortly.
6th district house race in 2017 for an absolute ton of money. He spent a ton of money this time, so it's kind of deliciously funny when someone spends money twice and loses both
Well,
times.
it's not just him spending the money twice. It's the National Democratic
Check out
Party
North
choosing to
Carolina.
dump a lot of money into that race. It turned,
Oh,
looks
Trump
like it
grew
didn't turn out
by
for
a
them
bit
in
in North
Georgia.
Carolina.
Definitely didn't work
Trump's
for them
definitely
against
safe.
Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. So we'll
All
be
better
watching.
overall.
They're 92%.
Florida's
Florida's 91%.
Sorry, just whenever I hear his
I don't
name,
know why
I
they're
have to
still
laugh.
refusing to call
We'll be
Florida.
watching those races across the country. And another thing that is
This is
worrying,
retarded.
unfortunately, a lot of
It's
people
fairly
projected this. I
possible.
made my grocery
No, it's
store
not.
and gun runs
You don't
earlier
know.
this week in
ahead
anticipation,
by so
unfortunately,
much.
of
I
the
doubt
potential
it's
for
gonna
riots, no
happen.
matter
He's ahead by
how election
basically
night
4%.
came down, no matter who
Arizona,
won tonight.
that if
And
that
for an
blue
update
state
on
there,
what is
or if that
happening
blue
in
county
Washington,
flips,
D.C.,
that
and
would
what
be
we're
kind
seeing
of
on social
insane.
media, we have our very own Cassie Dillon. Cassie, what do
261.
you have?
So Trump
so
with
right
everything
now, in Portland,
currently,
things are starting to heat
he's
up.
projected to
It
have
seems
about
that Black Lives Matter
261,
protesters are
and then he's
walking
gonna
down the street.
get
Some of them
he's
are
gonna get
armed, and they're
Idaho.
chanting Black Power. So things are
Obviously.
starting to heat up there, which is expected with that place. But
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C.,
When's the
things
next
are really
12,
starting to
11
get
minutes?
heated. The protesters
Going to hard to
gathered
get
in Black Lives
Idaho.
Matter
Watch the
Square, and
protest,
now they're
Vince.
starting to move further into the city around different neighborhoods.
It's, of course, it's
so right
Washington,
here in this
D.C. It's
video,
always
you can see
Washington,
police
D.C.
are arresting somebody. They're on the ground. And then the next video looks like a smoke bomb has gone off. It's not tear gas, some sort of smoke bomb probably put out by an Antifa person. And then in another video, you can see Antifa gearing up. They're wearing these Halloween masks, which I actually bought for my Halloween costume, but apparently one woman's Halloween costume is also an Antifa person's riot gear. So they're starting to gear up there, and some of them have bats, metal bats, and police are trying to disperse them.
They
So
really think there's
we're
gonna be more
pay
violence
close
if
attention to how the
Trump
tension
loses.
is rising throughout the night,
Seriously?
especially as President Trump is
The
looking a lot
dumbest
better in the
opinions I've
polls
ever had.
and a lot better in
My
the
city.
results.
More what?
Thank
My
you.
city's saying there'll be more
I
violence
appreciate
if
that,
Trump
Cassie.
loses.
And now we're going to give it back to Jeremy and all of the guys. We promise the War Room is still here, still working hard. We'll be coming to you guys with more
What
information
did you
as soon as we get
expect
it.
them to say?
People of color are gonna get murdered
Thank
by
you,
Trump
Cassie,
supporters.
and Alicia. Cassie, you're very talented.
Trump
but you're
supporters
also
don't
very
tend to be
young,
murderers.
and clearly you don't
Tend to be the
recognize
other
those
type.
right-wing provocateurs in that video.
Texas
Portland.
is safe.
We'll allow it for tonight. We'll excuse it. Fake news.
For,
good
no,
work.
for now
Listen,
and the.
Sorry, quick thing.
Please.
Can I just point out how full of crap?
If they
the
took
network news are?
Texas,
They still
the
have not called
election
Florida.
would be over.
Really?
Yeah,
Of course.
obviously.
They still have not called Florida. Florida is almost 100% in. There is no
Utah
shot that Biden
is
takes
safe.
it. It's been
It's
over
fif- it's
for,
over-
when did we call
it's
it? An hour and a half
50.1%
ago?
ahead,
Right.
2
Utah,
hours ago.
for Trump.
Ron DeSantis is raging
it's
about it on
64%
Twitter, as well he should
so
be,
that's good
pointing
to
out
say.
that if this were Joe Biden winning Florida, they would have called this thing 2 hours ago.
Never been to Utah.
He tweeted out, President Trump is up in Florida by almost 400,000 votes, with more than 90% of precincts reporting. Why haven't networks called the race? It's a done deal. The refusal to recognize the obvious speaks volumes about the lack of objectivity of these outlets.
He's absolutely right, and that's why we keep harping on it tonight. That the media cannot be redeemed. The media cannot be reformed. The media must be replaced. And the only way to do that is to continue to grow organizations like the Daily Wire, which is why I've been telling you, leaking out little information all night. We told you we're starting a show with Candace Owens, who's moving to Nashville to join the Daily Wire. Told you that we're bringing the entire PragerU library to the Daily Wire. We told you that we're launching a new morning show called The Morning Wire. I'm also I'm pleased to tell you that we are hiring 3 full-time investigative journalists.
Ooh, I think
so
they're
that
about
we
to
can
call
start doing the
Utah.
work that up until now only the left has been able to do. Don't get cocky,
Keep
kids.
Star's
The New York
tweet
Times
is
alone has
hilarious.
1,600 journalists, but we're going to take the steps that are in front of us.
Nebraska called
the only
Trump.
way that you can
Hey,
eat.
come on, they just called New Hampshire.
Whatever, man.
I don't know. You got to start where you can start.
Yeah, they
And
did.
Where
Ooh,
we're
something
gonna
else
start
got called.
by,
I can't see that.
Is small. But we're going to start. We're going to keep putting one foot in front of another. And we're getting out ahead even of our revenue. We're asking you, if we take a leap on all of this content, and we really
Donald
go
Trump.
and try to replace the media, we try to replace
Donald
these
Trump won
institutions that
Kansas, too.
despise us.
Nice.
We're confident that you will come along
It's been
and start
forever.
supporting us instead of supporting them.
Yeah,
Become a
nothing
subscriber
changed in
over
Arizona, so I would have no
dailywire.com.
hope for that.
Use the promo code ELECTION. We'll give you 25%
I'm gonna be eating some
off,
chips,
and
so
you can
it's
be
gonna be
like the 200,000 Daily Wire subscribers who we have right now. You can be a part of the solution because, listen, we're all going to have to do whatever we can if we're learning learning anything tonight is that the media, which we all know went all in for Donald Trump, did so dishonestly. They did so with an agenda. They lied to you constantly. Let's replace them.
I got to say something. I've been talking for over 20 years about the culture and moving into the culture and the fact that the right has abandoned the culture.
Yes.
And to sit here and to watch this clown actually do what I've been talking about is incredibly moving to me. And if you weren't you, I would actually appreciate it.
Truer words were never spoken.
I would actually give you a big wet kiss on your ugly head because you are doing an amazing, seriously, pal, you're doing an amazing thing that has been waiting to be done, but it took vision and it took balls. It took courage. And I think it's just listening. You wouldn't tell me what your announcements were before we came on, and I guessed a couple of them, but still, you're doing exactly what needs to be done, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I actually may be nice to you for, 20 minutes.
Well, not only is that the nicest thing you've ever said to me, it's the only nice thing you've ever said.
I hope so. I like to think that.
The bar was low. Michael.
Well, your botched idiom did make me think of another botched idiom, which is very famously, fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice, the point is you ain't gonna fool me again. And the legacy media has fooled us more than once, but certainly in 2016.
Yeah.
And it looks like they fooled us again. And so it is just from, I'm very excited too about everything that's going on at Daily Wire right now. But even if that weren't going on, there would have to be something, because there is no matter what happens tonight, there is no credibility left for that old ossified institution.
It's inflamed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the important thing is that I think that we can all recognize that Joe Biden really brought the Trundle Management Pressure this evening.
He did.
Isn't it amazing?
It's
what
about time somebody did
Can we talk for a second? We haven't mentioned his name all night, even though he might be the president. Joe Biden is a complete non-entity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He is just a non-entity. Like, no one gives two good damns about Joe Biden or anything having to do with Joe Biden.
You said, I think, in your video about, which by the way, I want to congratulate you on your Why You're Voting for Trump video. It was one of the most honest reflections that I've seen anyone in media give. It's very hard to ever be critical of your former positions.
When you're wrong, you're wrong. I mean,
yeah, that's right. But one of the things you said in that video is that Joe Biden is like a cardboard mask being worn by the radical left. And I think that's exactly right. The reason we don't talk about him is because Joe Biden doesn't matter in the election at all. Yeah. You and I had the opportunity, Ben, in the West Wing to meet with Jared and Ivanka. And we met with them separately, which I always think is an important part of the conversation. One day we went to the West Wing and we met with Ivanka Trump. The following day we went to the West Wing and had breakfast with Jared Kushner. And that was 3 years ago. And in that meeting we told them it's Biden. The biggest threat to the president is Biden. And they said, no, Biden, he's old, he's has-been, he's a non-entity, it's going to be Bernie, or it's going to be Warren, and we said, no, it's Biden. And the reason that you should take him seriously, the reason he is a genuine threat, is also the reason you don't even think about him, that he's not on your mind at all. That is what Biden brought to this race. Biden is nothing. And the argument, the pitch of the left is, if you hate all this chaos, the violence in the street, the masks, the lockdowns, the dying, the crazy Trump rallies, the crazy won't condemn white supremacy at least 17 times a day. If you hate all of that, we could just go back to nothing.
Yeah.
You don't have to have any opinion of Joe Biden. That's his actual strength. It may actually be enough to carry the day. Listen, Trump's having a wonderful night. I think no matter what happens, the pollsters were actually wrong. Yeah. They were actually wrong in this election in a way that they weren't even wrong in the 2016 election. And that's even if Biden manages to pull this out at this point. There is still a chance that Joe Biden could be president on a platform of nothing. A nothing man on a platform of nothing who held no events and stayed at home in his basement, held no press conferences, could win because that is his actual value in this moment.
You know, I was at a Jesse Lee Peterson town hall last week, which I always enjoy doing. And one of the guys there was this very far left guy who calls himself Destiny, and he's on YouTube. And I don't want to rag on the guy because he showed up at this very, very right-wing event, and I admired him and respected him for that. But he was
is he talking about Destiny?
Yeah.
In these glowing terms. And it reminded me
the
of the
YouTuber
people,
Destiny.
Even Knowles is held at arm's length who sit around and talk about, oh, Trump is a pious, godly man who's doing, the people we say, well, no, that's not what's going on. He was that guy for Biden. And I think that there are people who are just willing to jump into that ship, who he was saying, oh, Joe Biden's going to bring back the rule of law. I thought, it's going to be Chinese law, but, never mind. and I thought it was amazing what people will believe if they think they can get what they want out of it. And
that's right.
2 minutes, dude.
I don't think he was
2
lying.
minutes.
Well,
that we always talk about Biden's best pitch is a return to normalcy.
We're going to get Callie.
The campaign is making that
suck.
pitch. That's return to normalcy. The thing is,
notice how they haven't counted Texas, Florida, Wisconsin, Michigan,
because normal.
Or Ohio, Pennsylvania.
The looting that we're having, the arson.
They're going to call Callie within the
tearing down
first
rule of
6
law,
minutes,
the
I
threats
bet.
to the judiciary and the Constitution. That is all part of normal. It's the party of normal that's doing that, right? It's the party that's promising us normal. And so I just think we are trapped in this system of what normal was, obviously in the media and technology and politics and bureaucracy and all of that. And the wise people have pulled themselves out of it and said, wait a second. This normal thing, it's not the mainstream anymore. This is not representing what people want. This is not representing reality. And you said it very wisely last time. I can't believe there's one wise thing you ever said.
I was drunk.
And you were drunk. It was the bottle talking.
It was dark, yeah.
But you said, I don't know if Donald Trump is the beginning of something, but he is the end of something. He is marking the end of some era that has run its course. And who knows what comes next? That remains to be seen. But whatever was coming before it, that does seem to be over.
It wasn't the people's normal. It was the elite's normal. And the thing about it is until they actually form a global coalition that can crush the American people, they're not as far ahead as they think they are.
They thought after 2012 that they had formed an unbeatable coalition.
Yep.
A coalition that could not be defeated, right? That coalition would win for all time.
Can I show you something, sir?
And their assumption was that was a
sure. I might have to go
moment,
for a sec because I got some shit stuck in
ranging from Russian interference to the predations of Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook.
What is it?
And it turns out all that crap was real.
War.
And honestly, I think there's a big question for the Democrats here.
You think that's all that
the
Biden's
big question for the Democrats is that
if
they win narrowly or if they lose narrowly, either way. Are they going to turn further to the left, or do they learn a lesson?
Why do they include
because let's say that Biden wins, but he wins very, very narrowly. Does he turn to his woke left and say, "You guys got to go because you almost cost me this election"? Or does he say to them, "I need you that much more because I have it"?
Kind of behind in Iowa, Ward.
And if he loses, does the Democratic Party say he lost because we rioted in the cities and because of COVID and because
I think they got all the blue ones, but it's over 50%.
Or are they going to say we lost
because
we
he's
didn't
got
14 seconds.
We need to tack to the burning standards Ilhan Omar left. And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think they know the answer to that question yet. But the best organized group in the aftermath of chaos usually is the one that wins.
AOC is
there we go. Polls
won
closed.
Her district again, and I think it's really it makes you thankful.
Idaho is Trump right now.
The Constitution.
That's right.
That it has to be gotten rid of by constitutional amendment. They can't just vote it out like
I got 10 for Joe Biden, dude.
And because
in Idaho right now.
These pockets.
Of course, that's just
leftism, but that's not what the country is about. Still, I don't think it's about this in Manhattan. I don't think it's about this in parts of Brooklyn, the heart of darkness. I think it's about these pockets of belief.
I'm gonna get some.
System,
I'm gonna floss
the thing about socialism is it's the
oldest
system in the world. The
what's
only
what's
thing
wrong
that is
with
new in
Virginia?
politics is the idea that freedom should reign, that individual.
I don't fucking know,
Socialism
dude.
is essentially,
I'm gonna ask Aramus.
Essentially, the value system of Cain, right?
Yes.
Virginia should be red, but they called it blue. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That something had value.
I mean, it could be.
I want that something.
It makes sense. It could be.
Yeah, I think it's even further than that. Whittaker Chambers, the great ex-communist, he wrote Witness. One of the guys who brought Ronald Reagan over to the right. He said people think of socialism and communism as this 150-year-old idea.
Oregon,
it's the second
and
oldest religion in the world. It began when the serpent in the garden said, "Ye shall be as gods." This is it's a gospel of envy, as Winston Churchill called it. And the sad thing is, it's not new, but it's also not going to go away. It's going to crop up in various forms again and again, and we have to beat it.
Is this woman? What's her name from the The 1619.
Yeah,
project.
Nicole Hannah-Jones, she's a nut, yeah.
One day after this election is over, I am going to write a piece about how Latino is a contrived ethnic category that artificially lumps white Cubans with black Puerto Ricans and indigenous Guatemalans and helps explain why Latinos support Trump at the second highest rate.
It is. She'll win another contrived category. That's
She'll win another Pulitzer Prize. Listen, back with us right now, we have our friend Governor Ron DeSantis of the great state of Florida. Governor, what on earth is happening in your state? Why haven't they called it?
Well, I think it speaks more about their bias than any of the facts. I think if Biden won every vote outstanding, he still couldn't win. The president's got a 400,000 vote margin.
Wow.
Not only that, we took out 2 Democrat U.S. congressmen in southern Florida.
Wow.
2 flips there. We had Eric Holder spend $15 million to try to flip the state house in Florida, and we gained 5 seats.
Wow.
We're likely to have gained
What's
a seat
happening,
in the
War?
state Senate. So, I mean, this is
I
up
don't
and down the
know about
ballot. This is
Virginia,
you know,
What?
great performance for Republicans. And
What'd
the
you say?
fact that you have these
Here, let me
networks,
Google that.
some of whom called
People are
Virginia
freaking out in the
before a
chat.
single
Why?
vote was counted, still not be willing to call Florida when the die is completely cast. There's
Everyone's thinking
no
about
doubt
Virginia.
about this. I think it's really frustrating. I think people have a right to be upset, and quite frankly, you know, you guys are probably getting more viewers leaving Fox and coming to watch you guys, so it's probably good for you.
So you're saying it's not just a red mirage, as they've been trying to warn us about.
Biden
all day,
is
that
far
Florida
ahead
is
right now.
solidly going for Donald Trump.
You actually believe
yeah,
that,
no.
sir?
209 right now, Ward.
115,000
Are you
votes
dumb?
in 16. He's tripled that.
How did
margin
he get
at a
Oregon
minimum.
all of a sudden?
And,
Oregon's popping out of
remember,
nowhere.
They were
CNN,
instantly
NBC,
given
all
them
these
because
polls said
he
he's gonna
was
lose by
guaranteed
5
to
to
win
7
those ones.
points. Same old stuff year after year. They haven't.
Wow, they did. My theory is right. They did call it.
Yeah, apparently they didn't call. They haven't called Florida or Texas.
For this,
In like 3 minutes.
media
Or
complex, putting
or
out their
Georgia.
phony polls,
Or Georgia.
doing their bogus
Remember, they
analysis,
haven't called. Remember,
and
a lot of
maybe
states
hold
they haven't
somebody
called yet
accountable
are
for it, 'cause it's
the
one
ones that
thing to
are
miss one, but
Trump
when
right
you
now.
consistently miss in the same direction.
They've called more
every
blue
time,
states than they've called red.
You know, we think that
There's
an
3
agenda
blue
at
states
play
they
there.
haven't called,
Governor DeSantis, we're
and there's
just
like
noting that one of the factors in
Fox
in
just
Florida
called
continues
Florida.
to be a big
Florida's
win for
confirmed.
11.
Republicans in that
Oh,
state,
GG.
the increasing share of the Latino
And they
vote
haven't called
as
11
being one,
Republican
prompting
states.
Nicole Hannah-Jones to, of course, declare that Latinos are now white, which is
Florida
exciting
got called,
stuff.
GG.
And that apparently is holding true across the country. Starr County, Texas, is the most Latino county in
This
the
one
United
isn't
States.
updated
It's
yet.
96% Latino.
Florida.
It went to Joe Biden by a margin of 52 to 47. So we are watching a historic realignment among Hispanic and Latino
This is
voters
super
across
close war.
the country. What do you make for that? And what do you make for that in terms
Mostly
of the
because of
future the
mostly because of
Republican Party?
Arizona.
Florida may be what the future of the Republican Party looks like.
Well, I think there's
It's
two
not
things
actually
come to
that
mind.
close.
One kind of a
gonna
larger
rewrote this
issue of
one.
the Democrats going so far left.
Think
Left
about
on
this, sir.
cultural issues,
Yeah,
left
so let's
on
think about
against
Nevada.
religion.
Nevada's more likely to
anti-American
lean
in many
left
respects in terms
or
of
blue.
some of the
So
causes
let's
they've
left.
embraced. And then
It
I
doesn't
also
even
think more
matter if it leans
specifically,
left, they still
Biden
can't
was
win.
the lockdown candidate. Okay, locking down, stopping
So
businesses.
Nevada's
closing
going to be
schools,
late, like 1
that
a.m.
hurts blue collar folks. Obviously,
No,
Hispanics are
everything
a big
for
portion
blue
of
has
that.
been
It's
called
not
except
limited
for
to that.
right
But
now,
I think when he's
and
talking
that
about
won't
a
even
dark
get Joe
winter,
up.
saying
Yeah,
you
So
I don't know why they're
everything for
calling
blue-
blue
literally
early.
did a video
They're calling blue early.
saying, someday we will be
Well, so it's
able
not
to
that
have friends over to our house
Yeah,
and
anyways,
go to the movies and have kids and
everything
stuff.
on
Thinking to
red
myself,
is almost
in Florida,
guaranteed,
we've been
with
doing
the
this for months,
exception
and
of
nobody's
Maine,
talking
is
about
going to be
it. But I
Trump.
think it really
And even
spooked
if he
people
wins,
because
manages
it's,
to
you know,
win
the
Maine,
media, they
and
like
say
lockdown,
even
so Biden
Pennsylvania,
I
he
think
still
thought that
wouldn't
was
win.
popular. I think
Trump
it worked against him in southern Florida
Biden.
in particular.
Oh, he's not
Other
going to get
than
Pennsylvania.
Like I mentioned earlier, we have every county in Florida has school in person.
Nevada is the only one that's
it's
not
just
big.
so
Well, along with
important
Alaska.
to
How
keep
many
up. But I
electoral
do think
votes
you are
does
seeing
Nevada have?
a realignment. This is
Let me figure
more
that out.
of
Nevada has
a
8,
working
6,
class
6, 6.
base. It's
But-
a more
Oh, okay,
populous
so it's
base
like
for the
nothing.
What shocks me is that
Somewhat similar to
Hawaii
Reagan
and
Nixon in
Alaska won't bounce
72,
each other off
but I
because
think it
Alaska
may
is one
be,
less than Hawaii.
in some respects, more durable because I think
Although
it
they're-
does
Hawaii's
cross racial and
so
ethnic
tiny
lines
and
more
good.
so
But
than we had it
I guess
there. If you
that's
notice
how
in Dade
things work.
County, obviously he did very well with
But yeah, this
Hispanics,
media's been
some
so
of the
biased with not
African-American
even calling it.
precincts.
Mine doesn't even
You
show
see
Florida
movement.
called yet.
It
War.
ain't winning
Trump,
majority.
yeah, once
But if you
Florida's
win
called, it's
15%
going.
and you
It's
keep building
it's
off
not
that,
actually
even if
called,
it's a percent a
apparently.
year,
It's only
that
called on
hurts the
Fox.
Democrats. They can't find
But
those votes
you You
anywhere
think
else.
about it,
And so
Texas
I think
called,
that,
Florida
it's
called.
interesting. Donald
Maine
Trump
just
was
went blue
viewed
war.
when he ran in
Maine just
16
went
by the
blue.
media as a racist. And they kept saying that. They always said it.
Yeah, it just
and yet
switched
here
blue.
he has more than any Republican
It was already a
president,
swing state. That was
brought in
expected.
people from all walks of life into the Republican fold.
We can still win without it, though.
Governor DeSantis, they're
Yeah, we
talking
can
a lot
easily
about
win without it.
the
What
sort of shifting
Iowa?
image of the Republican Party. That when Mitt Romney ran in 2012,
Iowa's
this
a
was
swing state, and it's going
college-educated,
way,
largely white party.
way
a lot of talk
Biden.
now about the idea of a multi-racial.
Are you,
and,
how many
and
times do I have to
working-class
say, are
party,
you dumb
as opposed to what the
It's
Republican
not
Party was
going way
largely perceived
Biden.
as the party for the.
I mean, right now it is.
What do you
Well,
make?
when I say
going,
what
it
do you say
is.
about the
Right now,
future
it's
of the
way
Republican
Biden.
Party, whether Trump
It
ends
is
up winning or
way
ends up
Biden.
losing.
It's 7%,
It is
basically.
dramatically wrong here. And there is no
Yes,
shot
but
that this
all
thing
of
is
these,
anything but a very
nearly
narrow
all
fight
of
in
these
close
are going
election.
to be red.
Well, I think
And it's only
Minnesota.
60%,
upper
so-
income areas vote Democrat now. I mean, we see that the areas
Minnesota
around
is
Washington D.C., the
population
most
index
affluent
visible.
counties in the country are all heavily Democrat. Obviously, the New York City suburbs and whatnot.
Check out the moon.
And then I think you get into those exurbs and the rural areas,
Okay.
and man, Trump is blowing off the doors. Now, part of that, I think, there's going to be an economic component that Republicans, are going to need to tend to. And if you notice what Nancy Pelosi wanted to do, she wanted to put the SALT deduction back in. That's a tax cut for the rich. And so it's interesting how those dynamics work out. But I also think just on these core issues of patriotism, culture, and I do think the lockdowns, being against the lockdowns, I think that really connects. And I think Trump is somebody, I think he was able to do this to a certain extent because,
Someone said they were supporting Bernie, but now they're supporting Trump. That's a bit of a pivot,
If
dude.
someone had asked me when I was 10 years old, who's a rich guy, I would have said Donald Trump. Like he was just so known by everybody. So people in my generation in their 30s and 40s and 50s, we grew up with Trump.
Final
And
polls
he's
closed.
not just a
Utah went
politician.
red.
And so I think now that he's in
Yep,
politics,
they
people have a
confirmed.
different frame of reference.
Idaho's
and so I
been
think it
confirmed, that's not a
appeals
surprise.
to folks beyond the
Yeah.
typical Republican fold. It
Or,
obviously
I don't know why you're saying 1 a.m.
repels some
Final
of
close
the
close
more
at like
upper class
1
who
hour.
consider themselves so
No,
highly
sorry.
educated and
Oh, wait,
whatnot, and
is it?
more
Okay.
elites. But I think he has a real
It
strong
might take a little while,
connection, with kind of the
I'm
heart
pretty sure
of
we're
the
gonna have a
country.
clear
And look,
cut idea.
he's
We won't
won
have a clear cut
Florida,
idea.
He's won North Carolina, he's won
but-
Georgia, he's won Ohio. So now we're at the point
So,
where, if he
man,
wins
we could
Arizona,
win
and I
Maine
think
still.
the election
Probably
day
it's
vote's going to be 2 or
doubtful.
3 to 1 for him. So I think he has
We're
still a
gonna
good
win
chance of that.
Iowa.
He's still one. He's one state away, just like we had
Ohio's
anticipated.
Pennsylvania,
And
so
all the
counting.
media,
We're going to
it
win
wasn't a question of
Montana.
Biden winning. It was, could this be a Reagan-esque
We're probably
landslide?
gonna
They
win
were talking
Pennsylvania
about
'cause we're way up in
electoral
Pennsylvania.
votes. They were talking about a 10-point margin in
Ohio,
the
we're not way
electoral
up, but
college.
Ohio's basically done.
That ain't going to happen.
Governor, you make such a great point here on the frame of reference because the media, they
Fucking
play the
call
same old
Florida,
story
please.
every
It's
time.
98%.
Whoever the Republican is, he's a racist, he's a sexist, he's a bigot. And then when it's Donald Trump, you say, wait a second, I know Donald Trump. I know that he's none of those things. And so it makes you question the media. But when we don't
worse
have a nominee who
on
is
this point,
a
even worse is
billionaire
Georgia,
TV
I'd
star that
argue.
we've all known for 30 years, when we have someone who's a little more in the usual line of political nominees, do you think that will be able to carry over, that voters will
look at
remember,
Maya's
wait a
freaking
second,
out.
the media do
Let's
lie
say
about
lol.
these guys.
Who's
they don't tell the
Maya?
full story. Or
Big
do you think their
anti-Trumper,
power is gonna
likes
creep
AOC,
back in
played
when
with
you don't
AOC
have this
on this. There you
unique
go.
type of Donald
Dream-
Trump candidate?
Part of dream community. There you
Well,
go.
I think it's a choice. Do
Maya
we build off
Higa?
what the president's done?
I
I
don't know.
can tell
You
you,
don't know who they
since
are.
I've been governor,
You-
I've tried to
everything's
do that.
fake.
I mean, we have places in Florida, for example, Gadsden County up here in North Florida, the most heavily African-American county. I show up in Gadsden County and work with the local officials. We work on different issues together. I mean,
I like how
probably
Paul Joseph
100% Democrat,
chill.
but we work together on common issues. And I think showing up and letting
mean, what's
people know that you care.
Warcries, what's it like
that
not
goes
being
an
from
awful
the
long
U.S.
way.
but having?
And once you show up and they see you,
I mean,
and
I
they
know
you,
it
and
has
they
a
talk
lot
to you,
of impact,
not
like
all
more
of them
than
may
the
end up
Canadian
voting for you,
election.
but man, it's sure hard for them to accept a caricature that the media is going to try to do at some point, in
What'd
the
you say, War?
future. And so, some of my strongest Democrat allies in the legislature
I know it's going
are
to
African Americans,
affect
representatives.
Canadians
I mean,
more
we
than
work
the
with them. They
Canadian
help
election.
pass school choice
Yeah,
for
duh.
us. They support us on. We did a parental consent for abortion for
Y'all
minors.
so dependent on
and
the United
they were
States. I'm
lining
not
up
talking about
with
just
us.
Canada,
And so,
but I'm talking about
there
all these
are a lot
first
of
world
issues
countries.
that we can work
Pretty
together
sure there'll be
on.
riots
So you
in
just
Canada,
got to be
too,
willing
about
to
it.
show up, and you got to be willing to make the case. And I think for so
Ooh, Trump
long,
just went up.
Republicans
They
have
count
said,
Florida
well, we're
on
gonna
the
lose
Daily Wire one.
90%, so why even bother?
The
But
Daily
you know
Wire
what?
one
If you
counts
lose
Florida
lose
now.
85
But
to
the Google one
15,
hasn't done it yet.
That does matter. And I think what Trump showed in Florida was in these Democrat counties in southern Florida,
now-
he didn't win Dade, he didn't win Broward, he didn't win.
So what are they
Palm Beach, but
not
he did
counting
better
that's
than he
going
did
to be
in 16.
Democratic?
And that
Nevada.
probably was 150,000 votes in those 3 counties.
Nevada, Arizona,
improvement
Minnesota.
in terms of his
Maine.
margin. And so I think it was really good. And, in Florida,
Trump
we have a good
fell
opportunity
so bad in
because,
Maine.
not
so bad,
only
just a little
do we
bit.
have not just
I read it
Hispanics,
wrong.
We're gonna get Wisconsin though. We're gonna get Michigan.
Never mind. I thought Biden was winning the popular vote for a second,
but
but he
also
isn't.
includes the Caribbean Americans.
Yeah, so we're gonna get Wisconsin and
the first
Michigan,
Jamaican American on our
which
state
is going to be
Supreme
huge
Court.
for us.
We had some litigation in that, so it didn't quite work out. But I mean, you have Haitians, you have Jamaicans,
gonna
you got
get
a lot of
Michigan,
stuff
for
down
sure.
here. And my sense is that we have a chance to make inroads if we keep showing up.
Governor DeSantis, I think you also personally deserve a fair bit of credit. You took an enormous amount of flack from the media for months. You were there whipping post on everything COVID related. You were the guy who blew it, even though you were the only person who was actually looking at the data and trotting out rational policy. And the voters of Florida, this has to be taken, at least in part, as a referendum on your governorship. I mean, the fact is that it's not just
we're
that Trump
behind in
won the
Senate
state
war.
going away. It's also
By
that a
one
couple of
seat.
congressional districts that were not supposed to shift Republican did
No,
in
we're
fact shift
not.
Republican, including a
The
likely
Daily
Democratic
Wire
district
one isn't
that was shifting
updating.
Okay,
Republican.
whatever.
Republicans pick up
Okay,
a couple of
sorry, I
seats.
was
checking-
They
I
went
was
Florida
checking
15, Florida 18, Florida 26, Florida 27. And frankly, I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that the people of Florida just don't believe the media's lies about you and the way that you've handled
Yeah,
an
we're heading
issue
Senate
like
then.
COVID. I mean, I live in your state now, and the fact is that that's the way it is.
I'm just waiting
And,
on Nevada.
we did 2 things that we focused on. One was voter registration.
I mean, we
So
still
went
forgot
into
about Hawaii.
2020, 200,000 more Republicans vis-a-vis the Democrats than in 16. And, we had to put, a lot of money into that. But I think that was
can't
good.
wait
And then
to
I think
go to
also
a
the
world without
registration
constant
increases because
politics
people
for a
move
while.
here because
I can't wait to
they want to be
go to a world
governed
without
in
people
a
saying
better
Orange
way than
Man
some
bad.
of these really liberal states.
I mean, they're still
And I
going to
do
say
think
it, but
that
they're
the,
going to give up on it.
Once you push to have society
It's worse
open,
for me
people don't want to
because
go back
my-
to that, Ben. I
my
know the
place is-
media wants to shut
my
everything
family
down,
and my friends
and
are
you
super
could
left.
probably
Wanna
fashion a
tell
poll
me
that will say
Canada
people
isn't
want everything
worse?
shut down,
Yeah,
but that's not how
yeah.
they behave, and they want to be able to live their lives.
But
and
at
we
least
give it
it's.
an
I'd say it's
The
not worse
average
because
American
you
is
don't
not
live in the
rich
United
enough
States where
for
it
the
actually
shutdowns.
matters.
The most
There you go.
disgusting thing about these shutdowns,
So it matters
in my
less, that's what I mean.
estimation, is that
That's
the
why I'd
people
say
who
it's
call
worse.
for them, the
I'd say it's
political
worse to
elite,
have
the
all-
media elite.
I'd say it's
These are
worse
all
to have
people who
everyone
can
know
work
IRL
from home, who can
as
continue to
leftists
make
in the United States
six-figure and higher
Canada.
incomes
'Cause it's kinda more
working from
expected in
their
Canada.
homes, and then they act as though they're
And
the
it's not where Trump's
champions of
being
people who need to go to work to put bread on
Who
the
do you think's
table
gonna
for their
when's the
family.
Canada election
It's a
for? I actually don't know
disgusting
about
thing
that
they've
shit.
done. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, for standing against it. And
One
thanks for
sec-
being with us
oh, one?
again
Yeah.
tonight.
Thank you. And one thing I would just add to that,
Bruh.
you actually have
Wait, when
people
was the
who
last one then?
support closing
2019.
schools
Yep.
who turn around and
Who
send
won?
their kids to private
Yeah.
in-person
Try to.
education.
Oh, you
That
must
is
be
a
talking
disgrace.
Is he
about our governor.
is he able to run?
Fraud.
You didn't say it, we
Is
did.
he able to run in 2023?
Thank you, Governor. And
I mean, he's
God
run
bless,
twice
thank you.
already.
God bless
So
you.
no, right? But
I
I'm
think
not sure if
that
it's the same.
on that note, after wrapping with the governor of Florida, we should turn to our
Like,
Daily
I'm
Wire
still not
war
sure if
room
it's the
and
same
see
war.
what's happening in the state of Florida, one of the most important states in the country. Elisha.
Someone on TikTok just said Biden's winning. I'm gonna say.
Jeremy, you've been talking a lot tonight about that
That's
legacy
fun.
media, and legacy media seems very afraid to call Florida, and the governor there rightfully calling them out. So we're going to do something that we've never done before in Daily Wire history. We got the editor-in-chief, John Bickley, right here. Bickley, what are we doing?
We're doing something very fun for me as a Florida boy. We're calling Florida for Trump.
They already
So let's
did
look
like
at
a
it.
while ago.
This is an easy one.
And why is it easy here?
We've got over 95% reporting. He's up by 3%. There's no way that Trump loses this. It's actually,
Okay.
it is absurd that it's not been called, just like the governor was saying. What that does, if we look at the electoral
So
map
retarded
here,
they haven't called
is
it
we
yet.
see a lot of wins building for Trump.
Okay, so we're going to look at the electoral map. We want to see where the tally is. We have this tally of Joe Biden at 209, Donald Trump at 141. This is where we sit right now with all of the states that have been called by the Daily Wire and members of the mainstream media. Tell me what's happening in Georgia and North Carolina.
Yeah, so we're seeing him build this heartland deep red base here. Georgia, North Carolina,
Texas will
like
be
we said,
called
trending
hopefully
in his
soon.
direction,
Okay.
almost positively going to win those. Ohio, he just keeps pulling away more and more in Ohio. An absolutely pivotal state.
All right,
He's doing
so
well
let me
there.
look at some of these.
Pennsylvania,
Arizona, no way we're
far
getting
off,
it.
we can't tell.
I mean,
One of
we're
the
clo-
things
we've-
that's
we've grown a
developing
bit
though
in
that's not
Arizona
great
now,
for Trump is that
but
Arizona's
it's
looking
not been
bad
that
for
much.
Okay, so if Arizona is looking bad, but he can pull out out a win in those states that you
Right.
just mentioned. We're going to look at a potential pathway to victory. What does that pathway to victory look like in this scenario of Donald Trump and Mike Pence losing Arizona?
So when we did our initial analysis, actually our number 2 scenario was him losing Arizona. We thought there was a chance
this is
that would
exactly
happen.
what I thought.
If that does happen, how does he make up for it? There's actually an easy way to make up for it.
Okay.
Iowa
This is
has
the
always
current
been
map,
something that
and
was
this
very
is
attainable for
what's
him.
going to happen.
We think he's going to get Iowa. All he
Nevada.
has to do is to make up for the deficit
They think
there, which is really
he's
only
going to
a
get
few
Iowa.
points.
I also
He
think
could
he's
pick up
going to get
Nevada.
Iowa.
If
Sir,
he
if you
picks
want
up
to
one
look
of
at
these
Iowa now,
states
you
here,
want
like
to tell me
Wisconsin,
what
which
you
is
want to
actually
tell
doing
me
well,
whether or not you think Iowa.
beyond
I
expectations.
think
Voting
he's
for
going to
Trump.
get Iowa. He's
Trump's
going to
way
get
behind
Iowa.
in polling in that.
There you go. I
There's some
convinced
hope
you.
there. So there is
Just
a
wait.
way that he
Look
can
how
win still.
many
Again,
Trump
this scenario,
points
which
there are
we
right
thought
now in
was by
Iowa
polling
that
data,
haven't
the
been
most
called.
likely would give him
In
273.
43 minutes,
Okay,
we're
and
going to
I
get a
mean, Ben
bunch
talked
more in
about
Iowa.
earlier, there's a fear that could we be at 269, 269. This is you guys laying this out. And I have
Yeah,
to
it
tell
could
the
happen.
audience and like giving credit to the War Room and all of the editors and everybody gathering information here at the Daily Wire. We're not just like copying and pasting what other politicos are saying on social media and on television. These guys have worked really hard. These guys have been crunching the numbers.
These guys
and
are big
This
brain.
is why we have all of these scenarios kind of laid out of what Trump's pathway to victory is going to be and why we're not rushing to call balls and strikes here, in the words of Ben Shapiro. We really want to make sure that we're giving
Ohio's
everybody the
basically
right
done,
information
92%.
when we get it, and revealing that once again,
What
like
is done?
2016,
Ohio's
win, lose, or
basically
draw
done. It's
tonight,
92%.
polling wasn't
And
100%
it's 53 to
accurate.
45.
Right.
Call it.
Let's call
The
it.
gap
Yeah.
here in Florida
Meanwhile, they
is
called-
like a 3%
They can,
gap.
Donald
call
Trump's
Texas.
winning
Some
in
other states, it's
Washington.
something like a
That's fair.
5%
That's not
miss by pollsters.
valid. Never mind.
This is a devastating,
They-
another
have they
devastating
counted
night for
Seattle
pollsters.
yet?
No matter
No,
what
they haven't.
happens the rest of the
No,
night.
he's not winning.
It's already
Right now he is.
devastating
Yeah.
for them.
He's up.
And again, we've
Wait,
heard
now
of
it
the
just
racist
changed. It just
narrative,
changed. It just changed. Never
and
mind.
it's a
Okay.
it's a sort of a
He was winning
depression of
when
the
I checked.
Republican vote. And I think that's why they're not calling Florida. I think it's pretty obvious. We need to call what's happening and seeing how it develops. This is what's happening. There is a trend here. It's a good trend for Trump. It's not that he's cleared out for the
He's gonna get
the rest
Alaska.
of
I'm
victory.
pretty sure we
He's
all
got a
are
battle,
about to accept
but
that.
it's looking
I
good.
wonder who's going to
Earlier
get
in the day,
Nevada.
had
I
the final countdown in
wonder.
my
I
head,
just
and
and
now
I
I need to come up
wonder.
with a new theme
We're still
song,
not
'cause it
sure.
looks like
Arizona
we
was
could be
shot.
here for a while.
We're gonna know.
The only reason that we are able to be here is
Arizona
because
was
of
the
our
one we
amazing
people
Daily Wire
or the
members. So I
left were
wanted to give you
saying they
guys some
might be able
questions
to
from
get.
them. This question
And
goes to Andrew
they
Clavin.
said nothing
Historically,
about
have presidential
Nevada.
elections given any indication of gubernatorial races? For example, I and many in my social circle would very much like to see the governor of Pennsylvania deposed. What do you think, Drew?
That the presidential
I mean,
action
technically-
had an effect on gubernatorial races. So in other words, during the Obama administration, you saw
Technically, they could fail in
state
Nevada.
Democrats wiped
They
out.
could,
Still,
but
people liked
it
Obama.
wouldn't matter.
He was appealing to them. They thought he was a
What
good
if there's
guy.
a
They didn't
tie?
like his policies, and they registered that.
Yeah, the
What?
Democrats.
Why is the
Obama
Daily Wire
against
making Idaho
everybody
blue?
else. And I
What?
think also, you know,
Democrats could
politics
get
is
Idaho.
Why-
at that level, you know?
Daily Wire
That
made
is
the Idaho
local
blue.
politics.
They
Some
called
of the things
Idaho
that
as
are happening
blue,
in a
but it's
state
so
may not
far
be
red
reflected
right now.
in the national
It's literally
average.
Where-
77% Donald Trump, but Daily
if
Wire put it as
Trump-
blue.
Listen, if Trump wins, this, it's the end
On the
of
Google map, it
identity
was proclaimed red.
I
The Daily
genuinely
Wire
believe
proclaimed
that. I
it
think
blue.
that the identity,
That has to be an
identity
issue, a
politics
mistake or
is
something.
what the socialists use to replace class politics.
Yeah.
Because in America, we don't really have
Yeah, it has
class
to be a
warfare.
mistake.
But we do have racial tension. And so they use racial tension where they used to use class politics. If Trump wins this, that strategy has failed. And that is going to have an effect on every single race in the country.
No,
for a
they
long
didn't
time
call
to
it
come,
blue.
because they have not got rid
No,
of
they
anything
did.
else.
Yeah,
we don't have
retarded.
class. We don't have class battles here in the way they do in other countries. And our
I'm a little disappointed
I
about Maine.
believe, I personally believe, and have said this repeatedly,
Maine was winning
that
for so long.
the racial panic that is going on is a panic.
Iowa,
about
check
the
Iowa
fact
war.
That blacks are now accepting.
1.5%, Kyle.
Wasn't always true. I
1.5%
grew up in a
Kyle.
bad time for this, but it has definitely become true. The path to assimilation, to becoming part of America, an accepted part of America, is wide open.
Yeah.
And that's why this kind of panic has started, this kind of violent panic. If that goes away, if blacks reject that, If Latinos reject that, that's going to have an effect on every state in the nation.
And you're never going to have class politics.
That's
class
not
warfare.
a Discord
Right, because we
code.
don't have classes. You're not.
Joe Biden
you
is
may
getting
not
closer
have
to
racial
Trump in
warfare,
the
and you'll never have a
popular
war between the
vote.
sexes because, of course, everybody's sleeping with the enemy. So then you have to wonder, what do you move
Did
to
you see that someone
next?
said Discord
And
code
it
in the
seems like
chat,
they've
though?
run out of options.
If identity politics
I
falls
vote for
apart, they're going
George,
to have to come up-
says the
They
dude.
will come up with it.
I'm not sure if you've seen that clip.
But it doesn't matter because this
Basically,
is
Biden said, I'm going to be voting
I don't know
for
if they can let it go that
George.
easily.
Well, they probably
And that's the big question.
George
the
not
people who are
found.
most invested in this particular point of view are not
George
black Hispanic voters.
Floyd.
The people who are most invested in this point
Oh,
of view
that's what it
are the
is,
white
okay.
woke liberals who actually run
But
the
he
party.
said, I'm going
And
to
the
be
people who work
voting
at the
for
New York Times, the
George.
people who decided
Ah,
that
you're-
John Jones, the editorship of the flagship of that newspaper.
Yeah.
Right? The people who decided that they were going to infuse anti-racism bullcrap propaganda into every single aspect of your corporate American world. Do you think they're just going to recede that easily? I really wonder if they are. If they lose narrowly, I wonder if what they say is that it's just because we nominated an old school, non-crazy person like Biden, and if they win narrowly, it's going to be because Joe Biden wasn't woke enough.
Ooh,
Otherwise, he
kids
would
in
won by 1,000
Snapchat are
votes.
accepting
If that happened on
fate.
our side, we would call them out for their stupidity, and I think that would be true if it happens on their side. In other
They're
words,
posting
in
so
other words,
much
they will,
hate
they
towards
may
Trump.
cling-
I hope so.
They may cling to the strategy, but the strategy has failed.
Yeah, I
Fox
agree with
News,
that.
by the way, is calling Joe Biden winning Arizona, which is just devastating for Trump, obviously.
Who's doing it?
Fox. Fox is calling.
Fox called Virginia too. Is Virginia still in play?
Virginia's
I'm
out of
not
play.
gonna watch
They're calling Biden for Arizona,
I was considering
which means
watching
that it's now
Good Luck
down
America,
to
but probably
basically Pennsylvania and the blue wall, and we're back
Ooh,
where we were
I think
last
they're about to
election
call
cycle.
Arizona.
Trump has to flip now, not just one. He has to flip
Good.
one of those. He has to flip Pennsylvania.
But compared to
and
Florida, like
another
what?
one. Or, he has or Pennsylvania and Nevada, or he has to flip Pennsylvania and
whatever.
Nebraska's second district.
What is going on in Nebraska? Because on the map here, all the experts have it red, but I know that it's this kind of weird situation where it's split.
Well, so Nebraska splits by congressional district. It is allocated along. Some states do this. Maine does it as well. They don't allocate it winner takes all. Instead, they split it by congressional district. And so right now, I think most of the pollsters are saying that Trump wins 3 of the
Fox
5
called Arizona for
electoral
Biden.
votes in Nebraska. He would need to win 4 of the 5, or 5 of the 5.
I mean, I talked to a pollster, a Trump pollster, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, who said Omaha's.
We're ahead by
gonna
2
decide
seats in
this
Senate.
And that could very well be true.
Yep.
Well, they have called Ohio for Trump. So Trump has won Ohio. Biden apparently has won Arizona, is what they are suggesting, which gives, again, Biden has a much healthier pathway to the presidency if Arizona is in fact in his column. It means that he now only has to win a couple of those blue states, not all 3.
Yeah. Well, the fact that they're calling Arizona this early at Fox News is not a good sign. The fact that they
Iowa
don't call
just
Florida,
hit
though,
Trump,
means
by
that
the
I
way,
wanna
by
actually withhold
0.1%.
judgment on
They
Arizona
just-
and see
Iowa's
what
in favor of
happens
Trump
as they
now.
bring in a few more of those votes, especially because of what we're seeing in Florida with the Latino vote. See if any
Yep.
of that winds up.
But fuck
translating into
Arizona, dude.
I also want to get a few more questions in from our DailyWire.com members. They're the reason this show is free for everyone out there tonight because
We
they
need to get,
support us with their subscription. And we try to
We need to get
provide
Iowa.
for them great value for that subscription.
But we're
We've
gonna
added a
get
lot of value
Iowa.
tonight.
Yeah,
So
Iowa's
starting a show,
probably.
the PragerU
Iowa.
Library.
They just need to count
Online, we're
Florida.
bringing on This new morning
They
show,
need to
we're
count.
bringing on new investigative
We can probably
journalists.
get
We have one more
Minnesota.
announcement that we'll make later in the evening. But those members tonight have the opportunity to get their questions in, and Elisha is bringing those
Florida's
questions
98%.
to us.
There's
Elisha,
no
what
way
do
it's
we have?
changing.
Yes, sir. And speaking of,
98%,
you talked about
4%
the
difference.
Latino vote in Florida. A Daily Wire member has
So
a
why not
question
call
from
it?
Michael Knowles. Do you think the difference between Arizona and Florida has more to do with Mexican immigrants versus Cuban immigrants?
Groups do vote differently. Whoever, Nicole Hannah-Jones, when she said that the idea of Hispanic is contrived or Latino is contrived, that is true. That moniker is a creation basically of the 1970s and late 60s through the 80s because liberal activists wanted to try to replicate what they felt was a successful civil rights movement based on racial identity among other groups and try to bring them to the left. And so they did it with Hispanics. They then did that with
If
Asians.
you were just
they
to
tried
call
do it during
Texas
the Obama
right now,
administration with Middle East and North
and,
Africa. They called it MENA. It
If
wasn't
you were
a
to
great
call,
name,
if they
so
were to
didn't
call
catch on, but they're gonna
Texas
try.
and
Eventually.
or
what's
These
with
are
the mic?
different groups. These are different nations. You know,
Georgia.
Cuba is different than Mexico. Is different than El Salvador. Is different than Guatemala. I have not been on the ground in Arizona, and I've
Had
not been
some
following
nice water.
Arizona as
I
closely
love
as
Hydro
Florida,
Flask.
so I can't
Got a
give
new
you
water
the
bottle.
top reason, with anything more than a guess. But it is the case historically, Cuban Americans, because they've fled a communist country, have sided more conservative and sided more Republican, though generationally that has fallen off.
So close.
And so you've seen recent immigrants strongly conservative, next generation a little less so, and the next generation even less so.
Would you say
So
Google's more
we'll have to
trustworthy
see
than Daily Wire?
what happened this time around, because the Cuban
What?
vote certainly
In
went
the
pretty heavily
election? No.
for Donald Trump this time. But
Because
it may vary
Daily Wire
on age,
still
and
has
then
Idaho
you
as
won't be able to
blue.
use race as quite so easy an identifier of political belief.
Pissing me off.
All right, the next question is to the God King. Jeremy, where is the #1 place in culture that conservatives cannot take right now that we should be trying to?
The #1 place that we cannot take that we should be trying to. I think we have
Idaho is broken.
I think we have 3 places in the culture that we simply cannot take, not quickly. The left didn't take them quickly. They had a generational plan, and they executed it to perfection. We're going to have to do something much the same. Academia, obviously, one of them. Conservatives have 0 representation in academia. You may be able to think of that one conservative professor you had. That actually proves the point. That's the exception that proves the rule.
Oh my God, War.
Academia, of course,
Trump is
propped up
only
by
ahead in the
government money.
popular vote by
Academia is
0.1%
propped
right
up
now.
by conservatives who hold to credentialism and believe that they're purchasing for their child a credential that will do them well. I had a conversation once with Secretary DeVos, our education secretary, wonderful woman, and yet I think she had a blind spot in this particular area. We were at this very hoity-toity fundraiser, and people were asking her questions, all very well-to-do. And the question was always, don't we need trade schools for people who just aren't right for college? Don't we need a place for people who just aren't the college material? Don't they need to go learn how to weld or learn how to be garbage collectors? I actually found the whole thing distasteful. I mean, first of all, the trades are where all the money's at in the culture right now. If you want to make a good living,
I'm gonna watch the next Good Luck
learn how to
America,
weld, because there's more welding jobs available that pay 6 figures than there are in,
Usually
for example,
once
gender
every,
studies, where there are no
usually
jobs
5
that
times
pay
a week
anything.
during the weekdays. But now so much.
But that's not the only reason I found it objectionable. I found it objectionable because, well, frankly, more than half of all the small business owners in the country lack college degrees, because some of the richest men in the world, Mark Zuckerberg, Michael Dell, lack college degrees. I don't think we should be telling kids, you're not college material, so we want you to do something that we kind of look down on. We should be telling kids, you can do whatever you want. Drop out of college and be rich. Drop out of college and get some life experience. Drop out of college and start a business. Drop out of college and, yes, go to trade school. But that's only one of the options. But the main way that we're going to defeat the left in academia is to stop sending our kids there. Stop letting them take on debt that they will never be able to repay for a credential that's utterly meaningless, so that professors can train them to believe things that you raised them not to believe. The second, of course, institution is the media. I actually think we're doing better there than in any of the 3. But we're still
Trump
so
can
far
so
behind.
easily win.
Yes, the Daily Wire was the #1 publisher, the #1 most engaged publisher in the
30
world
minutes.
On Facebook for the last 3 months, according to Newswhip.
The charge is already
still
breaking. It pisses me
Nothing
off.
compared to the reach that the left has. They control almost all of the engagements, almost all of the impressions on social media, and of course they have their own media
guy
channels
behind
that are worth, billions of dollars. We have
There's a
so
dude
much work to
behind
do
him.
there, especially in the investigative realm, which is why we announced we're hiring 3 investigative journalists here tonight.
got
The third
Pingans
place where obviously we have an unbelievable hill to climb is in entertainment media. And in entertainment, I include music, I include television, I include film, basically all the things that we might call popular culture. Here, the left's domination of us is almost complete. You can count on your hands the films that have openly
Biden's way ahead of
represented the
Minnesota.
worldview of conservatives. And you can even point to some successful ones. American Sniper, the #1 best-selling, the #1 box office generating rated R film of all
5%,
time,
11%.
which
We can
actually
take
unseated
Minnesota.
the former #1 rated R movie of all time.
We're
The Passion of
behind
the
too
Christ.
much
Both
at the
very
moment.
similar
No,
stories in the
do
sense
you
that
not see the
it was a
extra
story that
areas? You
Americans
don't do
wanted,
read,
that Hollywood
pisses
would
me
never
off.
give them, that required a
But we're behind
superstar
by a
actor turned
bit,
director,
and it seems
who
unlikely right
works
now. I
outside
mean, I thought we
Boston
could take
to
Arizona,
bring
but we
us to
didn't.
Hollywood.
So
Did they learn any
there
lessons?
you go.
Of course
That-
not, because that's not a lesson they want to learn. They like the
So it's
polarization.
unlikely
They
that
don't
we
want
take
your money,
Minnesota,
and they know
but we
you're a
definitely
chump, so you'll give
can.
them your money,
Actually,
even
wait,
if they
no.
don't do anything
It
to
is
earn
likely
How
that we
much
take
money?
Minnesota.
Well, Netflix alone
Yeah,
spends
we
$20
probably will take Minnesota.
billion. That's $20,000 million
Actually,
on content every
It's going to be
single
very
year.
on the
That
line.
is one single network on the left. All told, the production budget of Hollywood,
Yep.
I don't know if it's even knowable. It's probably well
Why aren't-
over
do they
$150
confirm
billion
Florida? 'Cause
every
we're at
year. This is why you
98%.
wind up with cuties on Netflix. This is why
Yeah,
you wind up with
they'll
all
probably
the anti-Iraq
lose
war
Florida,
movies
or
when George W. Bush was president.
Florida,
It's
but
why
Minnesota,
every
but
single
still.
election cycle of my
And
lifetime,
what about, okay,
we've gotten
so Pennsylvania's
feature
over halfway
films
done.
about
Ohio's
how bad the
94%.
Republican is. We've gotten
It's because they're
documentaries
biased,
about
that's
how
why.
bad the Republican is. We've
Refusal
gotten
to
documentaries
accept.
about how great every leftist figure is. Why does everybody know Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Because she's a cultural cult figure, because Hollywood will spend billions and billions and billions of dollars promulgating their worldview and selling you their point of view, whether you want it or not. So what are we going to do where Hollywood is concerned? Well, that's where we have, I think, the biggest hill to climb, and that's the next announcement I'll make about the Daily Wire and the ways that we're going to bring value to you in exchange for your subscription. In 2021, the Daily Wire will be producing
CBC is
fictional
saying
content.
Trump will
We're going to
win.
be the first in our space with an SVOD platform to
Good.
really go at this in a major way. We've already
They're
acquired
saying-
the rights to our first
Here,
feature
I can
film,
screen share.
which we
This
will
is
be
pretty
announcing to
obvious.
you in the coming weeks. We are working on a script with Andrew
This is
Clavin
literally
for
what
our
I've been
first
calling this
series.
entire time.
We are going to,
With the
again,
current
can
ones he
can we
has,
bring you $20 billion
or with
worth
the
of
current ones
content
he's
the way that
projected to
Netflix
have, he's
can?
going to
Well, not
win.
today. It's a 40-year path
these.
if we're going to do what the left did and
I don't
assert
know if you heard
ourselves
that,
in all of these
but-
areas.
I
But we're going to
heard.
lead the way.
And
We're
he's
going to
gonna
get
go
out
over.
ahead
Look,
of
Joe
our
Biden.
comfort zone. We're going to start
Joe
making
Biden's
the
been
content
the
that we
reason
have
you're
to
One
make.
Joe
paying.
Biden's
We're
are
trusting
gonna
that you
get.
guys
Joe
will follow,
Biden's been
that you'll
given
become
a lot
subscribers
more,
over at dailywire.com.
or like early on.
That you'll use the promo code election
So,
tonight and get started. You get
he'll
25%
take-
off. You get the
he's gonna
leftist
take
tears,
Nevada.
hot or cold tumbler. But listen,
We're gonna take
it's not
Alaska.
about charity.
They're gonna
It's
take
not about
Hawaii.
leftist tears tumbler.
That's
It's not
gonna
even
get
about
them
the
one,
amazing
and then
community
that's gonna
that
take
you'll
them
get to
seven.
participate
That's
in
gonna
with
get
our
them
other Daily
seven.
Wire members.
That's
We
not
want to
gonna be
bring
enough.
value. We want to say
So
these are the
he
things that you
physically
get
cannot
elsewhere.
win
And while we
unless
may
Right
not be
now?
able to compete
Yeah.
Yes,
with
unless
them
one
in
of these
terms
Trump
of the
ones
amount of
flips,
content that they
which
can
I
give
doubt
you,
it
we
will.
can at least start moving into those areas, and over time we can
Like,
build
a
something
bio
really
one's much
amazing
more
together.
likely
So
to
please
flip
come
than
be a part
Trump.
of that with us tonight.
Ooh, Virginia's getting a lot
dailywire.com.
closer
Click on
now,
the
but it
subscribe
doesn't really
button.
matter.
Use the promo code
All right,
election.
so,
Get 25%
yeah,
off.
if he gets
We're gonna
Nevada,
be making movies. We're going to be
and we
making
keep what we already have,
content
but also
with
Alaska
Morning
and
Wire
also
and the
Hawaii,
style
we
of
win.
sort
If
of
Biden
NPR
gets
sophisticated
Nevada,
morning
we
content.
still win.
We're gonna
Yeah,
have
that's what I'm saying.
investigative
If he gets
journalists.
Nevada
We're
and
going to
Hawaii,
bring you the
we get
entire
Alaska.
Probably
Daily
gonna.
Wire,
He's
who's
probably
uh,
gonna get Nevada.
PragerU, who's
He's
competing
going to get
in
Hawaii.
academia.
We're going
We're
to
gonna
get
bring you
Alaska.
a brand new,
Yeah.
one-of-a-kind
Even
show
if we
with
don't get
Candace
Alaska,
Owens,
we'll
shot in
still
front of a
win as
live
long as nothing
audience.
changes.
Can I just say that I think you're
I feel
absolutely
like
right about
Aramus
the
is like
academy.
out and
That's
about,
a big hill to
getting the
climb,
Amish
and
folks
it's going
to
to take a
vote,
change of
and
attitude.
we're just
You're
like
absolutely right
vibing
about
our
this.
PCs
On entertainment,
the entire
I don't
night.
think we need their billions of dollars. I think we can beat them in the same way Rocky
Trump
beat
is
the
down
Russian
in the popular vote
boxer,
war.
because all we have to do is produce the content that people want to
It
see.
doesn't
and they'll come.
matter.
If we build it, they will come.
It's not charity. I don't want to make movies that people
Once
feel
they
like
add
they're
Nevada,
supposed to go
how
see.
big?
We wanna
What
make
is the
content that you
population
want
of
to go
Nevada?
see, but we do need you to be in our
They're
corner as we do that. We're
gonna
gonna
go
take
up
one
in
more
popular
question from
whenever
a Daily
they
Wire
get
member,
added.
and that's
So they can
Spirit
only
right
get
now.
10 more war.
Awesome. And this question
From
goes
Nevada and
to
Hawaii.
our very own Ben Shapiro. If Biden were to
Probably
win,
gonna go
would we
up.
reverse all of the progress that we have made in the last 4 years, more specifically when it comes to international policy in the Middle East, and continue with an armed conflict there?
So
Biden's
my guess
pro-war.
is that
Middle
foreign
East.
policy is the area where the president has the most power, because he's the commander-in-chief. He has the most power to shape policy. He doesn't really have to worry about Congress there, as Barack Obama showed when he launched an illegal war in Libya and then just maintained it. So that sort of stuff happens fairly regularly. Will Biden be able to dramatically reshape the Middle East without any sort of senatorial approval? And the fact that Republicans have been holding the Senate, and I do not think are going to give a green light to that sort of thing, is definitely going to provide some sort of check. I think he'll try to renegotiate something with the Iranians and with the Palestinians. I just don't think there's a lot of regional interest in that right now. So no, I don't think that Biden has the capacity to walk everything.
Oh, the
back.
young Turks have already melted
in the
down.
Middle East
I gotta
because
send this to
Biden
Aramus.
is president if, God forbid, he wins. Yeah, it'll definitely be a lot uglier.
I
But
forgot
some of the
about
realities on the
Virginia.
ground have simply shifted. And because those realities on the ground are the new realities, I don't think that we're going back to a time when all of those Arab-Israel deals that just got
This
made
is
fall
incredibly
apart.
stupid.
I don't think that that's
We're gonna
exactly
get
what's going to
13
happen
from
here. I think
Virginia
that
as well. well.
there's a high likelihood the opposite.
They can't
is going
withhold
to happen.
forever.
The
Don't worry,
reality is
War.
now
They can't
reality.
withhold forever.
Biden is going to be going up against reality.
We're going to
and
get
not much is
Florida.
going
We're
to
going
end
to
up
get
changing,
Ohio.
despite Biden's most fervent efforts to the contrary.
All right,
yeah.
well, we are still here. Bickley and I are going to head back into the war room, guys. Next time we see you, this map
take a
could
piss,
look a little
BRB.
different. I sure hope it looks a little different. We don't know if that'll be trending in the blue or the red direction, but we're going to head back and toss it back to you guys.
Alrighty, so welcome back. We're in this room again, and now we are joined by Eric Weinstein. Eric, of course, is the founder of the intellectual dark web and a heterodox thinker who's no longer welcome in his formerly leftist circles because of his heterodoxy. So you're welcome here. So welcome.
They told me this was a meeting of the workmen's circle, so it's a surprise.
So you've been watching the results come in, Eric, and you're as a heterodox thinker and somebody who's been sort of touting the fact that Trump has unique appeal to crowds that, you know, historically have not been Republican. You've been sort of sounding the alarm on this for quite a while. What was it that folks on the left, you're of the left in terms of your policy position?
Well, I'm of the intellectual left, not the current Democratic Party version of the left.
Right, you're not of the woke left.
I don't understand.
Right. So what is it that everybody missed about Trump here? Because regardless of how this election goes, it is a hell of a lot closer than it was supposed to be.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody's been lying. And so,
that's a good reason. Yeah.
You know, the point is, it's very difficult to keep talking about preference falsification when nobody listens. It's very difficult to talk to the left about the fact that scolding people that they should feel guilty because they resemble people who hundreds of years owned other people, and you're not winning friends, hearts, minds. You're not making sense. So, to be blunt about it, I just don't understand what the post-Clinton Democratic left is doing institutionally, because this isn't what left of center politics are supposed to be. This is completely incoherent. It's a repudiation of everything that we know about. I mean, the heart of being a progressive is the word progress. So at one point you could have been a progressive and thought that communism was going to be progress because it hadn't been tried. But, you know, a few unmarked graves later, you have to reevaluate whether or not you wish to tie your wagon to Stalin's star. In this situation, we're just seeing people lying continuously about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And the idea that every person who doesn't go along with you is a white supremacist, whether or not that person is black or Asian or Jewish, this has never made sense to anybody who isn't part of the cult. And I guess what I had a tweet a while back, but I will be very surprised if there isn't a stronger than expected Trump surge. And while it's too early to call the election one way or the other, it's certainly not too early to call the fact that once again it appears to be off.
Mm-hmm. So with that said, you know, right now it seems like there is still a good possibility that Biden wins, albeit narrowly, because Trump would have to, at this point, if he, ABC has also called Arizona for Biden. That means that Trump needs to win Pennsylvania and obviously Iowa, and he needs to win Nevada, or he needs to win another state in order for that to manifest, a victory for him to manifest. Let's say that Biden wins narrowly. Do you think there's any reckoning at hand for the Democratic Party? Do you think they rethink this thing, given the fact that Trump has pulled outside support? They thought that they were going to walk away with this thing with 350 electoral votes.
When you decide to go with somebody who's 78 years old at inauguration,
right,
you probably know that you don't have a deep bench to go to. And I would say that what you're looking at is the last gasp of the gerontocracy. It's very hard to find somebody who's willing to step into these shoes who's younger. Now, at the tail end of regimes that end badly, like the Ceausescu's, you usually have some guy who you make president for 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, here, you're the prime minister, the president. Good luck to you, sir. What I believe is that it's been very hard to attract young people to sign on to a failing ideology. Now, I'm very disturbed about Donald Trump, but I will say that the right has been getting more reasonable as the left continues to portray it as getting more insane.
What does intellectual leftism look like at this point?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm worried that you guys aren't getting it. I'm worried that you're going to lose capitalism because you're not realizing that you better deal in Gen Z and the millennials at a minimum if you want people to continue to care about the American experiment that I think that I'm interested in fighting with you guys about over decades. In other words, we have a situation in which if you look at the way in which the millennials are experiencing their lives in terms of home ownership, family formation, they're not part of the American experience at an appropriate rate.
Right.
And if you guys don't wake up to the wonders of a little bit of socialism in order to make sure that everybody is still trying to make capitalism work, good luck keeping...
You mean in the sense that some people put off buying a home, they put off having kids, they put off getting married because they don't have enough money or they don't have a stable job or something like that?
Yeah. I mean that if you are 35 years old and you don't have a home and let's say you're female, so your biological clock is of concern to you, you're in a situation where you're about to, your life plan that you might have
Sorry, I
been
had some
planning
stuff to
on,
do, but
if
I'm
it was
back now.
generic enough, is about
Anything
to be
happen, War?
frustrated. And what's worse is, like, let's say
I
you
haven't
have
been
parents who
keeping
have
up.
a second home or a third home, and you can't even get your first home. And
not
then there's
really.
some story about how they had a paper route, and that
they
paper
still
route
haven't called
resulted in
Ohio,
they put themselves through
What
college
the?
because, Lord knows,
Virginia's
they didn't
legitimately
get in
being
debt
led
when
by
they graduate,
Biden
blah,
now.
blah, blah.
They guessed it.
These young people have no concept of what
I mean,
this
we can still win
capitalist
with that. That's
American
Well, let's see.
experience is, left or right.
Yeah. No, I think you make a
It's
great
hard they
point
call
here.
it so early.
I would probably dispute that the issue is primarily economic, though I think there is a major economic element. And I think you're totally right that this
That's no
issue
surprise,
of
right? We're not
how
counting
we live
Virginia
our
War.
lives, how we form families, how we settle down, how we integrate into a community.
We're
If
not
you
counting
lose that, you're going to lose the whole system.
We're not
The
counting
question
Virginia
is,
as
how do you
our
get the
state
Gini coefficients
when we were doing that thing
measure
where.
the
So
amount
basically,
of
if we
inequality
get,
in a society
or if we
to
get
go
Alaska,
down
we
without
win.
the barrel
We
of
lost
a gun
Virginia.
pointed at anyone. So
When you,
We
when
didn't
you
have
talk
Virginia.
about a
Or
little
did
bit
you count
of
Virginia originally?
socialism, the word has
Uh,
come
what?
to mean almost
Did you count
nothing.
Virginia originally as
Originally,
ours?
the state taking
No, I
over the
didn't
means of
count it.
production.
Good.
That's not what people mean anymore.
No, I think what they're doing is they're abstracting.
So my
to a
question for you
layer
is
of
what?
direction where
We could technically
socialism
win
in
without
its
Alaska.
meta kind of
If we get
guise
Alaska
is
and they get
you're going
Hawaii
to
and
have
Nevada,
to
we win, right?
recognize
If
that the
they- even
market's
if they get
distributional
everything here,
mechanism under the political economy
As long as we keep
that we
ours,
currently
we still win.
experience,
Like we
and
can't even
Yeah.
some of
lose
the
one or two of
intensifying
ours.
effects where
We
a
can
small
even.
number of people can capture almost all of the value in a space from a small difference in quality.
It would only have
There's
to
an
be like
implicit
7
morality
points
to
though,
the
so
market.
it would be close.
And when
So
you
when's the
can't
next
say
polls?
that
When the final polls
that
close, they
person is
gotta
wealthy
call.
because they contributed $4 worth of value on average to every American. When you have to say, well, that person is wealthy because of something involving reverse loans and trusts and the Cayman Islands,
Okay.
then you have a new
Scale is
problem,
making
right?
some commentary.
Which is, what does success mean? And then you get the word success replaced by the word
They have to
privilege, and
count Florida
I can tell how
soon,
much
though.
you're all enjoying that word.
Yeah.
What
Check out
happens, though,
Georgia and North Carolina.
Are we talking about
Georgia's way ahead for Trump
Are
now.
we talking about a failure of capitalism, or
North
are we
Carolina's still
talking about
close.
corruption of capitalism? Are we dealing with
North
what they
Carolina's
call crony
94%.
capitalism, which is really just cronyism, so that the free market is now so slanted that
It is worth pointing out here, Drew. The term capitalism was popularized by Marxists,
Yeah.
so it's already kind of a loaded term.
But just to play with my conservative friends here, if I were to say, the problem with communism is it's never really been tried, you guys would all laugh.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great.
So my point to you would be right back at you.
It's the same thing with capitalism.
Yeah.
Yep.
You want
That's
to
a
know
good
what the problem is with real capitalism?
Well, it depends on what the solution that's being proposed is. I suppose.
Well, that's what I was just about
because
to ask.
if the solution is government,
Biden's still ahead
subsidization
by
of
a bit,
particular groups at the
1.2%
expense of other
in the
groups,
popular
which is,
vote.
Well, you guys were
a certain level of redistributionism.
He could
That's
still
one thing. If what we're
lose.
talking
Ooh, Nevada's
about is
red war.
relieving,
He started reporting
the
Nevada.
government from providing subsidies, then that's precisely the opposite.
Well, let me get to an earlier
That's
point.
not
I don't know
good,
why
though.
I desire
If it
to
starts
help
off
the,
red, it
the
probably
loyal
won't stay red.
opposition. But in some
Is
sort
my mic
of
working, by the way, War?
Stockholm syndrome.
You
of
mean
bridge
if
over
it
the river
starts off
Kwai
red, it
moment.
won't stay red.
You guys
It doesn't
were
usually
talking
Only
about the
Well, I guess the same
difficulty
with
of
only
attracting
one is
professors.
red.
You guys have
Yeah,
a
only
very
red
easy
is
road
one is red at the
if you
moment.
want to.
Yeah, but
which
it's
is
still split.
Stop treating
Well, obviously, 'cause
professors
that-
as
there's
people
a
looking for
split, too.
government handouts because due to your precious tax dollars.
if we win Nevada,
Get
it's
smarter.
one.
Realize that
Even if we win Nevada and if we lose Alaska and
claim
Hawaii,
intellectual property rights from basic discoveries,
Yeah.
and say,
Nevada
we could lose
we're going
like
to poke a hole because
we could lose like
recognize that market
Wisconsin.
failure
Then.
is a real thing. The markets are fantastic.
We're
They
not
don't
going
do
to lose
everything
Wisconsin.
for you.
We're just
So what
Yeah.
we're going to do is we are going to commit to people
too
in
far
STEM
right now.
subjects to make sure that they get their academic freedom back, that they're not worried
Wisconsin
about
is so
grants, they're not
red.
worried about
Mhm.
being
Except for the
humiliated.
cities.
And then you can have professors again. But the place that you guys went wrong is that you started treating professors as, and famous quote is, welfare queens in lab coats.
But
that wasn't a winner.
I'm all for that, Eric. I am
Yeah,
totally for winning. But my only issue is Did we ever really
We're leading
have
by
the
3 in
professors?
Senate.
You know, I'm reminded of God and Man at Yale by Buckley. He says even back in the 50s, all his professors were pinkos.
Well, but the problem is that you guys tend to see things a little bit black and white. So what I talk about is
You're talking about in STEM fields. That's not quite the same thing as the North Campus majors at UCLA.
Well, but you guys think that universities are about teaching, and great universities
Wait a
are
minute,
about
has
research.
Ohio been updated?
And we put a fig leaf of teaching on the front of them because of Vannevar Bush. That's not really the issue. There's always been a mixed thing between Democrats and Republicans. You don't need to worry about real Democrats and people who are really of the left. What I always say is that the Tom Lehrer left and the PJ O'Rourke right can get along just fine.
Right.
The problem is the batshit crazy Charlottesville right and the ridiculous Antifa left need to get a room and leave the rest of us the hell alone.
I think that's right. This is.
Isn't it?
Ooh, Trump's ahead in Virginia
I
war.
always say that the thing with the far right.
Trump's ahead in Virginia
no
again.
one in this room is for
God,
the far
it's
right.
so stupid.
The far right is on the comment section of Breitbart.
That's not the issue.
But the far left is in Congress.
I'm not kidding.
There is an asymmetry.
Yes,
but
I
to
see.
be blunt about it, there
Ooh,
are
but I think
norms that
he could get
prevented
past
the
it.
far right from finding each other in the
Virginia is stupid.
as they did at the beginning.
They
of the
called it
Trump
so early, and
administration.
they were
so there
so
was a
retarded.
period that actually
Why did they call that so
wasn't
early?
that long-lived, where the extreme right, and I don't even want to call them the extreme right. I want to talk about them as the bigoted, really ugly right.
Yeah,
They're having
they
a
thought they had
shit
a
fit.
carte blanche.
Yep.
And then they got shut down. And the question is, would the same thing happen in a Biden administration?
Fox called Arizona, apparently.
In which the far left thinks, okay, cool.
That was kinda bad
we've
'cause
been
we're not
part of the
close,
Big
yeah.
Ten.
This to me is the big question I wanted to ask you about it, because this is what I've been considering, is that the future of the country at this point, it seems to me, is really more about whether mainstream liberals decide that they are more interested in opening up the Overton window wide enough to have discussions with people who are not of their political persuasion, but they have in common a belief in individual rights and freedom of speech and freedom of conversation, or whether they're so wedded to their policy priorities that they believe they can more easily achieve those by dumping over all those things and making common cause with the woke left and sort of the Antifa crowd. Because it seems like that is the question. Like the Harper's Weekly letter that they put out, where there's all these mainstream liberals, all of whom voted for Joe Biden and none of whom voted for Trump, talking about how the Overton window needed to be widened. On the one hand, I thought, okay, that's
The funny
a good
thing
On
is
other
the
hand, I
only
thought this would be so
example
much
of
more
them
effective
calling
if we
it
had
too
one
early and
person
being
who voted
wrong
for
is
Donald
with
Trump on this list.
Virginia.
It's like you want to open the Overton window just wide enough to let you and your buddies through, but not quite wide enough to
I'm sure
actually have a
Twitter thought it'd be
conversation
the
with
other way
anybody who
around.
disagrees with you.
But you guys are, the way that the modern left is formulated, you're not just people with whom I disagree, you're all evil.
Right.
Yeah.
And you, sir.
In my particular case, that's true. But
I could tell
Or
by
with the still going to be a lot more pouring in a ballot.
Clearly Lex Luthor.
But in fact, nothing you're saying, at least for me and Knowles, I would say, nothing you're saying is so far out there that we couldn't find some place of common ground.
That's what Ben once said to me. Ben, I once asked Ben the question.
What a meme.
What happens when the market can't reach the median non-remarkable individual anymore? And he says, then we'd have to consider other measures. I say, Ben, why don't you say things like that in front of the world? He says, because you, Eric, are highly specific in what you're complaining about, and the left tends to be very, the 1%. So you're going to go after the
Right, that's why
sons of bitches.
Right, when I ask you for a solution and you say things like, okay, we need to not put, that we need to strengthen patent law for people in STEM and protect their, like that. Everybody recognizes since the founding that patent law is a place where markets actually experience failure, because otherwise there'd be no actual rationale for discovering anything, because if you don't protect intellectual property is a form of property. That's
Especially
not
during the founding,
anti-capitalism.
actually, right?
Well,
during that era.
It's literally in the Constitution that the federal government has the power of patents.
But I don't want basic research to be patentable. What I want is to
Who's this guy they
recognize
have
that we
on
have the world's greatest deal by ensuring that our research scientists give us stuff for simply being immunized from the market, right? If you're immunized from the market and you're given academic freedom, you don't have $1 billion, but you have the security of a guy with $1 billion, right? It really matters
There are
that
no
I
more
can go
Nevada
into my
results.
work
It was a
every day
bug,
and
I
know that
think.
no matter what I
Really?
say, I have a job.
It's kind of favorable.
All that's fair enough.
Yeah,
sure.
but it wasn't fair, because then the whole
We only
point
have 10
was
minutes.
It
when-
really
right
wasn't.
at some point.
We have 10 minutes till Nevada
badly
starts popping.
Staged
Why-
situation in academics.
why did they have
and went into
Idaho?
This kind of market purity thing.
I don't know why. They're still just bugged.
Yeah,
I think it's a
that
bug.
was like the 80s, though, to me.
I know,
I
it
sort of
was
feel like we were
definitely
moving out of that.
I know, but that's what my point is
Over
that
10% lead.
you guys have an easy path to victory in the academy. You're not going to win the whole academy, but if you get
North
20%,
Carolina is
you get a
basically
beachhead,
done. Ohio is basically
then
done.
you get
Florida's
enough to
long
allow
done.
people to have both
And all for Trump.
perspectives in terms of
Especially
the political
Pennsylvania
parties,
isn't
and
done yet.
you have a discussion, but it's like
I
a
see why Idaho
piece
could
of
be
spackle
either
or
right now.
retroactive continuity, and you
What?
can't even
But-
manage
It's
that.
54 to 43.
You know, it's funny
right?
because
Sorry,
we've been talking
how
all
do you
night
look-
about
True,
how many
yes,
people-
yes.
President
I
Trump
just
has
looked at the
inroads
map. I
with the
just looked
black
at the
vote.
map, yeah.
He's not going to win 50%.
I don't know
He's
why
not
they
gonna
called
win
it as
60%,
blue,
but he
though.
might win.
I don't think it's gonna be
50%,
blue.
and that would be a huge
called
deal
us
because
red or
that really
blue.
hampers the Democrats.
think it's
it
gonna
sounds
be
like
red.
you're saying a similar thing with
Regardless
professors.
of
You
what's
might not get 50% of the professors, but if you made some roads into academia, you've really got a place from which you could form a new.
Well, I mean, look, the
Florida's
reason that
so
I really,
I
in
like
the
those
modern era,
surprised
can't stand the Republican
that
Party is that in part on your watch, under Ronald Reagan, you came up with completely disastrous ideas for figuring out how to tamper with the wage mechanism for American scientists. And my feeling is that you guys are anti-market manipulators who completely destroyed the
Oh my God,
crown
discussion about moving to
jewel
Canada.
of,
I'm wondering when
American
people actually
intellectual
move to
life,
Canada.
which is our research complex.
Like no
And-
one.
Zero.
But you know,
Maybe like a good like 100
If I knew what the
in
hell you were
reality.
talking about, I'd totally be with it.
That's so tiny compared to like probably a million people.
I'd love to
said
do
that.
this on a big program. In 1986, there was a guy named Eric Bloch who was the first non-academic head of the National Science Foundation. And he realized that we were going to have to pay more money to scientists because the demographics of the baby bust were going to mean that the supply curve came in. And so what he realized is that if we flooded the market with foreign students who are not actually students, they're workers, that we could push out the supply curve and you could get the wage to go down. And then what they did in order to disguise the fact that they were manipulating a market is that they removed the demand curves and claimed it was only a demographic analysis. Right? Now, that thing is what led to the Immigration Act of 1990. Now, you guys don't even know about that because nobody knows about this story because nobody
Kentucky
in
is
the left of
less
center media
done than
wants to
Florida
talk
is.
about this, and the right of center media hasn't caught on. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is there's so much soul searching real
almost like boring. You
conservatives
sure about
and
that?
real progressives can do together because to be blunt, you guys also want to see the progress of the human race, and I want to see the best aspects of our world conserved. We're just not sitting down and having those conversations.
Oh, there we
Instead, we're
go. We
having
have
a lot of
Idaho now.
Conversations about either the
check.
market solves everything or
GG.
everyone's
Wait, what do
a
you
white
mean? Fully
supremacist.
switched?
I don't want to have either
What do you
one.
mean by we have I
It
don't know?
frightens me that I completely
According
agree
to
with
Daily
you.
Wire.
I know. I have to leave this
They
up.
have-
Yeah,
I'll
I know.
give you that.
But it also
Come
seems
to the
me
dark side.
it seems to me that there's
You're right,
another
I have to read that.
aspect of this, another flow of
Well, they called
information coming
Ohio
in there where you start with guys
on
in
Daily
on
Wire.
the cultural side, guys like Edward Said proclaiming Jane
No.
Austen a
Yeah, they did. Daily Wire
an
called Ohio.
imperialist. And those people
makes sense 'cause
start to
he's based in
infect
Ohio.
the STEM
Oh, yeah,
people
Ohio.
in your,
But
university.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, can
Suddenly
you guess
they're
who
saying to
hasn't
you,
called
well, if
Ohio
you
yet?
make certain discoveries,
Google.
you're fired. And that's the kind of thing that we
fired.
wind up arguing with. We wind up arguing with the cultural left. And
I'm
maybe
gonna go
not
in
hearing
like
what's
30
happening.
Why not
minutes.
spend less
I'm probably gonna
time
go in like an
with
hour.
grievance studies
We'll wait
people
for
and
at
more
least
time
stay for this
with the
final
people
post
who
to
actually
go
make sure
up
that the bombs
Exactly.
don't go off
Waiting 30 minutes.
prematurely and that they land in the right place.
Because there's a barrier to entry.
That's right.
Because the culture wars are a barrier to entry. Meaning you and I can have this conversation because we have a baseline, and we can all have this conversation because we already have a baseline agreement on certain fundamental values. And this is, I think, the entire problem. And I think it's also behind a lot of what is going on right now in even the discussion about
Fox is called
demographic
Texas,
shifts
nice.
and the new voter coalitions. I think a lot of people are putting a lot of weight on
Trump is still ahead in Virginia, by the way.
on this particular sort of backstage show. Henry Wilson puts a lot of weight on the sort of Donald Trump
Fox
economic
called
program,
Texas.
immigration restrictionism, and trying to boost wages,
Okay, well,
either
that's
with
an
subsidies or in
interesting
other
choice.
They also called
semi-artificial ways.
They also called
in
Arizona
sort of
which is
dying towns.
controversial.
And I really kind of believe that Donald Trump's actual appeal to most of the folks he's winning over has very little to do with that. I think it has very much to do with the fact that the left is refusing a baseline level of conversation and so foreclosing these conversations. I think that if we had a debate, a public debate right now between Joe Biden and Donald Trump over how to properly fund higher education in STEM, right, I think that the American people would go to sleep because they recognize that, number one, it doesn't actually apply. They think it doesn't. It's a second order question. It doesn't apply to them in their immediate life. What does apply to them in their immediate life is the fact that when they go on social media, they are in fact called white supremacists for saying they might vote for Trump, or they are suggested to be religious bigots if they go to church.
Agreed.
And so for the better conversations to happen, and I think this is what we're watching right now, for the better conversations to happen, there has to be a baseline agreement on values that is not in evidence right now. And I don't think that Joe Biden is going to put that back into evidence. So there needs to be a better way. Oddly enough, the supposed threats in the institutions, Donald Trump, the supposed fascist Donald Trump, he seems a lot more willing to have those conversations with people on the other side than the left is willing to have those conversations with Trump. Plus, Trump is more likely to sign a deal along the lines of what you're talking about.
The left wants to oppress you guys, right? So the idea is social justice is actually about social vengeance.
Right, exactly. Right. This is the fundamental problem.
I understand that, but I don't want to oppress you guys and I don't want vengeance. What I do want to do is impress upon you that kind of you started the destruction of the American science and engineering enterprise on your watch, and it would be really great to get right of center people to be more patriotic, to be more individualistic. I feel like you guys aren't sufficiently individualistic.
I certainly am not. No.
I'm on board with all of that. I have trouble taking blame for a thing that happened when I was 2.
No. But the question is going forward. Think of it differently as an opportunity. You have an opportunity to stand up for academic freedom.
That's all.
I think what you're describing is important. I think that it's narrow, but that it's important. You said something early in your remarks that I think goes to why that conversation is difficult. And you rightly corrected yourself. You said in the beginning of the Trump ascendancy, there were the radical right, and then you corrected yourself and said, well, I shouldn't say the extreme was your word. I shouldn't say extreme right. I should say the bigoted right. I think that's fair because I would think of, for example, an extreme Christian as someone who really
So what's going to happen with
believes in
Virginia?
Christian doctrine. The extreme right, the alt-right, the America First chumps, they don't believe in like an extreme version of conservative ideology. They believe in this sort of
something very different.
Something very different, this bigotry. So I think that was a correct.
You're going to call Florida?
But there is another side to that, which is what I think Drew was alluding to. There is an extreme.
We're way behind in Minnesota. We're not going to get it.
Which is engaged in a sort of revolutionary movement in this country right now. And unfortunately, the extreme left has mainstream power within the Democrat Party. I actually don't think that Antifa is the extreme left. I would compare them more to your bigoted right. They're more like the strangely bigoted left. The extreme left is the main.
Jones and AOC.
That's right, AOC.
America First.
They
AOC
want
bad.
to change
Although
the
her Among Us streams are pretty hilarious if you were watching the
They want to reframe. They want to reframe
after she
the
got
country.
marinated by toast.
By the way.
And because of that, it's very difficult for us to even engage on these sorts of issues. I mean, it's difficult for me to engage in these issues because I don't know what the hell any of you are talking about. You've all got about 20 IQ points on me each. But it's difficult to have these conversations with anyone because on the left, the extreme movement has actually all the power right now.
Quick update. Since we are doing election night, quick update. Joni Ernst is projected to win in Iowa. This means Republicans hold the Senate.
That's big.
Republicans are going to hold the Senate. Tom Tillis wins in North Carolina. That's being projected. Joni Ernst wins in Iowa. That's being projected. Cory Gardner loses in Colorado. Martha McSally loses in Arizona. Republicans win the seat in Alabama. It is extremely likely at this point that Republicans hold the Senate. Terrific. They would have to, in order to lose the Senate, they would have to lose both the Collins seat as well as the Dane seat in Montana.
Divided government is the best government unless we control everything. I want to get
also, by the way, Chip Roy did win his race in Texas.
Oh, fantastic.
Good news.
Nobody deserves to be in Congress less than Wendy Davis. Chip Roy, I mean, take him or leave him.
Pink sneakers.
It's always a binary choice.
That's right. Yeah. I want to give you a chance to respond to that, and then I actually have my own big news, which we're going to have to go to Cassie Dillon for, but it's going to be the most cathartic, enjoyable moment, I think, of the night. Since I don't think there's any chance they call it the election tonight.
For the 5 of us or the 4 of us? That's going to be enjoyable.
Oh, I think you'll like it.
All right. By the way, I am excited about divided government because I don't want either of these two potential presidents ramming through too much, but I don't even see anybody to take over from. With respect to the earlier issue, so you were saying that the
Trump's behind by 1%.
Move to the left. The left that doesn't. See, I don't want to call it the left.
The illiberal left.
I want to call it the group of people that don't believe in the law of the excluded middle and modus ponens. Right?
Well, that's catchy, yeah.
Yeah, it's like who are somehow experimenting with the
37
idea
seconds.
that consistency is a white supremacist.
They've said that family is a
Well, all of these
objective
showing
knowledge.
up on time and practicing the piano is a white because I don't know. It's beyond stupid. So
Law Biden wins. Sorry,
responding
sure
to
about
it
that.
because you can't even process what the argument is. Yeah, those people are in part. Somebody once said to me, you're not understanding, Eric. These people aren't making
13,
an error.
12,
It's
11,
asymmetric
10,
warfare.
9,
and this is what the
8,
powerless do, and they're
7,
confusing you with
5,
power.
Yep.
4.
And so, oh, okay,
4,
that's why
3,
A implies B
1,
and B implies C means that A implies a chicken.
Okay, here you go.
How did a chicken?
Any second now.
Damning refresh.
I'll
that
refresh it.
thing is really weird because you see, most of the people that I know
They're about to update.
don't use
Already starting.
that kind of thinking in their business. If you use that kind
This
of
was like the
thinking in
most
your business
interesting
will usually evaporate.
Correct.
If you use that on your
Are you
tax
getting
return,
stuff already?
you know, and you just
No.
turned in something in red crayon with lots of
Then
pictures
why did you
of
say it was
hearts
the
and
most
rainbows,
interesting one?
No
It's
one
the
would
final
know at the IRS
election
what
part.
you were doing.
That's why it's the most interesting one.
You can talk in these
So
crazy
obviously,
terms in political circles.
okay, that makes
What no
sense.
one knows is
Nevada
what this
hasn't
stuff
gotten
means.
anything.
But this is because I think of the divide.
Oh yeah, I
between the
was correct.
practical
So
and the
first
ethereal
result
on the
in
left. That almost
Alaska
everyone, I say
expected
almost
at
because I
1
think probably
a.m.
some of the radicals, the
For
true
you,
radicals,
it's
So
12.
we're not going to.
But most
12 a.m.
people
for
who are
me.
going to vote for Joe Biden tonight.
Yeah.
Most people, even who think that he should hack
First
the court.
result
Most people, even who
in-
think maybe Puerto Rico should be a state without a filibuster on a simple majority vote. They actually live their
4
day-to-day lives
electoral
in much more
votes.
conservative ways. They run their business like conservatives. They raise their children
Yep.
like conservatives. It's when they're asserting their values in the social
Ben
social
Shapiro
world
be
in which we
eating.
live.
But we did
Something
get
is
some for
happening in our
Arizona
culture
this time.
where you are a bad
Arizona
person
obviously
if
went
you
left.
if you
If
don't
you preach what you practice.
Well, but this is
Yes.
this is
That's
where
right.
the Harper's letter comes into.
We got a.
I
The
agree.
Harper's letter is
Why aren't we
really
getting
this
Nevada
very
yet?
weird story where you had a group
What?
of people
Why aren't we
Nevada?
getting
doing
Nevada
the
yet?
hiring in newsrooms.
I
let's
don't
say.
know. We're not going to win
Very
Nevada probably.
publication, various left.
Yeah,
No.
predictions go. We aren't
publications,
going to
and
Nevada.
they said, hey, you know what? To appeal
So
to the
what I'm
kids,
confused about is
let's get some of this
what's
woke stuff.
happening with
And
these new
What?
polls. We aren't getting
will go
Nevada
after
yet.
other people, and they
Yeah,
won't
we're
turn
not
on their
meant to get
masters
Nevada
because
yet.
Aren't we supposed to get
for a
something?
period of time.
I do
This,
not know.
We're supposed to get at least
idea
one
of,
state.
playing Tiger.
We
Why
got,
am
we got Arizona's
Uh,
final
and
ones.
then you keep feeding these
Oh, well,
tigers,
we're getting
and
poured
suddenly
it now.
they view their trainers as a source of protein. And,
about
and these people are saying,
Florida.
wait a minute, you can't come after us. You're supposed to go out and get them. And that's what the Harper's letter was all about. It's basically
They're
saying,
not going to update
hey,
Florida.
we may have goofed by
So long.
playing with this in order to get some buzz and some energy, and suddenly this isn't feeling that much fun.
But in the analogy, who's that bitch Carol Baskin? So I do want to share my extraordinary news. And it's not my
Just chilling with
extraordinary
the
news.
food.
It's actually the find of our very own Cassie Dillon, who is in
Let's
our
wait.
war room with something. It's just so...
I was about
mean,
to say,
prepare
let's wait
yourself
for the
with
war
a
room
nice
more.
leftist tears hot or cold tumbler for what you are about to behold.
This just gets interesting.
Well, I have an update for you. It seems that the left is starting to get a little bit anxious, especially over at
Young
the Young
Turks.
Turks. So I have a video for you that I think you will all enjoy. So let's watch it.
Okay, let's watch
Get
it.
out of the way. Both
Situation.
Jake Tapper and Nancy Pelosi and all those and every editor at the New York Times has to get out of our way.
You really
Let us
thought
hit the
so, man?
Republicans in
You
the
really
face
thought.
instead of playing patty cakes with them. How many elections are we going to get to a razor's edge with a monster idiot fascist like Donald Trump? One last thing. I swear to God, I'm going to go to Ida. But one last thing on this, guys. Forget him being a racist. Forget him being a fascist. The guy's IQ is lower than 70. He's an idiot.
What's the password?
He's a total moron. And you couldn't figure out how to crush him in an election? Man, the corporate Democrats and the mainstream media suck at this. They absolutely, positively suck.
L.
And they
Spam L.
brainwash smart people into compliance. But that's not what we do. Get out of the way. Both Jake Tapper and...
He's like 80% right.
You know, he looks like he's having a good time over there. Like I said, we are not in full meltdown mode right now. We are in lukewarm meltdown mode. So there's a few other things going on Twitter as well. A bunch of blue check marks are really getting nervous. One of them's talking about our entire Earth is on the line. You know this. We don't have 4 more years to gamble with. Another one is saying that you shouldn't be shocked. Half of America is racist. And then we have AOC, who said she's not going to comment on today's election results, but that she's seen this coming for a long time in the Latino community with going red, so she's also mad about Florida. And then Jimmy Kimmel said, this is like being awake during your own surgery. So it seems they're having some lukewarm meltdowns, but I will be here giving you guys updates if we have anything else interesting. So thank you.
It was, hang on, just 1 second. Just 1 second.
Nice little.
By the way, I do enjoy the, I do enjoy Cenk doing a takeoff on the electoral stupidity of losing an election to Donald Trump. I will just remind you that in 2020, he did run for Congress, right, in a special election.
2018.
In 2018. No, it was 2020.
Was it?
Because it was to replace Katie Hill after Katie Hill resigned. So special election.
You had to drop out.
And he
See you later,
came
Google.
fourth
Yeah, they aren't
in the
updating fucking Florida yet.
fourth
Or Ohio.
in the primaries. He won a grand total of
Trying to treat people that,
6.6%
oh,
of the
Biden's
vote.
won. No, he's not.
After, you'll recall,
Looks
Bernie
like he's
Sanders
winning.
endorsed
Yes,
him and then
that's his move,
unendorsed
not
him.
up indeed.
So, yeah, there is electoral genius Cenk Uygur really doing yeoman's work on behalf of...
I said that I thought you would enjoy it because how could you not enjoy it? I mean, this isn't a Cenk is not
Trump
a
wins
guy
Ohio,
who you're going to have conversations about how to remake the country into some sort of better left and better right. It's a guy who, well,
Here's some good
it's a
news.
guy who's a
Oregon,
bad guy.
where Portland is happening, Oregon has now decriminalized possession of all drugs, including coke, heroin, and meth.
About time.
All right.
About
Because
time.
they
Good
need,
times in
they
Oregon.
need some more drugs.
These DMT Reese's Pieces are.
And also
actually
breaking,
pro
Joe
leg-
Rogan has moved to Oregon.
He just turned his car around actually on the way to Texas.
And Ruben just said he was staying in California. Yes. Can we, how does decriminalization work, by the way? Did they just make it legal or did they just remove all the penalties?
They made it legal. Well, decriminalization means that you can get fined, I think.
Yeah. See, this is what decriminalization is the worst kind of soft tyranny because it leads to capriciousness in the government. If you're going to have a law, enforce the law. If we agree that the law is wrong,
I love how
then change
Illinois
the
is
law.
just
The
surrounded
worst
by
thing
a
is to
sea
say
of
we're going
red.
to have a law, but it doesn't matter very much because it erodes the entire idea of equal justice.
Almost,
right? It
Mark,
erodes the entire
almost.
idea of
What?
law.
Well, let's also
There's-
agree that
yeah, they're
the
basically
federal
surrounded by idea, right?
Schedule 1
But there's a blue
designation
right?
of controlled substances is being wildly misapplied. There's two criteria
Okay,
that
so
matter, one of which is that there's no medical value whatsoever, and then there has to be a high capacity for harm. And we have things on that
Arizona
list
still.
where neither of these things is true. And so there's also the question that
Going
you
for
have
3
to
hours
figure out
now.
how the law should be implemented once you've come up with a schema for it, and it's not even
So,
being implemented.
when's the
This
next
is- but I
update?
do want to get back to this issue about
Or are we done?
the idea
1
of what do you
a.m.
make of, let's say, Kamala
Why did it say
Harris
final
tweeting
one?
out this cartoon
Because
about
they're
equity versus
stupid.
equality, where she manages to drop the G on the end of gerunds and things in order to get a black vernacular sort of a feel to what she's doing.
You mean our African American, Indian, Jamaican candidate for vice president?
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. We used to say things like, you know, I am a licensed physician, or I am a physicist, and now you say, as a Peruvian of color, you know,
Please enlighten me. Yes.
that is the new designation of.
They're
whether
saying
you
there's a
have
lot of
something
voter
to say.
fraud in
Nobody
Pennsylvania.
quite knows
but-
what to make of
Couple
this
of years.
Pennsylvania is
mainstream
overwhelmingly
of
Trump right now.
incoherent,
Jumps up by like 15%.
beyond communism belief structures.
Actually,
So you know,
14.9.
coming from a background which had plenty of communists in it, the aphorism I always thought was from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. And despite the fact that that uses a third-person gendered pronoun, the other problem with it is, I can't believe you guys are laughing.
Well, we're insensitive, deeply. That's the way it works.
As I've known. The other problem with that is that it acknowledges that people have different abilities. And,
Right.
Right?
Texas
So the
ain't
idea
done
is
yet.
We're so far beyond communism,
Although
we
I
don't
think
even
it's
have
probably right.
language.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And you know, my feeling about this is I do think we're going to have to take care of people. The market is not doing a good job with distribution issues, and part of the problem is political economy gets plowed back into the situation, causing a positive feedback nightmare.
Yeah.
However, I think that what we have to do is we have to repudiate ideologies that do not compile. And the great benefit of far-left ideology is that because it doesn't make sense, it's very hard to argue with something that gives up on consistency at the outset. And you remember the principle of explosion says that in any intellectual system, if you allow a single contradiction, anything can be deduced. So largely, the left, who is beyond where any place I've ever been, is trying to smuggle one contradiction through airport security so that they can have everything on the other side.
Didn't they actually do that though with LGBTQ? Right. Once you lump transsexuals in with homosexuals. You've created your contradiction. If the entire argument for the last 40 years is that
biological sex is immutable, right?
Yes,
I'm born this way.
I'm born this way. Biological sex is immutable, and then you also say that within that same framework, gender is a social construct.
Yeah.
Haven't you baked that fundamental contradiction in?
No, there was a big headline that came out. This is a real headline came out last week that a woman realized she was a lesbian after her husband realized he was really a woman. So nothing has changed in their marriage at all, but they've both fundamentally changed their sexual preferences and identity.
So look,
hot man.
It's hot.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
I saw the picture. It was
great.
Sorry.
That's what you guys get off on.
I'm gonna show you, around the paths
there's a
here.
Bigger and better issue.
So
the fact that the
I'm
far
going
left
to-
can't play its cards properly doesn't mean that they don't have a point.
Going to open a few,
And
or
part of the problem
close a
is
few
that
useless
you
tabs.
guys have to steel man if you want to understand what's going on. So is there a difference? If I wear a lungi or a kilt, are you telling me that that is feminine, not in South Asia or Scotland, respectively? On the other hand,
You've
a
got
skirt
this.
is gendered.
You see
inside of
what's
the
happening? I
construct
can
of the United
change these
States.
as
So
I
you guys
desire,
even
see?
will admit
Right?
to the idea that there's some variability, that these things aren't set at the factory. There's nothing intrinsically masculine or feminine about the concept.
Sarf, are you
Yes.
seeing-
Right, but all
Okay.
of those cultures also
So if
recognize the difference
Virginia is
between
won
male
by
and
the
female government.
Democrats,
That's true, but on the other hand, you have
say
lots of
they could
situations,
win
for example,
Michigan,
the Ayatollah Khomeini
which
allowed
they
for
won't.
sex transitions in a fatwa.
But it
South
will
Oasis,
be,
you, I
so
think,
looks
have
like
5
Michigan.
identified genders.
So
Intersex
it would
is
be
the
more
one
common
thing
that they
which
win.
I always
Let's say
reach out to my
Pennsylvania
conservative
was the main
friends,
swing state.
which is
We could
you guys
lose
should-
Pennsylvania.
You should start steering on the basis of intersex.
That's
we have dudes
20.
who have
So,
uteruses.
let me check again quickly.
I always bring up persistent Mullerian duct syndrome.
Virginia
That's
is
an
still
actual
Trump, by the
biological
way.
syndrome.
That's
Look,
exactly
even
right.
if they
That's
win
not-
Alaska,
There's still biological reality.
Like an objective
Right? They
outside
win
viewer of the
Alaska.
situation could tell that
They
there was an
could,
objective thing
they
happening.
could
My point,
still
this is our opportunity
win
to come
Pennsylvania.
together, which is you have to
not gonna
recognize,
win
for example,
Pennsylvania,
that the
so I
third
take that
Exactly.
person singular pronouns
they're not
in
gonna
English
win
are
Alaska,
inflected
so I
for
take that
gender,
back.
unlike in
Yeah, I
some
know,
Now
but I'm
switch to
just
Virginia
saying.
They are
works.
not.
Make Virginia red.
So what you
Or
don't
light
do
red,
is you
though.
never
I
have the
can't.
third
They-
person
we can't?
singular and
Ah,
plural pronoun be the same.
This is
so
using
they
NBC.
is ridiculous.
Right.
On the
Why
other
have they
hand,
called
you can
Virginia
imagine a
blue when it's
one-time
red?
backwards
I don't know. It should be
incompatible change in the
undefined.
language as we did when we stopped inflecting
Like, seriously, what is
the
this
honorific for
huge
females
error?
with marital
But
status.
it is worth pointing out the OED does define he
There
as,
has
as
to be a
gender neutral
reason.
as well as gendered, and man the same way. In the beginning, God created man, both male and female. He created them, and then the women, WIMMIN, or however they spelled it in the 70s, took umbrage at this fact. But it did have it was understood in the English language.
It was
that-
understood, but it
let's
had
see.
a particular
Best
it had a
case
particular
scenario
bias.
right now, we
If you
managed
wanna
to
make
get back
fun of these people
Arizona,
for not making sense.
right? We get
That's not the
Minnesota,
place to
which
do
is
it. You can say,
possible.
look, there is a
We
version
get
of
back
this
Maine,
story
and
in
look
which
how fucked they
we
are.
have neglected people who
Best
don't
case
fall
scenario
neatly
for them.
into a sexual identification
They-
category, either in terms
they
of
get
who they're
Alaska.
attracted to or what they
No,
are.
the
Oh,
thing
Hawaii
that's
and
remarkable
Hawaii
is the
just got
statement
counted
that there
more.
is no such
It's
thing as a
blue.
biological dichotomy
Yeah,
between
who
male
would've
and
guessed?
female.
That's
That is
0%
remarkable on its face. And the
So
idea
let's
that,
think.
that,
Best
that,
case scenario,
that
they
sex
get
is so
Alaska.
malleable and gender is so
They
malleable, that a man being
get
fully
well.
biological
What's the
male
highest chance in
can
this case?
call himself a
PA
female,
is
and we are
not
all
gonna
supposed
happen
to
for
pretend
them.
that person is now a biological female. That's absurd on its face.
Wisconsin's
but,
probably
Ben,
the highest
even
for
there,
them.
And again, I don't want to reveal too much about our conversations.
North
but you and I have
Carolina,
talked
there
about
we
the
go.
fact
Yeah,
that
North
when you've
Carolina,
been
I was
faced with
about to
somebody
say.
who's
So
in a great
North
deal of distress over
Carolina,
your particular
If they get
comments
North
on
Carolina,
pronouns,
they still
win.
that you
Yeah.
take a compassionate
And
humanist view and you don't want to irritate
they wouldn't
that
be.
person.
They
Your
might
point
be able
has
to get
been
Iowa as
that
well.
I don't want to give up this
Yeah.
argument
And it would
if,
be a
if that's
tie.
what we're
They're not going to
discussing.
get
If
Iowa.
what
They're
we're
way
discussing
behind
is
in Iowa.
pronouns.
They're like
Public
they're-
public
Minnesota
treatment of
just
issues
got
is
counted, by the way.
that
War.
mercy
Just
is a
counted
part of
Minnesota.
human life. But that does not mean that
Minnesota.
the broad standard shouldn't be
Yep.
justice.
This
That's
is,
right.
yes,
Meaning
you
that-
slip from one point to another.
Please.
I've made the speech
Really, but you
that
still
you're
aren't going to
making right
fucking
now in
count
college.
You do it better.
call
So
Florida.
much better. I was brilliant. It was amazing. No, I mean, look, nature gender
Did
is
Minnesota
messy,
get updated?
and the dots that go with
No, it didn't.
masculinity, they generally
Yeah,
collect with
yeah, I
men.
thought
They
it
do
was
our
blue
split
already.
out in this weird way.
So let's
Everything
say
you're
they
saying-
managed to
everything you're
win
saying
Montana
is taking place
somehow.
within the context of male and female.
I don't
It's
know.
taking place within a
Just kinda,
context,
like,
a basic
calm me,
context,
maybe.
a norm. Let's call it what it is. It's a norm of male and
It comes
female.
out of nature.
They
And
still
I
don't
want to
win.
be able to, you
And
know,
they have
science is
Alaska
sort of an
and
absolute
Montana. They
defense.
still don't win.
You can't ask
Check.
me
Yeah.
to negate the science as a scientist when it
So-
contradicts
Let's say-
political
It's pretty much
ideology.
confirmed.
All I'm
Let's
trying
say
to
they win Florida.
is that we have
They
a
win,
lot
yes.
to do. that we
Let's
have
say,
done
let's
on
say they win
intersects
Texas.
and
They win,
Like,
yeah.
like they said, they
separating
might
women
win
from
Texas. They might win
sexuality.
Texas,
Just doing
guys.
it
Come on, guys.
in an intellectually rigorous
Have hope, guys.
and respectful fashion.
What about
And then
Illinois
we can
war?
get to this issue, for
They-
example,
oh,
of the
change.
umbrella category. The reason that trans is so controversial is like
Trump's
stroke.
gonna win.
Stroke,
I can
like, you
go
get strokes
to
from
bed.
clotting, and you can get strokes
Uh,
from having blood that's too thin.
Right.
So
We still
the
don't-
fact that you're
can't-
talking
yeah,
about
we
a
can
stroke
right?
doesn't give you enough
Well, we
information.
can't
You need extra
100% confirm,
information
but it would be like
because
a
Yeah,
one
because
term is
if any of our
overloaded.
states,
Well, the
There
trans
would have to be a
category is
miracle for
Yeah, I
Biden
mean,
to win now.
all of this is I think, interesting and worthy of conversation. The biggest problem is we keep coming back to is that literally these conversations are not
Probably just gonna
possible.
do some more.
They're not possible. I've
This
literally
is
had
the
these exact
2016.
conversations with people on the most popular left-wing podcast in America outside of the podcast and said we should do a crossover because there'll be huge numbers.
Yeah.
And the person I was speaking to, I won't
Everyone's
mention
begging
any
for the
names,
war room.
specifically said, your people would be fine with having that conversation publicly. My people would literally kill me.
Well, this-
That's where it
And
lies.
the-
I know that we have to do more election updates because I know this.
There is a presidential election on, and people are like in our chat room right now saying, "Stop talking about things that matter. All we want to know is what Cabot says is happening in the Rust Belt." So, Eric, thank you so much for being with us
thanks for
tonight. We're going to
stopping
see
by.
what Cabot has to say about the
Okay,
Rust
well,
Belt.
good luck to you all.
What does
Yeah,
Cabot
I'm
think
gonna
about
leave after this war room
intersexuality?
session.
What do they think in the Rust Belt?
I'm probably
about
going to stop after this
Cabot.
whole session. But we already
What
know.
do they think in the
Trump
Rust Belt
wins,
about
GG.
intersectionality? I don't know about that, but we do have some updates and kind of piggybacking on that AOC tweet. Unfortunately, she's not the only Democrat now that's using this talking point that we're not going to know who the winner is tonight, guys. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Yep, and I will say that my
Clowns.
bingo card, the last word I needed was the guys downstairs saying intersexuality. So I just got 5 in a row in bingo, so I'm
Sweet.
set. I'm
Good
sure
for
some
you.
other viewers are as well. There's a tweet coming out, to your point, from Bloomberg. There's a Bloomberg reporter. She says, according to sources in states, this is state officials she's referring to, Wisconsin says there's no way they are announcing a winner tonight. Michigan officials say they need until Friday. Pennsylvania said they aren't coming out anytime soon either. So if you had champagne ready on either side to expect to be able to celebrate tonight, you may want to hold your horses there. So to give a breakdown of what the numbers are in those states right now.
Yep.
Wisconsin, 72% reporting, President Trump holding strong, 52% to Biden's 46.6%. In Michigan, where there's 52% in, President Trump up 54.5 to Biden's 43.3. We're still waiting on a lot of results from Wayne County, so we're going to certainly expect that gap to be narrowed quite quickly. Pennsylvania, 55% in, President Trump up 56 to 41 in Pennsylvania with 55% in.
They're gonna call
Again, still waiting for a lot of results, so that gap will likely be narrowing. We've also had a lot of viewers commenting, asking about Virginia. They're saying why, Virginia was called so soon by Fox. No one else has called it since. President Trump has
What's
been
going on
leading
there?
throughout the night.
Yep.
What's going on? To answer those questions, we've talked to some people in Virginia, and from what we've been able to gather, the main holdup is Fairfax County. So this is a Northern Virginia county that is going about 3-1. Or about 75% of the county is going to Biden.
Okay.
And there are 400,000 uncounted votes in Fairfax County that
Let me
came
check.
in early. So if that same ratio holds up, if it's about 75 to 25 for Biden, that's where he's going to make up the gap that there is right now, because there is a gap. And President Trump's still holding strong in the betting market, something we've been touching on there. Where's the money going? Still going towards President Trump. And one more thing to add, New York Times prediction in Georgia had climbed all the way up into the 80% for Trump.
Yep.
It seems like he's losing a little momentum in Georgia. He's down
Okay.
to 62% of the New York Times prediction there. So still favored to win by the New York Times models, but it is starting to drop a little bit in Georgia.
And we earlier talked about the correlation between the Senate races and the presidential race.
Yeah.
What's happening in Iowa? Because that's a race where a lot of people are paying attention to. Is Joni Ernst going to be able to keep her seat?
It appears that she will. The last we checked, Joni Ernst was up about 4 points with 82% reporting. So it looks like Joni Ernst is going to retain her position in the Senate, which is huge for Republicans. Suzanne Collins also looking like she will be retaining her position based on the way that the election results are looking right now.
So where we stand now, guys, is it's looking like White House toss-up at this point. Might not, unfortunately, get an answer tonight.
And I have to throw this in there. There are plausible scenarios where there is a 269 to 269 tie.
Don't say it. It's 2020. It could happen, Cabin.
It's not going to take that much for it to happen
and
either.
it now could happen.
If the president wins Pennsylvania and a few other states, and Biden holds where he is right now, and then wins Minnesota and Michigan, we're at 269, 269.
Okay, and
Nah,
so
no Michigan.
White House undecided
Not
at this
yet.
point, could be a toss-up. It looks like Senate Republicans are going to hold.
It does look, based on the projections right now, if things go in the right direction, it's going to be likely around
Trump's
51
exactly 10%
to
ahead of
52 for
Michigan.
Republicans. But it's looking like worst case scenario right now is a 50-50 tie in the Senate.
So then the vice president would be.
Then the vice president would be presiding over any tied votes, which Vice President Pence, you can imagine him doing that. I'm already having terrifying images of Kamala Harris coming in, walking down the aisle straight up and letting everyone know that she's there to preside.
I'm sure she'd love that over her former colleagues. I could just see her like that really happy grin on her face.
I'm having trouble thinking about anything else besides that. Scaring me. We're going to stay on top of all the data, though, keep you up to date. But the big summary here right now is that according to Bloomberg reports, state officials are saying hold your horses. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, could be until Friday before we have all the results.
Okay, guys, we're going to keep seeing what members want to talk about. Thank you for that very detailed update. Once again, things that we have the context on the ground.
War.
And
They just
thank
call
you
it
guys for working
Ohio
So hard.
for
The war, we're going to get back to the war room, and then we will get you guys some more information as soon as possible.
They call Ohio.
So, Georgia is a mess.
Is that
They're
Google?
now saying that it could be tilting toward Biden again, so late votes coming in there. There's a lot of controversy over at Fox with some of the commentators. They're like Katie Pavlich, very angry at Fox for having called Arizona early, although the vote would have to come in very late and very heavy for Trump to still win Arizona.
It's the Daily
Minnesota has
Wire
been
or
called
what?
for Biden, which was
I'm
kind
tired.
of Trump's. That was his
I'm
wish.
going.
That was gonna be the
Alright,
one where
see
if
yas.
he won Minnesota in
Tomorrow
replacement for
morning is
Arizona,
going
for
to be
example, that would help him.
stress.
That leaves Nevada as the
probably
only
wake up
flippable
early.
state for Trump at this point.
Stress.
Iowa, the polls were dead right. So it looks, the one thing that I think we can bank on is that it looks very much like the Republicans hold the Senate. They actually pick up some seats in the House, and we will see where Trump is tomorrow or the day after is what that looks like.
Right.
So the good news is that the downside risk for Republicans just went down pretty significantly. Because President Biden with the Republican Senate and a less actually a less heavy House majority is a very different Joe Biden administration than Joe Biden with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House and no checks. And now, like,
well, it just means,
for example, the filibuster ain't gone.
Yeah.
Right? The filibuster sticks around. So
Filibuster ain't gone. No court packing. No new states. I mean, that's
a massive thing. And also, the next election cycle, 2022, very much favors Republicans. There are a lot of vulnerable Democrats in purple states in those elections. So that would
purple states.
Incredibly rare.
Felt like a long time
in a
ago.
president's first midterm that he picked up.
2018.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So Senate. So that's the good news. That's the good news. That is the good news from tonight. The good news from tonight is that Republicans look like they're going to walk away with the Senate. By the way, I didn't make any predictions on the air. Drew, I told you this was going to happen earlier today. Did I not?
You did. You
I
did.
I said that was going to happen. I said that people ask for predictions. Again, I have hesitated to make public predictions about the presidential race. I told you. I did say that. I did say that my gut was. I will say. It's hard to say this guy didn't say it publicly, but I did say that my gut was that Trump was that Biden was ahead narrowly on points, and that the Republicans would retain the Senate.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I did that. That was sort of my off-the-air prediction. So we'll see if that holds up. Obviously, I hope that I'm wrong about Trump. Losing Arizona is a major blow to his hopes because it means that he now has to win. He has to sweep Nebraska. That means Omaha, right? Well, Omaha is pretty blue.
Yeah.
Or it means that he has to pick up Wisconsin or Michigan, plus Pennsylvania. So he has to do really well there.
Should keep Michigan.
So that's
not sure
sort
about
of where things
Wisconsin.
stand. And we're not going to know anything the rest of the night. I mean, basically, we could call this thing if we wanted to, but we're not going to. We're going to keep
We're gonna call
going. We're going to keep going for the next 4 days. I am just joking. We're not going anywhere, guys. Ever. For the rest of time.
So may I make a cultural comment here for a moment?
Absolutely not. We got to talk about Nebraska.
Sorry.
All right, thanks for watching, guys.
I
Hope you
have
guys
to say,
enjoyed.
the thing that's